During the time when Koreans were still fighting to dismantle the Green Belt, one family lived a very orderly and religious life. The mother in the family often brought flowers to church and smiled as she watched her daughter Leon playing the piano nearby. Everyone in the neighborhood knew of the girl's intelligence and gentle nature, but Lee Dong-zich's older brother was always being compared. Because even though he was older than his sister, he couldn't seem to grow up. While his mother was anxiously calling him repeatedly, he was still busy playing the guitar at a cafe, which even the owner, Bang Do-sun, found unbearable, so she quickly turned off the music and chased Dong-zich away, even dragging his sister into the comparison. At first, Dong-zich was furious and went to demand an explanation, but he restrained himself when the shop owner mentioned his father. Before leaving, Dong-zich hinted to the shop owner that he would see her again later. That night, Do anxiously texted her brother asking when he would be home, but he replied that he didn't want to come home and asked Ron to go out with him, so she didn't suspect anything and went to meet her brother. While walking, the street lights suddenly flickered strangely, so Juan ran as fast as he could into the pitch-black darkness ahead. At dawn the next day, on the deserted beach, the body of the owner of the Bang Do-sun Inn appeared, brutally murdered and bound. Even her fingers had been completely severed. At this time, Dong-zich's mother was still leisurely going outside to get the newspaper in the morning and couldn't help but panic when she saw her daughter's 10 fingertips. As soon as the police arrived at the school to cordon off the scene and conduct an investigation, Dong-zich's familiar guitar pick was also found near the body, so the police immediately went to the house to arrest Dong-zich urgently, despite his desperate cries that he was innocent and had done nothing wrong. Then, the police forced Dong-zich to reenact the crime scene and claimed that the boy had cut off his sister's 10 fingers just like he had done to the bar owner at the Reed Beach, so he could only look at the model fingers in pain and say these weren't Ron's fingers. Her fingernails were dyed with phoenix flower patterns. Dong-zich's parents also appeared, shouting and crying, calling for their son, so Dong-zich also shouted along, saying that he was innocent and that he would never kill his own sister. Time passed quickly, and 20 years later, Dong-zich had grown up and was now a prominent figure in his hometown. While he was busy preparing to go to work, a young man was driving his car to this town of the fading ages and silently looking at the banners searching for missing people. Meanwhile, Dong-zich had to deal with a fight between some aunties due to gambling disputes. Despite his patience and attempts to reason with them, the aunties still grabbed him and started arguing fiercely. His subordinates tried to intervene, but Dong-zich signaled that it wasn't necessary, so they quickly called the station to report that Dong-zich was about to lose his temper, leaving everyone speechless. Dong-zich shouted loudly to tell the aunts to be quiet and suggested taking them all to the police station to be punished once and for all. So, even though they didn't want to, the aunts had to go to the station and argue with the police officers. One of them was the husband of one of the aunts, so he begged Dong-zich to let them off this time. However, Dong-zich coldly disagreed and even threatened to punish his teammate for covering up. After hearing this, he also became furious, and the others had to restrain him. In that chaotic situation, the young man calmly walked into the station amidst everyone's astonishment and said, "It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been transferred to work at Jung Station. I am Lieutenant Hansugen." After introducing himself, he went into Station Chief Nam's office to hand over his duties. Station Chief Nam was busy looking for documents, thinking the ministry was joking about sending someone down here. While the two of them were chatting in the office, outside everyone was whispering and gossiping about his identity, as he was the son of the Deputy Minister of the Police and the future Minister of the Police. After hearing this, Dong-zich stopped typing and smiled meaningfully. A little later, as Juan was leaving the office, he saw a father reporting his son missing. While the police officers kept saying the son had run away from home and refused to accept the case, Dong-zich appeared and agreed to take on the father's case. After talking for a while, the father also got annoyed and wanted to report the case elsewhere. So Dong-zich calmly said that no matter which police station or office he went to, his son, or even his daughter, would not be considered missing, according to Article 2 of the Law on Protection and Support of Missing Children. In the case of a missing person who is under 18, has intellectual disability, autism, mental illness, or amnesia, a missing person report will be filed immediately. We will have to decide whether or not to investigate. This is the only law regarding reporting missing persons in Korea. Does your son meet any of the above conditions? Even if your son is truly missing, according to Korean law, it is still considered running away from home. After hearing this, the father stood there helplessly, unable to say anything more. Do-go nodded in agreement before turning around and leaving. That night, while waiting at a red light, Dong-zich suddenly felt a sharp pain, so he quickly took out his medicine box and swallowed a few pills. At that moment, Rugo was also waiting at the red light on the other side of the road and saw Dong-zich. He silently praised Dong-zich for his adherence to the rules and sped off, unaware that Dong-zich remembered the license plate number perfectly and thought Do-go's car was very distinctive. A little later, at the butcher shop in town, the shop owner was busy sharpening knives to prepare the meat. After she finished, she brought it to the restaurant to treat Dong-zich's group of friends. Among his close friends was a man named Park Dang-der, who was in charge of archiving records, and another man named Oh Do-wei HOA, who worked in the serious crime unit. She is also the older sister of the subordinate who always accompanies Dong-zich. The group started chatting happily about Dong-zich's arrest of the aunties. Then the conversation shifted to the young lieutenant who had just joined the station. Apparently, his father is the deputy minister of the police department named Han Di-hone, and he is also the former police chief who issued the statement to investigate the disappearance of Dongzich's sister. Up until now, Vice Minister Han has been close to achieving his goal of becoming a minister, so he is very careful in arranging his son's position and reminds Dugald to just sit still and do nothing. Although unwilling, Dugald has no choice but to obey his father. The next day, as soon as Dongzich arrived at the station, he saw Dugald's car also arriving. He complimented the car and extended his hand to greet him. But Dugald not only didn't reciprocate but also coldly said he didn't have the habit of shaking hands with others and walked away. This left Dongzich with nothing but a sarcastic smile at this young master. Then the male police chief started a meeting to redivide the groups. Everyone volunteered to be Gold's teammate except Dongzich. So after some thought, the male police chief decided to pair Dongzich and Dugald together so that the whole team could become closer later. Although unwilling, they had no choice but to accept. Then he had to patrol around town with Dongzich. While Dongzich was driving, Juan focused on wiping every nook and cranny of the car and asked if driving was also graded. Dongzich retorted sarcastically, "Do you want to put your hands on this filthy steering wheel? I bet Lieutenant Han doesn't drive very carefully either. On your first day here, you stepped on the gas pedal as soon as the traffic light turned green, didn't you? There are a lot of elderly people in this area. If a fatal accident happens, I'll be implicated too." Hearing this, Dugald started to argue that it wasn't true, so Dongzich stopped the car and said cryptically that a few days ago, around 7 o'clock in the evening at the first crosswalk from the Mahjong police station, I looked at your license plate and memorized it. You must have seen me crossing the road. Do you want me to check the security camera footage? Seeing Dugan remain silent, Dongzich continued, "Be careful, Lieutenant Han, there's nothing secret here, there's always someone watching you somewhere." After saying that, Dongzich smirked meaningfully, then took out his phone to listen to a crime report under Dugan's suspicious gaze, because this is the first time I've seen someone receive a case using a personal phone instead of a walkie-talkie. While the police officer was still questioning, Dongzich started the car and drove straight to the reed field. After arriving, Dongzich got out of the car and told Juan that the person we need to find is named Bang Ho Tron. He is a 74-year-old man suffering from senile dementia. He's probably in the middle of the reeds and might have fainted somewhere around here. Let's split up and search in 2 different directions. After hearing this, Juan immediately demanded to check the security cameras. So Dongzich laughed sarcastically because this was a development waiting area. In the end, Dugan had no choice but to split up and search. While walking, he stepped into a puddle of mud, making his mood even worse. However, Gold continued to search further and almost got lost. But luckily, Dongzich appeared in time to pull him out. After that, Dongzich continued searching around and found Mr. Bang standing looking into the distance, even saying he was waiting for his youngest daughter to come home. While Dongzich gently approached to take him home, Goldo loudly introduced himself as a police officer, causing Mr. Bang to flee in fear. At that moment, Dongzich had to quickly chase after him, hug Mr. Bang tightly, and ask Doug Gold to hold his legs. Although afraid of getting dirty, Dugan had to try his best to comply. Thanks to that, Mr. Bang calmed down and was taken home. Afterwards, Dongzich also told his daughter that he would buy a new lock. Gold, however, was annoyed and asked her not to call the police using her personal phone, so Dongzich had to quickly reassure her that there was nothing wrong and tell her to go inside. Go, on the other hand, was increasingly confused as to why Dongzich was acting as if he had been cornered. A little later, both of them returned to the station to wash up. While Dongzich comfortably walked out of the bathroom, Goldo sat scrubbing his shoes instead of taking a shower. When the male station chief curiously asked Goldo if he had any friends, he bluntly said he didn't have anyone, because everyone approaches him for personal gain or some other purpose. That's why Dugan hates him and doesn't want to befriend anyone. Just as he finished speaking, Dongzich interrupted, saying that people befriend him for their own self-interest. He wondered if people were that simple. What did he have that made him think he was the center of the universe? While they were talking, his junior offered him some water, but he flatly refused because he didn't want to share anything. When everyone laughed and teased him, saying that the police were afraid of dirt, Duo firmly said that he wasn't, because he just didn't like unhygienic things. After hearing this, the police chief sarcastically replied, "Luckily, I was planning to cancel the party today because you said you were afraid of dirt. That butcher shop is very clean, so don't worry." That evening, Gold parked his car in front of the butcher shop, hesitating whether to go in or not. He was about to text the police chief that he was busy and couldn't attend when the butcher shop owner knocked on his car door and asked Gold to park in the back lot. In the end, Gold had no choice but to attend the party. He was introduced by the police chief to Dongzich's group of friends, along with the owner of the grocery store named Kang Jinmo. A moment later, Dugan quickly left the shop to go home, but quickly stopped when she saw Dongzich preparing meat and asked, "You still haven't answered my question earlier. What weakness did she have that made him so obedient?" Dongzich pondered for a moment and then replied, "I killed someone. I killed the youngest daughter of that family." When Gold seriously asked him how he killed her, Dongzich laughed and said, "I was just joking. Did you really think I killed someone? No wonder no one wants to be friends with you, but it's okay because I like you. Now hurry up and go home before the police chief finds out." After hearing this, Dugo quickly turned around and left, while Dongzich looked after him meaningfully. Later, Dugo went to see Prosecutor Kwan Hock, his father's trusted right-hand man, to review the forensic documents regarding the 20-year-old finger-cutting case. While he was intently reviewing the documents, Prosecutor Kwan Hock kept rambling on about finding a future wife and wanted his father's opinion, not his own. Prosecutor Han Kil was very grateful for Deputy Minister Han Kil's help, so he always did his assigned duties well. Since entering Dugald's house as a tutor in the past, Dugald didn't want to sit and listen anymore, so he stood up and left. Prosecutor Jun held his hand and said, "Finish this first, then bring it to me, then I'll give you a hand." As soon as he finished speaking, he pushed his hand away and left, muttering to himself that he didn't know who was actually helping. After returning home, Du received a message from his father reminding him to sit still and not cause any trouble or disturb him. After reading the message, Du threw his phone aside and took the documents to the secret storage room behind the wardrobe. The entire archive is filled with documents related to the old finger-cutting case. It turns out that 9 months ago, Jugan brought up that case again to restart the investigation. During the meeting, he told his colleagues that this was a photo of Lee Dong-zich when he was appointed in 2007. When he was 20 years old, his twin sister, Lon, was reported missing with 10 severed fingers left in the front yard of their house. Also that morning at Baiser, the body of Bang Du-sun was found. Everyone can see that the method of committing the crimes we are investigating is very similar to the above cases. And now Lee Dong-zich is working as a police officer at Manjung Station. As soon as he finished speaking, the inspectors started talking amongst themselves because they knew Dong-zich. It turns out he used to be a lieutenant in the regional investigation team, even nicknamed the Madman because of his eccentric behavior. Because he couldn't explain why his partner died, the whole team was disbanded, and Dong-zich was executed. After hearing this, Dugald continued to say that in the murder of Bang Du-sun and the kidnapping of Lee Juan 20 years ago, he was the main suspect. While Jugan was reminiscing about his time in the Foreign Affairs Department, Dong-zich was in the basement getting new Zeto tape for the search for his missing sister. The next morning, Jugan was waiting at a red light when he saw Dong-zich's group busy changing the Zeto tape, but he just silently observed and then drove away. Immediately afterwards, while Dong-zich was still looking on suspiciously, he received a phone call reporting that Mr. Bang had escaped again, so he immediately asked his subordinates to follow him to search for Mr. Bang. At this time, Juan had just arrived at the police station and was assigned by Station Chief Nam to go search for Mr. Bang with Dong-zich's group. Although he didn't want his shoes to get dirty at all, he had no choice but to comply. By the time they arrived at the beach, it was already dark. He got out of the car and went straight inside to search, and couldn't help but feel annoyed when he saw that his shoes were covered in mud. While walking around shining his flashlight, Dugald was startled to see Dong-zich standing next to him. When Dong-zich learned that Rug Goldo had been brought here by the police chief, he reminded him to stay close and not get in the way. Then he continued shining his flashlight around to search for Mr. Bang. While they were searching, they heard a desperate scream from their subordinate, so Dong-zich shouted loudly, asking him to shine his flashlight into the sky as a signal. As soon as he saw it, Dong-zich ran to his subordinate to see what was wrong and was astonished to see a body buried right in front of him. He bent down and shone his flashlight on the clasped hands of the corpse. Rug also ran over and saw this scene. He recoiled in fear when he saw the familiar ring on the corpse's finger, which only increased Dong-zich's suspicion. He immediately ordered his subordinates to wait in the car, then grabbed the woman by the collar and asked, "You know who this woman is, right?" Dugan retorted, "Not to be outdone. How can you tell it's a woman just by looking at the skeleton? Let go of me and answer me." Dong-zich immediately let go and urged Dugald to report that they had just found an unidentified body. Dugald, however, remained suspicious of Dong-zich and said, "I want to ask you something. Lee Juan, your sister, you didn't really kill her, did you?" After hearing the question, Dong-zich approached Dugald and gave a sinister smile. A little later, the police also arrived at the scene after receiving the report. And according to the forensic doctor, the body's legs were wrapped up and buried in the ground as a symbol of worship. While everyone was busy investigating outside the scene, Dong-zich and Juan were still sitting comfortably in the interrogation room because they wanted to give a clear statement to Than Tra together. DIHOA was also the one taking the statements and couldn't help but feel frustrated seeing this couple so idle that they dragged themselves here, while all they had to do was submit a report. After talking to Luyan Thuyan for a while and concluding that the two were not involved, Dong-zich stood up and left. Rugo followed behind. As soon as they got outside, both of them were scolded by Station Chief Nam for daring to do something pointless and going into the interrogation room on their own. He also said that he had found Mr. Bang and brought him home. As for his subordinate, he had given him tranquilizers and put him to sleep. Hearing this, Dong-zich felt more relieved that everyone was fine. Station Chief Nam then invited both of them to have dinner with him. When we arrived at the shop, the owner greeted us warmly upon seeing Station Chief Nam. She talked a lot about the body recently found at the Reed Beach. She even claimed the body was that of a girl who had gone missing 20 years ago and that her brother was the culprit in the case. The owner was about to say more, but Station Chief Nam quickly stopped her. Dong-zich calmly asked for another bowl and claimed to be the brother of the missing girl. Hearing this, the landlady ran into the kitchen to make another bowl for Dong-zich. The police chief didn't want to stay any longer, so he got up and left. Only Dong-zich sat there and ate Dugan's bowl, and I thought Dugan was very happy to witness this scene. Dugan replied that he told his colleagues that they should stick together and never leave each other's side, so he was just doing what he should do. After hearing this, Dong-zich could only smile sarcastically and continue eating. The next day, Dong-zich went to the hospital to visit his mother, who was bedridden due to a stroke. He was diligently wiping his mother's hands with a towel when Jin Mo stopped him, wanting to do it himself instead. Seeing Jin Mo so attentive and caring towards his mother, Dongzich couldn't help but feel annoyed because he always only thought of others. Jin Mo was grateful to Dongzich's parents because it was thanks to them that he was able to open his convenience store. Besides, he had nothing to do in his free time, so he stopped by. When Dongzich asked about Jin Mo's daughter, Minute, he remained silent. So Dongzich understood that the stubborn girl was still making excuses not to come home. So Dongzich went outside to call Minute Dung. But the other end of the line was unreachable, so he left a voicemail warning her to come home immediately. Meanwhile, Councillor Dowan was going crazy after hearing that the body had been discovered because the town was achieving the title of 20 years crime-free. But Dongzich played another trick, making the situation even more chaotic. While his mother worried about losing her title, Dungda remained calm as if nothing had happened. When Councillor Du curiously asked if the body was Dongzich's sister, because he heard that the body had 10 fingers chopped off, Dung Duwei jokingly replied that how could a head of the records department like him know about the serious crime unit's case? The forensic team prioritized processing the body, but because there were no fingerprints, it would take a long time. Even if the fingertips were intact, it would still be the same since only the skeleton remains. If you want to think that the body has been dead for about 20 years, you can also assume it's Lois' body. This means that no murder has occurred in the past 20 years, so your title can still be preserved. After saying that, Dung Ju happily spun her chair around like a child. The councillor then approached, stopped his chair, and said, "How can you still laugh at this hour?" So Dung Ju smiled brightly and replied, "It was Mom who told me to laugh and live freely." That's what Mom said. At the same time, the female inspector from the Serious Crime Unit was listening to the forensic doctor analyze the unusual features on the victim's body. According to her, the victim was wearing a pair of designer high heels from this year's autumn-winter collection, which had just been released and sold out. The footprints on the shoes matched the predicted bone structure, so these high heels must definitely belong to the victim. She knows the victim's feet were wrapped in black plastic bags, right? But the inside of the bags is very clean and there isn't a single speck of dust. This proves that before wrapping the feet in the bag, the killer had cleaned both shoes and wrapped them carefully so that no dirt or sand could get in. Not only that, but they were also tied with a beautiful bow like a precious gift. This killer is truly a real madman. The next day, Dongzich drove around the town with Jugan again. While driving, Dongzich suddenly stopped the car in the middle of the road and got out to run to a young man sitting in the rain. As soon as he touched him, the boy screamed in fear and trembled, so Dongzich understood and spoke gently, then took off his own shoes to give to him. Dugold also realized that this boy had a mental disability, so he helped Dongzich into the police car. But as soon as he heard the word police, he struggled and refused to get in, so Dongzich had to gently reassure him, borrow the phone from his neck, give it to Dugold, and ask him to dial 1 to call his family. He then pressed the call button while opening the trunk of his car to get an umbrella and rubber sandals. He then gave them to Dongzich and said he would run to the shop across the street to buy a raincoat and hand warmers. Before Dongzich could reply, Dugold had already run off, so he opened his umbrella to shield the boy and smiled kindly as he watched him play, even though his own feet were getting soaked because he wasn't wearing shoes. Rugo, after returning from shopping, was also stunned to see this scene and confused, not knowing what kind of person Dongzich really was. That night, Dongzich's group began discussing the case from 20 years ago and the recently discovered body. Some believed that the murderer from the past had returned. Others thought someone was imitating the murderer's methods. After talking for a while, Dongzich concluded that they needed to know the victim's identity, so now they could only wait for the results from the Forensic Institute. At the same time, Deputy Minister Han learned that Juan was the one who found the body, so he went to see his son and said, "You knew the location of the body beforehand, that's why you went there to help?" It was just a coincidence. After hearing this, Juan replied, "Of course it was just a coincidence. Do you really think I was the one who did it? But maybe it's true, isn't it? I used that girl as bait. I set a trap for the criminal without permission from my superiors. I used that girl as bait, but she suddenly disappeared. I was afraid that setting a trap to catch the criminal might cause problems, so I killed her and cut off her 10 fingertips, wrapped her feet tightly, and buried them underground. I exactly recreated the case from 20 years ago that the chief of the Monju Police Department suddenly closed." "Why did you close the case back then?" Deputy Minister Han just sneered and said, "You said you recreated a case from 20 years ago. That's a pretty good idea. The Forensic Institute, no matter how hard it tries, cannot identify the body. Just conclude that it's a crime of impersonation and consider it an unsolved case. Close the case early, and no one will know who the body is, and no one will know who she met before she died. Just keep quiet. You learn faster than anyone, so you understand this time, right? Just sit still and do nothing, and no incident will happen. Therefore, don't do anything and just stay put. If her identity is revealed, your father and I will be ruined. This is not a request, but an order." After hearing this, Duo remained silent on the surface. But the next day, he immediately went to see Dung Jae to inquire about the case file of Dongzich's sister from 20 years ago. After much beating around the bush, Dung Jae finally revealed where the file was, so they went into the dusty archives to search. When they found Lai Juan's file, they only found a single sheet of information, so Dugold continued searching for Du Sun's file. And when they found it, they only had the first page, which was a resume. He immediately brought it to Dung De to ask because all the files had been lost. Dungda also brushed it off, saying that due to frequent transfers, the documents were likely lost during transport or in some fire. Not only that, but there were also a constant pile of new cases, so he didn't know when he would be able to sort them all out. Seeing that Do Gold was still stubbornly insisting on asking him to find the culprit, Dungda bluntly told him, "Don't you understand what it means for a case to remain unsolved for 20 years? It means there's no evidence to identify the perpetrator. If the perpetrator doesn't come forward and confess to the crime, there will never be a solution. No police officer in the Republic of Korea would prioritize such cases." Juwon started getting furious, mentioning Dongzich's name and saying that this case was so important because it involved Dongzich's sister. After hearing this, Dungda was speechless and didn't know what else to say. Meanwhile, Jugan went outside to review the case file photos and learned that the person in charge of both cases was Station Chief Nam Sang-bae. It turns out that's why he stopped the talkative shop owner from continuing. While I was thinking, the police chief called to ask what Do Gold was doing at the archives. So I immediately went back to the station to talk to him and said, "At the place where I and Dongzich discovered the body a few days ago, we found a female body 20 years ago, right? The victim's name was Bang Do-sun, the suspect was Lee Dongzich, and the police officer in charge of the investigation was a man. The man he arrested 20 years ago is now his subordinate." Why did he interrupt the owner of the beef bone soup shop while she was speaking? Station Chief Nam began to speak seriously and replied, "I don't know what your intentions are for moving here, but stay put. Do you think I do everything because I love Dongzich? Do you think that's why I'm preventing you from finding out the truth about the evil man? You're mistaken because I don't like Dongzich at all and just want to get rid of him. Dongzich is not normal at all. He received a report about the senile old man via his personal phone and went searching everywhere. Yesterday, he also stood waiting for the guardian of the mentally disabled boy for 6 hours on a street, wearing only rubber boots and just stood there waiting. Even though he knew the body found might be his missing sister, did Dongzich do it out of dedication to his profession? No, it wasn't. He was just venting his resentment. His sister went missing and left behind 10 fingers. The father believed his missing daughter would soon return, so every day he would go to the intersection and wait from morning till night. And then one day he froze to death in the middle of winter. After discovering that her husband had frozen to death, his mother also lost her mind from then on. Even when the whole family was in that state, he still didn't return because the people here never forgot that he was a suspect in the case. That's why he couldn't stay here. I've already told you that, so don't dig any deeper. Knowing little but being overly enthusiastic will only lead to destruction. That night, Dongzich waited in front of the regional investigation team's building. While deep in thought, he suddenly felt a sharp pain and had to take medicine immediately. Just after taking the medicine, his old teammate arrived, and then the two went to eat together. We were having dinner together and my old colleagues were talking about how the people in the Foreign Affairs Department were keeping their mouths shut like clams, the Serious Crime Unit, the Women's and Youth Unit, and the entire regional investigation team were all being scrutinized, and only the Foreign Affairs Department was investigating something. Then suddenly, the young master of the Foreign Affairs Department, the one with the biggest connections, transferred to Jung Police Station, and now he's your colleague. The Foreign Affairs Department is dealing with illegal residents. At first glance, it seems like they're doing their job, but in reality, they're investigating a serial murder case targeting women. While Dongzich is gathering information from his former colleagues, Juwon is at home posting information about the unfortunate girl on a bulletin board because she is the 6th victim of that killer. While deep in thought, Deputy Minister Han called to scold him for causing trouble again and letting the regional investigation team sniff him out. Not wanting to hear any more scolding, Juwon hung up and muttered to himself, Lee Dongzich, the former lieutenant of the regional investigation team, caused trouble and was fired, but he still has acquaintances. Meanwhile, Dongzich visited his mother at the hospital and saw Jin Mok there. He was still diligently taking care of Dongzich's mother every day. And when his daughter Minadung was mentioned, he became silent. So Dongzich understood that she still hadn't come home. He went outside to call DAHOA to ask for her help. He also informed her that he knew the results of the forensic examination because the body that was found could not be identified. After saying that, Dongzich asked DAHOA to help him find Minadung's phone location. At the same time, the younger guy, who was sitting sadly at the meat restaurant with the owner, received a message from Dongzich about Minadung's photos at a nightclub. While he was still confused, Dongzich called and said he had a job for him. Call your old friends and find all the places in the picture for me. A little later, Dongzich went into a bar to find Minun. He even climbed onto the stage where the DJ was playing music and used the microphone to introduce himself as a police officer and demanded that Minun show himself quickly or he would get beaten up. While speaking, he saw a suspicious guy trying to escape, so Dongzich immediately told him to stop. As expected, the suspect knew where Minadung was. After covering the girl with a jacket, Dongzich went over and warned the man, causing him to run away as fast as he could. Afterward, Dongzich picked up Minadung and left the bar. The next morning, everyone at the Manjung police station was having a headache because Minadung was drunk and talking nonsense. Do Gold had just arrived at work and the girl complimented him on his handsome looks. Go, however, wondered why he had to be handcuffed like that. It wasn't until he heard his teammates say that Dongzich had gone all the way to Seoul to bring Minadung back and that she had tried to escape 3 times that morning that he understood and didn't ask any more questions. After that, he had to go on patrol with his junior, because Dongzich had to stay at the station until Minadung sobered up. When Duo was curious as to why Dongzich went all the way to Seoul to bring back the neighbor's daughter, the younger guy explained that to Dongzich, the girl was more than just the neighbor's daughter. Jinmo was an orphan, so Dongzich's parents raised him like their own son. After saying that, the younger guy turned the car around and drove to Jinmo's house, saying that was Jinmo's Jiangman grocery store. That store was found and rented for him by Dongzich's parents. While he was talking, Jinmo hurriedly ran to the police car. But when he saw that Dongzich wasn't there, he apologized. The younger guy explained that Dongzich was busy today and didn't mention at all that he had found Minute Dong drunk. After Jin left, the junior said, "If we had told him, we wouldn't have had to go to Seoul to arrest Minute Dong and handcuff her at the police station. If he knew his daughter didn't come home because she got drunk and passed out at a nightclub, he would be the next one to faint." Did you notice how he avoided eye contact? He's kind and weak, so he raised his daughter alone, crying all by himself, because Minute Dong's mother left home right after giving birth to her. Even though 20 years have passed, Jin Moke still can't forget her. He always keeps a picture of his runaway wife in his wallet like an idiot. And for this family, Dongzich is like both mother and father. After hearing this, Duo also fell silent and didn't say anything more. Meanwhile, Dongzich was busy looking after the stubborn little girl Minute Dong. After giving her water, he reminded her to brush her nails before going home. Minute Dong hurriedly charged her phone and unlocked it in front of Dongzich, then lay down and went back to sleep because she wasn't fully awake yet. Dongzich covered her legs with a blanket before leaving the room so Minute Dong could sleep a little longer. That evening, while everyone at the station was busy watching the news on TV, Minute Dong secretly escaped without anyone knowing. After watching the news, everyone stood up to prepare to leave. Dugan stood in front of Dongzich and said that Minute Dong had dropped something. As soon as he finished speaking, both of them looked towards the key that had fallen on the floor. Then Dongzich called Minute Dong to ask where she was. When Minute Dong lied about successfully sneaking into the house, Dongzich saw through her lie because she didn't have a key to get in. While talking, Minute Dong saw someone right in front of her, so she immediately smiled brightly. Meanwhile, Dongzich's mood was unstable due to constant worry, but he still went to the meat restaurant to drink with everyone. Because he couldn't swallow the meat, Dongzich shared the grilling with Jinmo. Seeing this, everyone wanted to invite Minute Dong to eat with them, but Jinmo quickly stopped him, saying that the girl was very tired from staying up all night doing homework. While they were grilling, the owner came out to take over, so Dongzich had to return to the table and stand in silent remembrance with everyone for the unfortunate, unidentified body that was discovered a few days earlier. After the memorial service, the whole group shouted with determination that they would catch the culprit, then raise their glasses and clink them together. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Dongzich returned home. As soon as he opened the door and stepped inside, he saw Dungda sitting on the stairs waiting. Dongzich went straight up the stairs, and Dungda followed him, expressing his desire to sleep there for the night and asking for a fireplace. When Dungda stood up to go down to the basement to look for the fireplace, Dongzich quickly stopped him. So Dungda bluntly asked, "Are there the case files of your sister and the Doosan gang in the basement? You're the one who took them, right? Just tell me everything because we are friends." Seeing Dongzich openly denying it, Dungda didn't ask any further questions and decided to leave. Dongzich gave one last piece of advice and told Dungda to be careful on her way home. Before leaving, Dungda turned back and said, "The person who discovered the missing file wasn't me, but Lieutenant Hanzugen." Having said that, Dungda turned and left, while Dongzich silently observed through the window. After Dungda left, he went down to the basement and into the room where case files from 20 years ago were posted on the wall, as well as missing person flyers. Early the next morning, Dongzich decided to go out and saw Dugold's car parked waiting. Dugold also felt a chill down his spine, so he got out of the car and approached, lying that he was just driving around to get acquainted with the town. Hearing this, Dongzich replied, "I'm also assigned to this area, so let me lead you around." Han is really lucky. He'll probably be back at his old unit soon. He's already here early in the morning to get to work. Just leave your car here and follow me. Let's take a good look at the area we are in charge of. So there was no other way but to follow Dongzich. Dongzich was walking and introducing the road and houses around, but quickly stopped when he heard Jug Goldo say he would buy land and move here. Dongzich thought for a moment and then approached and said, "What is it about me that you like so much? Surely not as police officer Lai Dongzich, but as suspect Lai Dongzich, right?" Dugold refused to back down and retorted, "So what do you like about me? Clearly, you're insanely curious about what I do in the Foreign Affairs Department, aren't you?" After hearing this, Dongzich smiled with amusement. But that smile quickly faded when he saw what was in front of him. Disbelieving his eyes, Dongzich took a step closer. Dugold, curious, followed behind and was startled. When he saw 10 fingers arranged on the table in front of the convenience store, he was about to call to report the news when he stopped abruptly. He saw Dongzich standing there sobbing and calling Minute Dong's name. At this point, Dugold looked more closely and realized these were the fingers of the drunk girl from before. Immediately after Minung's fingers were discovered, the police force began to surround the scene to investigate. Jinmoke sat in the convenience store like a man possessed, then hugged the police chief and burst into tears, unable to believe the truth. The junior officer refused to answer the calls from the reporters. Dugold was sitting at home pondering who the real culprit was, and the person he suspected most was still Dongzich. Meanwhile, Dongzich was still sitting dejectedly in the basement and decided to take down all the old case files from the wall. Then he went to the archives to meet Dungda and asked Dungda not to be curious. Just pretend you never saw or knew anything. Unable to restrain herself, Dungda went in and directly asked Dongzich if he had killed Minute Dung, completely unaware that Jugan was secretly standing outside eavesdropping. Just as Dongzich smiled and approached to say something, Jugan's phone rang because someone was calling. He quickly left to avoid suspicion and answered the inspector's call requesting him to come to the interrogation room. After Jugo left, Dongzich turned to reassure his best friend not to worry. Just as he finished speaking, he also received a message inviting him to the interrogation room and couldn't help but feel suspicious because the inspector knew he had been there for a long time. After arriving, Dongzich also sat down at the interrogation table with Dugan. Dugan was annoyed that the interrogator was Dongzich's friend. Not only that, the two exchanged information about the case while Dongzich was under investigation. Hearing this, Jhoe also began to take the interrogation seriously, so Dongzich recounted that he had gone to a party with everyone until 11 p.m. the previous night, then went home to sleep, and nothing else. As soon as she finished speaking, Dugold interrupted and said, "The crime occurred with the exact same method as 20 years ago because the police have never publicly disclosed the method of the crime, so it's unlikely that a copycat crime could exist. Because I think the two cases have the same perpetrator, that's why I said earlier that the Luzon case 20 years ago left no evidence, so this case will be the same. After 20 years, the killer reappeared and committed the crime using the same method. Interestingly, the suspect from 20 years ago also recently moved here, and was even a witness to both recent cases, being the first to discover the victims' bodies. What do you think, Lieutenant? Or do you still think what I just pointed out is normal? I don't understand if you're slow-witted or unfit to be an inspector. I suggest changing the inspector in charge. Then I will cooperate with the investigation." After saying that, Rugo stood up to leave, but Dongzich leaned back in his chair and blocked him, saying, "Where's your alibi? I'm not the only one who recently moved here." Du immediately retorted, "Are you crazy? 20 years ago I was only 7 years old. Do you mean a child of 7 years old kidnapped and murdered two 20-year-old girls? The method of the crime has never been publicly disclosed." While he was speaking, Dongzich stood up and interrupted, "It's true that it hasn't been publicly disclosed, but you yourself said earlier that I'm also a police officer and inspector, so you're also in the industry and have easy access to the case files." Because he was pressured, Juan accidentally blurted out that he couldn't find the file in the archives, so Dongzich took the opportunity to bring it up and said, "But how do you know that? Who knows when the case file from 20 years ago was taken? Only the person who took it knows. Don't tell me you're the only one who knows the file is missing because you're the one who discovered it wasn't there. You were also the one who discovered the bodies of both victims recently, weren't you?" Rugg immediately corrected him, saying it wasn't him, because that night he went home right after work. But the next morning, Dongzich interrupted and continued, "At an hour when no one was out on the street, you were waiting in front of my house, and the location where the fingertips were found wasn't far from my house either." After that interrogation, Dugan went to see his father and recounted the events. Upon hearing it, the deputy minister became increasingly frustrated with his troublesome son. Dugan, however, calmly said, "Dad, please get me a security camera recording of the hallway and the file storage area in the basement of the Mundu police station from yesterday. I needed to catch the crazy guy that Dad likes in the most rational and reasonable way." The next day, while the police force was using all resources to search for Minung, Dongzich was busy installing cameras in the basement and starting to clean every nook and cranny with bleach. While cleaning, he saw a small bloodstain on the table, so he paused for a moment, then quickly wiped it away and continued cleaning diligently until guests arrived. And the people who came to visit him were none other than his two close friends. They came to bring food and inquire about Dongzich's health, as well as vaguely asking if he thought Minung was dead. Instead of answering, Dongzich asked back, "Do you think my sister is still alive? I think last year I saw a girl who looked exactly like her at a cafe, about 20 years old and looked like a freshman. At that time, I looked at the girl's fingers because if it was really Juwon, there wouldn't be any fingertips left. But how could Juwon be a 20-year-old girl? She must be a 40-year-old woman by now. What if I meet my sister on the street when she's 40 and don't recognize her? But why worry so much? How many women in this world have lost all their fingertips? But why hasn't anyone seen Juwon without fingertips for the past 20 years? Does that mean she's dead?" Dihua couldn't help but interrupt. "That's why you asked. Is that how I am? Usually people would ask if you're still looking for Minute Dung, but you didn't ask that. Instead you asked if you'd found anything? It's as if you're confirming that Minute Dung is dead." Dongzich replied that yes, the girl is dead, and you won't find her body because that bastard doesn't want to return Minung. After a tense conversation, Dihua also left with Dungda. Although suspicious, she still wanted to believe that Dongzich was not the culprit. Whether it was 20 years ago or now, it was exactly the same. She was only worried about why Dungda kept hesitating and acting as if she didn't believe Dongzich at all. Dungda immediately clarified that he always trusted his best friend and didn't think Dongzich was the culprit in the case 20 years ago. While the two of them were talking, Rugo was sitting at home looking at a secretly taken photo of Dongzich's group in a butcher shop and recalled the time he went to meet the girl who had illegally crossed the border to ask her to keep an eye on Dongzich and report back immediately if she saw him. Gold even gave her a phone with a GPS tracking function and asked her to dial number 1 if she saw it. Initially, the girl refused because she found it troublesome, but when he threatened her with illegal immigration, she finally agreed to take the phone he gave her. On the day, the unfortunate girl went missing and was never found. Dugald received a distress message and many number 1 messages. After the flashback, Dugan became even more confused and didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, the police force was still searching for Meinung's whereabouts even though it was already dark. After searching for a while, the police dogs also sniffed out a strange object. And that object was the phone with the GPS tracker of the unfortunate girl. At this time, Dugan had received the security camera video from his father. He was watching and trying to recall the time he saw Dong Zich. But when he fast-forwarded to that point, the video disappeared. This means someone deleted the recording history. The next day, Dugald waited in front of the archive until Dungda arrived. As soon as the door opened, he rushed in to find the case file from 20 years ago. Then he burst into maniacal laughter. When he saw the file was back in its place, Dungda, curious, went in to ask what was going on. Juwon also held up the document and asked if Dong Zich had returned it or if he had found it. Dungda started to prevaricate, saying he found it in another stack of files, so Juwon laughed sarcastically and said, "Why didn't I think of that? You and Dong Zich are accomplices." As soon as he heard this, Dungda immediately remembered the past 20 years ago when he gave an alibi for Dong Zich and told the inspector that the two of them had been drinking together, drunk until late at night. But the inspectors at that time often swung their fists so that Gifam Kai and Dungda had to constantly beg and cry to avoid being beaten. At this time, Dong Zich was sitting and talking with Station Chief Nam. He wanted to ask for some time off because he didn't like working, so Station Chief Nam blurted out calling him a bastard and refused his request for leave. After hearing this, Dong Zich sneered and said, "It's been a long time since I heard that. If I don't obey, you'll beat me to a pulp like you did back then, right? There's no need to pretend to be remorseful. We can't gather evidence and we can't expect any results from the autopsy. If my intuition tells me who the culprit is, then even if I have to beat him, I'll make him confess." The station chief was only acting out of necessity. Station Chief Nam replied, "Don't sympathize with me, and don't forgive me. Fortunately, the world has changed now." Dong Zich didn't believe it and retorted, "Change my ass. It's always been like this. Without the murderer's confession, how could you solve a case without evidence? To catch a monster, you have to become a monster yourself. That's the only way." Just as he finished speaking, Dung Du Wei called to recount what had just happened. So Dong Zich also laughed with amusement at Jugan's actions, then hung up and decided not to rest anymore to accompany his partner. The next day, Dong Zich and Jugan drove on patrol, and this time it was Jugan who was driving. On the way, he drove to the grocery store so Dong Zich could witness Min Dung's father sitting with his face in his hands crying. Then he turned to observe and asked Dong Zich if he was the one who returned the case file. Dong Zich remained calm, neither admitting nor denying it, which only made Jugan more annoyed. While they were talking, Daicha called and asked Doug to come in for questioning, so he then sat in the interrogation room for investigation. Du Wei Aicha started asking if he knew Meinung. After hearing him tell the whole story that they had only met at the police station, Daicha opened her laptop to show the evidence they had just found and said, "Last night, while searching for Minute Dung, the police dog found something. This phone uses a SIM card but doesn't record any calls. Only 3 text messages were sent. Meinung's body odor-scented phone sent 3 messages, and coincidentally, all 3 were sent to him. Did he really not know who Minute Dung was?" When Dugo replied that he didn't know, Daicha immediately asked, "Then whose phone is this?" While Gono remained silent, not knowing how to answer, this news reached Deputy Minister Han and drove him mad. Prosecutor Jun reassured Du Gold that he hadn't done anything illegal. Deputy Minister Han began by saying he would give Prosecutor Jun a position in the anti-violence team and ask him to bring the forensic results as soon as the analysis was complete. Hearing this, the prosecutor nodded and obediently followed instructions. But when he got outside, he muttered to himself, "Tell him immediately if the Forensic Institute finds anything. That means there's something they shouldn't find. Thanks. What exactly did you do?" Meanwhile, the councillor continued his pretense at the Mundu police station to inquire about and encourage the inspectors. Dungda was in the parking lot and saw her mother's car, and not only that, but also saw her old friend whom she disliked so much appear, so she quickly ran inside and asked her mother to leave the station. Wait until she has finished greeting the inspectors before asking why that rat-faced man was called back. But the councillor pretended not to know anything and just left. At this time, JHOA was talking to her subordinates when she saw her ex-husband, the rat-faced man, and as soon as JHOA saw him, she hated him and couldn't stand him. Lai Trang Jin calmly said that he came back to work here because his driver's license had expired. He even shamelessly said he would move back here and gave the business card of Jinli Construction Company, expressing his desire to return here to start his life over and hoping his ex-wife would stop seducing him. After hearing this, Du Wei Ho wanted to punch this guy in the face even more. That night, Rugon went to his usual bar to meet the prosecutor because he had received the forensic results and the DNA of the girl involved in the incident was on his phone. So, Rugon took the results to his father and was scolded severely for his reckless actions. Rugon decided it was best to pretend he knew nothing, so his father scolded him again, saying, "What if the people at the Department of Foreign Affairs know? The Foreign Affairs Department is investigating a remote area with an illegal resident. Surely they can find out her identity? And yet, do you still think it's all just indirect evidence? If the journalists sniff it out, you'll be guilty no matter what. Even if you don't get arrested, your future prospects will be ruined." Do I have to give up the ministerial position I was about to get because of a good-for-nothing like you? Because of your father's words, I can only sit here holding my head in helplessness and not understand why the phone is on the mountain. The next morning, everyone at the Mahjong outpost started discussing the phone found on the mountain, as well as Dugald's involvement with it. While they were engrossed in their discussion, Dugald walked in, apologized to everyone, and decided to ask for some time off. After saying this, he turned and left. Dongzich chased after him to say goodbye, but when he bowed, he burst into laughter, which infuriated Jugan, who grabbed him by the collar. He only let go when Dongzich reminded him that there were security cameras around. Because he felt challenged, Juan decided to go to the cliff to investigate the clues. He asked the locals if anyone usually parked on the mountain and learned that there was plenty of empty land there, so he could just park around the house. After hearing this, Rugon continued walking around and found tire tracks leading to a house on the mountain. That car also had a working black box, so he knocked on the door to ask to extract the video from the black box. Thanks to this, Gold found more clues and saw the camera recording Dongzich going up the mountain carrying a plastic bag. That night, Rugon secretly went into Dongzich's house. He went down to the basement and searched everywhere for clues. After a while, he found a small bloodstain on the table. A short while later, Dongzich was leisurely putting on his police uniform in front of the mirror when JHOA's group burst in to make an emergency arrest. However, he didn't resist at all and obediently sat in the car returning to the station. At this time, Dugald had also heard that Dongzich had been arrested, so he smiled with satisfaction because he had finally caught him, unaware that Dongzich was also smirking with ulterior motives. Immediately after receiving the report, the investigation team went to Dongzich's house to check every corner. Meanwhile, everyone at the MU station was having a headache because of the reporters waiting outside. They didn't know how to get Dongzich in without being discovered. Since he was still wearing his police uniform, it was easy to cause a scandal. After waiting for a long time without success, the subordinates decided to cover Dongzich with a blanket, then secretly brought him into the police station through the back door. As soon as they arrived, the reporters swarmed in, so DIHOS signaled to wait until the suppression was over before letting them continue. At that moment, Dongzich deliberately pushed both of them aside and dropped the blanket, revealing himself in police uniform and handcuffed. Seeing this, DIHOA quickly covered herself with a blanket and led Dongzich down to the basement. Dongzich, meanwhile, smiled as if the plan was going according to plan. At this time, Dugald also walked past the TV showing the news segment about the police being arrested as a suspect and calmly went into the observation room to watch Dongzich's interrogation. But throughout the interrogation, Dongzich only kept talking about noodles, because what he brought up the mountain at that time was noodles to eat raw. Dongzich also asked JHOA to confirm his habit, because he usually climbs the mountain on his days off. JHO also confirmed that and then turned the laptop around and said, "It's true that I know you have a habit of climbing mountains on your days off, but you haven't told me why there are Minung's bloodstains in the basement. You even used bleach to clean every nook and cranny as if you wanted to erase every trace." Dongzich started covering his face in frustration and said, "So you mean I lured Minute Dung away with me, took her down to the basement, cut off all her fingers, and killed her. Then, to erase all evidence, I cleaned the basement with bleach. If that's the case, how come there's only this one photo? Are you going to say that because I cleaned it with bleach, I didn't see it? Even if I cleaned it with bleach, I could still find it, and you only found this one drop of blood." Having said that, Dongzich stood up and adjusted his hair in front of the mirror. Du-gun was silently thinking about where the crime scene was. Station Chief Nam argued with Station Chief Mu and said, "If 10 fingers were chopped off, there would be blood everywhere. And you're making an emergency arrest just because of one drop of blood? Did the security camera in the basement record the finger chopping or any evidence of data deletion? What kind of madman would install security cameras, then kill someone, and then clean up all the evidence right at the scene? School, right?" While they were arguing heatedly, Du-gun chimed in. He didn't cut off his finger in the basement, but somewhere else, a place where even if there was blood and knives, it wouldn't be surprising. So the butcher shop became the next place to be considered suspicious. The shop owner had to reluctantly close the shop for the forensic team to investigate, along with the whispers and scrutiny from the neighbors around. It was exactly like the scene 20 years ago when neighbors gossiped when her mother left home. Meanwhile, she was leisurely wiping dust off her expensive car. But as soon as she drove to the Jiang police station, the boss threw eggs at her car. Even when she angrily got out, she still threw eggs at her. So he also bluntly said that she was angry because a shop had to close due to the search. But why is she angry at me? She should blame herself for being close to someone like Lai Dongzich. The shop owner ignored those words and continued throwing eggs even more fiercely, until the police officers rushed out to stop her. Only then did the shop owner come forward and say, "You're already upset about just a few eggs being thrown on your shirt? You've made an innocent person look bad. You make people live like criminals for the rest of their lives, and yet you're annoyed just because your shirt has a few eggs on it? Clearly you're putting on a show." As she spoke, the shop owner threw out the search warrant, so Juan picked it up and firmly said, "Do you think this is like putting on a show? Do you think life is that easy? I envy the world you live in where you can turn innocent people into criminals just by putting on a show like this, and everyone believes it. If the ridiculous world you live in, along with your petty prejudices, is the reason you threw eggs at me, then you're underestimating our police. Enough is enough, or I'll investigate you thoroughly." After the warning, he turned his back and walked away. But before he could do anything, the shop owner threw more eggs at his back and said, "Go ahead and investigate. I want to see what you find." After that argument, Rugo also went into the changing room to wash his handkerchief. He was taking off his shirt when the police chief came in, so he had to quickly put it back on because he didn't want anyone to see him. The police chief came in with a new handkerchief and sarcastically said, "You don't share anything with anyone, so take this handkerchief and go take a shower." "Oh, I forgot you don't use the shared bathroom, do I? I can't let you go home because the team is short on manpower. I haven't approved your leave yet either, so don't get away with it. There's bleach in the bathroom, so just use it to clean yourself up and then take a shower." But you don't have an easy life, do you? You can't even take a shower comfortably. Everyone's the same because nobody has an easy life. After changing out of his uniform, Duo saw his subordinate washing his car, so he told him to stop and not wash it anymore. The subordinate then spoke up to correct the shop owner and washed the car as an apology, knowing she didn't mean it that way. After hearing this, Duo started to get angry and said, "Are you stupid or too lenient? You said Lai Dongzich is a good person, right? If he's so good, why would he do something like that? If they're really good people, why would they do something like this?" The subordinate replied that it was because he had interfered with them, a dilemma of whether to let them go or keep them. They hated this place to the extreme and had to stay here for life, and he had interfered with them. After saying that, he smiled and brushed it off as if he hadn't said anything, then hurriedly went to put away the car wash supplies to prepare to go on patrol with Juan. At the same time, Dewey Hoa was listening to the forensic doctor's analysis and learned that there was nothing in the butcher shop but animal blood, the only exception being this old, rusty knife which had women's blood on it. Although the bloodstain was old, the identity of this person could still be found on the system. Before the forensic doctor could even speak, Hoa interrupted, saying, "I know. It's the blood of the butcher's mother." The autopsy results quickly reached Rugo that night. After learning the results, he was helpless because he was at a dead end again, and sooner or later Dongzich would be released, and Prosecutor Kwan advised, "Do you have the right to get angry here? The one who needs to get angry is your father. The one who issued the emergency arrest warrant and the one who issued the search warrant is me. Both of them blindly believe you. It's best to withdraw from this case. I'm saying this because I'm thinking of you. I understand you graduated top of your class from the police academy and want to continue achieving success to advance in the profession, but this isn't a school, and the world doesn't work the way you want. Young master, let me and your uncle handle this. Now, just rest." With that, Prosecutor Kwan turned his back and smiled meaningfully. Du Gold began investigating the identity of the woman. He remembered that there were missing person flyers for her posted in the basement of Dongzich. After some investigation, he learned that this woman was the butcher's mother, and he became increasingly confused and embarrassed. A little later, while the butcher was cleaning up the shop, some people started taking pictures and whispering. But she didn't pay much attention and just continued cleaning. When he saw his mother's missing person flyer, he sat down, smoothed the paper, and said, "I will take it all back. I will restore everything to how it was when you left. When you return, I will give it all back to you and never set foot here again." At this moment, Dugold also appeared and saw this scene, but he decided not to go in and just left, going straight to Mundu police station where Dongzich was being detained and said he valued friendship very much. So that's why he befriended the victims before killing them? He even posted flyers looking for relatives on the basement wall of his house, befriending them to make them lower their guard and then killing them. Friendship is your trap. Dongzich immediately stood up, approached and replied, "Your trap reminds me of something. Because I was imprisoned, I had a lot of time to think. The woman using the SIM card was a trap you set, wasn't she? Did that woman know you were pushing her into this?" After hearing this, Juan was also silent and couldn't say anything. The next day, Jin Mo went to the MU police station to visit Dong Shish, even bringing homemade food to help him regain his strength. Even though Dong Shish was now the suspect in his daughter's murder, Jin Mok still absolutely believed Dong Shish was innocent. Unable to talk any further, Dong Shish asked Jin Mok to leave, but before going inside, he reminded him to take care of his health and eat properly. Feeling reassured, Dongzich turned around and went inside. And immediately afterwards, Jin Mok wrote a petition requesting Dongzich's early release. As soon as he finished reading it, Chief Dung Chan Moun loudly protested against releasing him early, because doing so would be like smearing mud on the image of the police station. While things were tense, Dung Da rushed in because he had something urgent to say. He absolutely insisted that Dongzich was not the culprit, because on the day minute Dung disappeared, Dongzich was with him. After hearing this, everyone was shocked and speechless. The captain angrily went out onto the balcony with Dung Da and Dih and said, "Does your mother know what outrageous thing you've done? If Kang Minute Dung's body is found and this case becomes an unsolved mystery, you will be held responsible for obstructing the investigation." After scolding him severely, the captain left. DHOS stayed behind to question him, and he reluctantly recounted that I confessed belatedly because of my guilty conscience. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, but when they found Minute Dung's blood, I was afraid I was too asleep that night and didn't hear. I understand you're angry because I suspected Dongzich." DIHOA interrupted, saying that wasn't what she wanted to talk about. "Now you're acting exactly the same as you did 20 years ago when the incident happened. This time it's exactly the same. The only person who can verify your words is Dongzich. And why wouldn't Dongzich reveal that you two were together at that time? Dungda could only vaguely reply that, as he said, this time is the same as last time. He didn't want to implicate me. That's why he didn't confess. Now, if we write the report quickly, Dongzich will be released sooner. With that, Dungda quickly left. That evening, Councillor Du met with Deputy Minister Han and Director Lai to discuss the Mu planning project. Director Lai had invested capital in the project and didn't want to lose it all, while Councillor Du didn't want to lose his chance to become mayor, so both wanted Deputy Minister Han to lend a hand, and they assured him that his son's stain on his reputation wouldn't affect his future ministerial position. After hearing this, Deputy Minister Han also agreed to participate in the project. Director Lai finalized the deal and began implementing the first step in his plan. Meanwhile, Dungda was the one who picked up Dongzich after he was released. The two of them leisurely went to eat without knowing they were being secretly watched. As soon as Dongzich entered the restaurant and ordered a large bowl of soup, the owner mercilessly threw salt at him and scolded him for causing the town construction plan to stall. Dongzich not only didn't get angry but also stood up and bowed. Then he left the restaurant with Dungda, laughing happily, even praising the salt as delicious, leaving his best friend speechless. Even Dugan couldn't understand why Dongzich was so happy. Afterwards, the two went to the butcher shop for dinner. As soon as they entered, Dongzich saw a bowl of tofu already on the table, so he voluntarily took a mop to help the owner clean it up. But before he could do anything, she stopped him and made him sit at the table and turn on the TV to watch. Finding the program uninteresting, Dungda switched channels and was shocked to see news that Minute Dung was a prostitute. Not only that, her college friends were also interviewed and spoke ill of Minute Dung without mercy. Dongzich watched and could only laugh hysterically, while Dugan silently observed from the sidelines with an icy expression. A little later, Jugo decided to go down to Dongzich's basement and happened to overhear Dongzich talking to himself. He just sat there crying and apologizing to Minute Dung for everything. Jugo was about to leave when Dongzich spotted him and asked him to come closer, so he switched on the light and walked closer, even opening the door to see if Dongzich had put up the missing person flyer again. When he saw that it was pasted, he immediately drew his gun and pointed it at Dongzich, saying, 3 years ago, a lieutenant named Lai Sang-jop died. It is rumored that he was killed by his own comrade, and that person was Sergeant Lai Dongzich. As soon as he finished speaking, Dongzich remembered the old memories and had a sharp pain. Ro continued to say that he felt guilty about nothing when he was the one who kidnapped, murdered, and cut off Minung's fingers. And yet he apologized when he saw people insulting her. Dongzich then asked if Dugold was recording, so Dugold voluntarily took out his recording phone and placed it on the table. Dongzich continued, "You're really strange. I'm sure you know that a forced confession is worthless in court. Don't you know there are cameras in this basement? Even if you wanted to delete them, they would still transmit the data directly to my phone. You went to all this just to get me to confess? I can understand that because I have a perfect alibi." That was Park Dungda. It was already perfect 20 years ago. The two cases of my sister and Bang Du-sun were closed because there was no convincing evidence, and because of the perfect alibi at the time. With Minung's case, even if he died and came back to life, he wouldn't catch me. As for the case of the butcher's mother, is there any evidence left now? At most, she's just one of tens of thousands of missing people. But are you sure she's missing? There are plenty of people in this world who leave home and never return. But what about the girl using the phone with the fake SIM card? Having said that, Dongzich went inside to get the evidence and said, "This girl's identity cannot be revealed, not because of me, but because of Lieutenant Han. Now what are you going to do? Shoot me." Dugo trembled and raised his gun, so Dongzich continued, "You've never shot anyone before, have you? You should aim for the head or the heart. If you miss and let me survive, your life and your father's life, as well as your ministerial position for the next term, will shatter like sea foam." With that, he pointed Gun's gun at his own head. But no matter how hard he tried, Dugold couldn't pull the trigger. While Dongzich turned away dejectedly, Dugold just stood there, reflecting on everything Dongzich had said, then suffered from shortness of breath and quickly left Dongzich's house. Finally, he just drove to the parking lot and sat there pondering until dawn. The next morning, Duwei HOA started scolding his younger brother after learning that he was the one who leaked the information about the emergency arrest warrant for Dongzich to the reporter. Because the security camera in the internet cafe recorded everything, he didn't hide it and admitted what he had done, just to find out if Dongzich was really the suspect. It turned out that the night before Minute Dung disappeared, he saw Minute Dung smiling and running to someone's side. At the same time, Dugold decided to play one last risky game. He confronted the reporters waiting outside the MU station and made a statement about the serial murder case that was happening again after 20 years. He publicly revealed the number of unfortunate victims who had been murdered and claimed that the killer from years ago had returned and started wreaking havoc again. A little later, Dongzich was also sitting watching the news on TV and smirking. Then Jugo appeared, walked over and said, "You once said I would soon be able to return to my old unit. So now I'm in a hurry. I remember you telling me that it doesn't matter who did it. Why wouldn't the identity of the person behind it matter to you?" Having said that, Dugold began to read out the names of each person who had been murdered and gone missing, then asked who the real killer was and why Dongzich was covering for him. Instead of answering the question, Dongzich started listing the names of the unfortunate victims and said, "Ah, so the girl residing illegally is named Li Hua, the one you pushed into the netherworld without knowing it. You said there were 7 victims, but you listed 8 names. What do I do now that I've found out? He tried hard to hide it, but finally blurted it out in a single note. You're ruining your solid career and getting yourself into trouble. You're sacrificing everything just to find out who I'm covering for? Jugo immediately stood up and retorted. You're the one sacrificing everything to protect that scoundrel. Tell me the name of that worthless person. Dongzich began listing the names of his friends, making Jugo even more furious as he grabbed him by the collar. While things were tense, the TV broadcast news about an emergency press conference organized by Vice Minister Han. He publicly apologized to the people for his son's false statements, and also mentioned that he had transferred his son to the town police station for punishment. Dongzich immediately said, Your father directly reprimanded and transferred you? He turned his back on you to avoid trouble. Du Goldon could only stand there silently in helplessness. The following evening, Deputy Minister Han went to the Japanese restaurant again to meet with Director Lai and the council member. He decided this would be their last meeting. Since his rebellious son was no longer an obstacle, Deputy Minister Han did not want to participate in the Mu planning project. After saying that, he stood up, threw some money on the table, and turned his back and left. Even when he saw his son waiting outside the restaurant, he didn't bother to pay attention and just got into his car and drove away, leaving Du's son helpless. Inside the restaurant, Director Lai told Councillor Du that the next Minister of Public Security's level must be far beyond that of ordinary people. He was afraid his only son's life would be ruined, so he used a despicable person like me to throw dirty water on Kang Mingyong. But when things got unstable, he was still willing to abandon his son, unlike someone else, right? Hearing this, Councillor Du started to feel uneasy and glanced around with annoyance. At this time, Dungda was also sitting at the shop, diligently drawing this animal's head. Dongzich appeared worriedly to see if he was alright, because it was late and he hadn't gone to bed but was still here drinking. Dungda explained that he couldn't go to sleep because if he did, he would dream of women whispering to him. The shop owner, after hearing this, thought Dungda was just rambling nonsense again, so she sat down and grilled meat for both of them to eat as a snack and asked Dongzich what was wrong with his junior lately, that he was too scared to come when he heard Dongzich was coming. Dongzich also looked bewildered. I didn't understand, but I just turned around and worriedly asked her if she was okay. So the shop owner sadly said that he was afraid I would believe what his associate said, that there was no such thing. When I was 18 years old, when I heard people say that my mother was walking out of a motel near Busan Station hand in hand with a man, I immediately rushed there. I went there to find my mother but couldn't go inside because I was too scared. It was the first time I went to a motel, but I gradually got used to it. I got used to hearing the news and running to identify strange bodies to see if it was my mother. I also got used to hearing people say my mother killed my father and left home in the night to run away with another man. Do you think I'm surprised to hear people whispering that my mother was a victim of a mass murder? I have to live like this until my mother comes back. People will soon forget and come back here to eat and drink to their heart's content. So from now until then, you guys have to eat all the meat in a refrigerator. Hearing this, Dongzich smiled and invited Dungda to eat the meat, but he stared at the painting he had drawn and suddenly asked Dongzich if he had killed Minute Dung. The next day, Jugan returned home and tried to unlock the door using the password, but it didn't work. He then rang the doorbell and learned that his father had requested a password change and forbade Gold from coming home for a while. Having no other choice, he drove back to the Mahjong police station. But before he could find peace, he was harassed by a journalist. He kept following and trying to get information, even saying that Du Gold's talent was too wasted to be stuck at this outpost. Just as he finished speaking, Dongzich appeared and asked the journalist what the outpost was all about, even calling his teammates to deal with this arrogant journalist. Thanks to that, he finally left and stopped following him. Rug was visibly annoyed and asked everyone what they wanted from me. This wasn't the first time they'd come, and there were probably many others who had called to complain. The entire police station in Jiang was being called harmful because of me. So why help me? We are not close, and you don't understand me at all. Even after saying all that, Station Chief Nam just smiled and said that he was still young and naive and didn't understand things. Then he turned his back and went inside with everyone. Dongzich then came closer and said, It's just that the Manjung people have that kind of nature. They only fight each other until their heads are bruised and battered. But if the enemy comes to our house, we will all work together to eliminate the common enemy first. We do not allow outsiders to come here to criticize our family. We must protect each other first. And that is the way of life of the Manjung people. After saying this, Dongzich smiled meaningfully and turned his back and left. Meanwhile, Du Goldo stood there reflecting on Dongzich's words and wondering who Dongzich was protecting. At this moment, Dongzich suddenly ran out of the station, climbed into a car and went somewhere. So Du Gold quickly insisted on going along and endured Dongzich's reckless driving. It turned out that Director Lai and Councillor Du were holding a public referendum, and FJ Mock stood up to speak about his daughter's case so that he could reassure the people not to worry and not to stop the Mu planning project because of Minute Dung's case. Dongzich couldn't take it anymore, so he drove straight into the audience before getting out of the car, not forgetting to tell Du Gold and Yen not to do anything. Then Bu Boy got out of the car, went up to the stage, and pulled Jin Mock down. The people saw this and started loudly cursing Dongzich, thinking that he was the reason why this town couldn't develop. There was an aunt who even thought that the girls who disappeared were promiscuous runaways, so Dongzich stepped down from the platform, approached her, and asked if she would still say that if it were her daughter. But the aunt still shamelessly insisted that her daughter was not like that. She even called Min Dung a prostitute. So Dong Zich became even more furious and said that whether she was a prostitute or anyone else, she didn't deserve to live. Or maybe I should kill your daughter. The aunt started to go crazy and curse at Shen Ti. Just as Dugan opened the car door and stepped out to intervene, Councillor Du pretended to calm the aunt down and then turned to advise Dong Zich to get rid of this hot temper. Because of this temper, everyone suffered 20 years ago. Dong Zich immediately retorted, "Do you remember the day I was released from the police station 20 years ago? Back then, you came to my house and caused a scene, cursing and swearing just because your beloved son testified for me. You even warned me never to cling to your son again. But listen carefully, old woman, I didn't cling to your precious son, Park Dang-da, but Dang-da clung to me. Whether it was 20 years ago or now, it's still the same. If I let go, he'll be in trouble. You understand that best, don't you?" Seeing the tense situation, Director Lai immediately ordered his subordinates to drag Dong Zich out. Dong Zich also recognized this unforgettable mad dog face, so he immediately warned his henchmen to let go before something happened. 3 warnings were ineffective, so he started beating them one by one. Just as Director Lai and Councillor Du were about to call the police, Juan appeared and showed his police badge. Councillor Du sensed something was wrong and ran away. Du Goldo then recited the law on assault and concluded that the whole group was guilty. After saying that, he started fighting with the other group along with Dong Zich. Director Lai saw this and ordered his henchmen to stop. Just as he was about to turn his back, Dong Zich demanded to arrest him for intentional injury, so Director Lai obediently extended his hands to be handcuffed. Finally, the whole group got to sit at the police station and have tea. Du Gold didn't answer his father's phone even though he was calling. Director Lai rambled on about Dong Zich's violent actions, even ordering his subordinates to get the phone that recorded the fight. At this time, Deputy Minister Han was also watching the video circulating online and couldn't help but be furious that his good-for-nothing son had caused trouble again. Prosecutor General wholeheartedly reassured Deputy Minister Han and advised him that it would be best to sit still and wait for things to calm down. Deputy Minister Han was a little annoyed but still cheerfully inquired about his father and asked Prosecutor General to find a way to talk to Jugan. Only after Prosecutor General left did he stop smiling and take out his phone to call Director Lai. At this time, JHO arrived at the interrogation room to question Dong Zich and Jugan because she couldn't understand why they were always getting into trouble. After talking for a while, Dong Zich agreed to a reconciliation if Director Lai blocked all the videos. Having said that, he stood up and left, and JHO hurriedly followed him. Dong Zich then took the opportunity to ask about JHOA's younger brother because she noticed the boy had been constantly avoiding her lately. DIHO lied, saying there was nothing wrong, and saw her friend off. As soon as Dong Zich went outside, Du Gold chased after him, asking why he agreed to reconcile so quickly, even bringing up Dong Zich's earlier words to the councillor. Dong Zich, frustrated, said, "Do you think there's some terrible secret between me and Dangda? After killing my sister, he and I joined forces to kill people for 20 years, and we even killed Mainung. Let's say we're accomplices in murder. How far can you go? What can you do to catch the murderers? Having been at large for 20 years, do you dare abandon the so-called rule of law that you worship? Just recently you pushed a woman to her death. You only abide by the law and principles when it benefits you, so all you could do was run to me asking questions all night." With that, Dong Zich turned around dejectedly and got into a taxi. Even if Jug Gold chased after him to stop him, it would be useless. After getting into the car, Dong Zich took his medicine and remembered his fallen comrade. At that time, Dong Zich and his comrades were ambushing the killer's house. Even though that bastard took the lives of 3 unfortunate female students, he was still released by the court due to lack of concrete evidence, so Dong Zich could only sit in the car waiting to see what he would do next. Meanwhile, his teammates were increasingly annoyed and couldn't accept that the bastard could still live freely outside. The third victim was also his sister's best friend. They were close, so when he heard the news, his teammate was shocked. Such a kind and gentle person didn't deserve to be killed. He's only speaking out now because he's afraid Dong Zich will remove him from a case. What he wants most now is to catch that bastard, even considering disguising himself as a delivery person to search the house. Dong Zich helplessly explained that he was eager to falsely accuse him. Article 13, Paragraph 1 of the Constitution is the principle of non-reprosecution. Once found innocent, even with evidence, he cannot be repunished. If, because of illegally obtained evidence, he was found innocent, he would become a wrongfully convicted person. Even after all that, his teammate remained stubborn and refused to listen, even willing to break the law to create evidence to catch the culprit. Dong Zich sighed and said, "What about the families of the victims? He killed their daughter, younger sister, and older sister. Why should the victims' families have to endure him being pitted because he became the victim? As a police officer, don't you think about the injustice suffered by the victims' families? Do you want them to carry that pain for the rest of their lives?" Seeing his teammates still arguing stubbornly, Dong Zich firmly ordered his subordinates. The team withdrew from the case. At this point, the terrified teammate begged and pleaded, not daring to argue anymore, so Dong Zich asked him to keep a close watch before getting out of the car. Afterwards, he went to buy some water and called the police chief, Nam. At that time, he was also the team leader in the regional investigation team. Chief Nam instructed Dong Zich to advise and counsel him, then brought that stubborn teammate back safe and sound. Just after hanging up, a teammate called to say that the jerk had just left the house, and he was driving after him because he didn't want to lose sight of him. Dongzich could only anxiously warn his teammate not to fight him, then frantically looked around for transportation. He then drove the delivery man's car to his teammate's location and hurriedly ran deep into the deserted alley to find him. Upon arriving, Dongzich saw bloodstained evidence left in the fireplace. Then there were gunshots and a person fell from the window. Dongzich trembled as he approached and realized it was his teammate. He immediately knelt down to stop the bleeding and called an ambulance. Meanwhile, his teammate clutched Dongzich's arm and, in his dying moments, said, "He took my gun. I'm sorry, I secretly brought it with me. Please arrest him because my death is reason enough to arrest him. Honestly, I don't want to die, brother. You must arrest him for me." With those words, his teammate breathed his last. Dongzich, in agony, begged his teammate to keep breathing, then decided to go upstairs to find that bastard and successfully pushed him down just like he had done to his teammate. Despite being injured in the leg and limping, Dongzich still went downstairs and pointed his gun at the bastard's face. At this point, he began to beg and plead in fear, so Dongzich tried to remain calm and took out the handcuffs. Just then, the murderer whispered that he was only acting in self-defense. After saying this, he smiled gleefully, and Dongzich, unable to restrain himself any longer, grabbed his head and repeatedly slammed it against the ground without mercy. After reminiscing, Dongzich whispered to himself, "Sang-ro, how far do you think that kid can go?" At this moment, Juwon, who was standing there bewildered and not understanding Dongzich, received a call from the military prosecutor arranging a meeting, so that evening Juwon went to his usual bar to wait. Meanwhile, Prosecutor Jun sat beside Juwon, offering advice and urging him to follow his father's advice so he could return to Sion as soon as possible. Jugan, however, refused to give up so easily and asked Prosecutor Jun to investigate information about Park Dang-da for him. Early the next morning, as soon as Dongzich left the house, the journalist from the previous day came to him demanding an interview. He kept saying unpleasant things about the death of his sister and Minute Dung, and even knew that the person arrested in police uniform was Dongzich. So Dongzich turned around and asked why he knew and threatened the reporter to reveal who had tipped him off if he didn't want to get beaten up. Meanwhile, Rugon was cycling while thinking about Dangda, harboring strong suspicions that he was the culprit. Just as he finished cycling, Gold received an email containing information about Dangda. A short while later, the henchman arrived at Dongzich's house and went down to the basement after being summoned. As soon as he sat down, Dongzich bombarded him with questions. "Why did you inform the reporters and betray me? You caused the reporters to take pictures of me, revealing my identity. Why?" The younger guy started to get confused and replied, "That's not it, brother, because I know you're not the one who killed Minute Dung. That day, I saw Minute Dung smiling and running to Dangda. I don't think Dangda killed Minute Dung, and I also think you're not the culprit, so your arrest is completely illogical. That's why I told the reporter that you were wrongly arrested. But the reporter asked me why I was so sure I wasn't the culprit. If I said I saw Dung being lecherous, I should also say I followed Minute Dung. You know I'm not a stalker, right? You trust me, don't you?" After hearing this, Dongzich gave further instructions. "Absolutely do not tell anyone about this. If you tell anyone, you'll be in trouble. I know how to handle this myself, so just leave it to me." After the conversation, the subordinate left the basement. Unbeknownst to him, Rugon had been secretly watching from outside for a long time. After the subordinate left, he went in to question Dongzich and ask why he was protecting someone like Park Dang-da. After Lai Juan's incident, where did Dangda go and what did he do? When Dongzich said he went to America to study, Dugo immediately took out his phone and said that he went to a psychiatric hospital because of alcohol-induced psychosis. He was forcibly admitted to the hospital for 4 years. During that time, he constantly screamed that he had killed who whenever he had a psychotic episode, but to be precise, he said he had killed someone who looked like who. "The reason you're covering for him is because you two are accomplices, right?" Dongzich immediately retorted, "You only know that much information and you're already like this? You followed me around asking all sorts of questions and your eyes lit up like headlights when you walked in here. And all I know is that Dangda didn't go to America to study but was in a mental hospital, and that he only faked his degree." Dugan began mimicking the instructions Dongzich had given to his subordinates earlier and said, "How are you going to explain this?" Dongzich lowered his head dejectedly and replied, "I was going to let it slide because you're cute, but it seems that's not going to work. It's commendable that you used a little trick to investigate Dangda's background, but no matter how hard I think about it, I only see that Dangda lied about studying abroad and forged his diplomas. And after my sister died, he was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. Because of his paranoia, he believes he killed someone who looked like a deer. He was also the last person to see Minute Dung and Lai Dongzich. I'm covering for Park Dang-da. Is that all it takes for you to rush here so aggressively? Wake up, because you don't even have proof that Dangda killed my sister and Minung. There's not even proof that I'm an accomplice. Why don't you pull out a gun and force me to confess like last time? Or run to the reporters and tell them about it?" Dugan started to get angry, grabbing Dongzich's hand and saying, "Why are you doing this to me?" So Dongzich pulled his hand away and replied, "Then why don't you leave me alone and keep following me? Do you think I'll trust you and tell you everything? Do you remember the woman named Lai Jum HOA? Anyone can forget her, but you can't forget her. You're the one who pushed Lai Jum HOA to her death. I heard no relatives came to claim her body. You're trying to investigate this case to avoid taking responsibility. You'll proudly return to Sohn's department after solving this case, so why not just admit it now? Dugald couldn't hold back any longer and said, Am I not allowed to catch the culprit to avoid responsibility? I used her for the investigation and it's true that I pushed her to her death. I have to take responsibility for that, so I have to catch the culprit. Even if no relatives come to claim her body, I will still remember her, so I have to catch the culprit no matter what. Before someone like me pushes someone else to their death. Before that, I have to catch that bastard at all costs. Whether you believe me or not, just tell me. Tell me. Who exactly is that bastard? Meanwhile, Jin Mok was diligently taking the kimchi that had been fermented underground and dividing it into small boxes. Then he would go to Moose Station to give it to Di Hua. Next, he would stop by Marjiang Station to give it to the police officers, making them almost unable to hold back their tears, because he thought Jin Mok only cared about others and not himself. After returning home, Jin Mok looked at the photo of himself and his daughter and said, Today is the 27th and I've met 27 people. If these idiots keep acting like this, will we ever find Minute Dung? What should we do, Minute Dung? It seems you'll have to live with your dad forever. After saying that, he tore up the calendar page and wrote the number 27 on the first day of the month. On the day Minute Dung disappeared, besides her younger brother and Dung Jae, her father, Jin Mok, was also at the scene. At that time, Jin Mok overheard his daughter telling Dung Jae that her father was very scary, so sometimes she didn't want to go home at all. After hearing that, Jin Mok ran home as fast as he could and waited to see when his daughter would arrive. And the person Minute Dung saw lying on the iron table, tightly bound, was none other than her father. All the naive expressions Jin Mok had been putting on were fake. On the surface, he pretended to be sad and heartbroken over his daughter's disappearance, but inwardly he was laughing gleefully because the police were at a loss and couldn't find any evidence. Returning to the present, after hearing Jugen's question, Dongzich placed his hand on his shoulder, smiled, and patted him a few times without saying anything. While Juan was still feeling helpless, Jin Mok unexpectedly called Dongzich and asked for Dugald's phone number because he needed his help with something. So Dongzich handed the phone to Dugald to answer, while he himself stood silently in a corner, deep in thought. Later, both were invited to Jin Mo's house. Just looking at the photo of Minute Dung and her father made Dongzich feel so uncomfortable he couldn't breathe, so he had to go to the bathroom to wash his face. After washing, he glanced around the bathroom before opening the door and stepping outside, where he overheard Jin Mo asking Dugald to privately investigate his daughter's case. While Jin Mok was kneeling and pleading with Jugen, Dongzich just stood there watching them both and sighed in annoyance. Just as Jugen was about to agree and take Jin Mok's statement, Dongzich asked him to go outside to talk. After going outside, Dongzich advised Dugald not to interfere, because that's against the law and affects the investigation process. But Jugen boldly said, You're the one who asked me how far I dared to go. And this is my answer. You're also strange for wanting to stop me from investigating on my own. Could it be because the captain of the team in charge of the case is Lieutenant JHOA? You're the one who dragged them all into this to make me suspicious, and now you're telling me not to suspect Duweicho. Seeing Dongzich stammering and not saying anything, he brought up the security camera footage in the storage facility again. Because of the data about that, the day Dongzich went there to talk to Dungda was completely erased, so he wants to investigate thoroughly from now on because the victim's family has asked for his help. Having no other choice, Dongzich sat and listened as Jugen took Jin Mo's statement. According to Jin Mo, Minute Dung returned home at 7 p.m. that night. That was also the night everyone held a party at the butcher shop. Initially, Jin Mok intended to stay home and not go, but the police chief called to invite him, and Dongshisha's subordinate also came to his door to invite him, so Jin Mok joined the party. When he arrived, everyone was eating grilled meat. By the time Mok got home, it was almost 11 o'clock, and not only that, he went home with Dongshish because they lived near each other. After that, Jin Mo went home to sleep and didn't hear any more noise. The more Dongzich listened, the more frustrated he became, so he got up and opened Minung's bedroom door to check. Du Gold saw this and also got up and followed, asking Jin Mo if anything was missing. That's how they found out that Minung's phone and backtail were missing. That was a gift the butcher gave to the girl. After obtaining the statement, Juan went home to compile all the information from the audio recording. According to the statement, Minute Dung arrived home a little after 7 p.m. She was also tired, so she decided to take a shower and go to sleep. At this time, Jin Mok received a call from his junior inviting him to a celebratory dinner. He refused, but eventually the junior officer came and knocked on the door. The police chief also called, asking if they had arrived yet, so Jin Mok said he was getting rice wine with his junior officer and would be there soon. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Jin Mok went home with Dongzich. It was around 11 o'clock at night. After summarizing everything, Duo became even more confused because Dongzich had said he would go home to sleep after 11 o'clock, so there was no one or anything to serve as an alibi. Meanwhile, Jin Mok claimed that they both went home together. A little later, Dugold went to the butcher shop to ask the owner about Minung's back-scrubbing towel, and she confirmed that it was indeed missing because the girl usually tied the towel into a bow on the basket. The shop owner also felt tired on her behalf because she had to suspect one person after another all day long. While Dongzich was also a police officer, he didn't have to worry about anything like that. Hearing this, Dugan said, I think you should start suspecting everyone if you want to find your mother. I know you've searched all over the country, but you need to calm down. Before he could finish speaking, the owner interrupted. "I'll find my mother myself. I refuse the half-hearted advice from someone in a different situation." Hearing this, Rugo coldly stood up, said goodbye, and left. The bar owner went outside and threw water around in a very dismissive manner. Ju-won said nothing but sat in the car listening to the recorded testimony again, and then called the military prosecutor for help and further instructions. Afterwards, the military prosecutor went to see Deputy Minister Han to report on the situation regarding Ju-won's request for the case file of CA Minung and a list of people entering and leaving the archives. Not wanting to hastily comply with Ju-won's request without prior notice, but instead of angrily scolding his stubborn son, he ordered the military prosecutor to help in any way he could. Seeing his bewildered expression, the deputy minister told him to stop talking so much and just do as he said. Why would he ask you, the prosecutor, to get internal police data? If he wanted to get it, he should have asked a police officer. And who is the police officer you could ask for help from without expecting anything in return? I knew you'd come to me, but he still asked you. That means if I don't help, it will continue to harass me. It's better to take control and help as much as I can. Ju-won seems to know how to use you as a bridge. A hunting dog shouldn't chase its owner from behind. It must know where its owner is going and run ahead to lead the way. A dog that only knows how to follow behind should be shot dead. Hearing this, the prosecutor bowed nervously in farewell. But before leaving, he recounted how Ju-won had asked him to investigate the identity of the second minister's son. Knowing that Deputy Minister Han had a close relationship with her in the past, the prosecutor decided to reveal everything without concealment. After hearing this, Deputy Minister Han praised him and dismissed him. Meanwhile, Dungda was in his mother's office and asked for a few days off. Initially, Councillor Du disagreed because the situation was very chaotic, even telling his son to take his medicine properly to avoid talking nonsense. It wasn't until he heard Dungda rambling about the deer and didn't in certainty that Dongzich wasn't the culprit that Councillor Du smiled warmly and gave in to his son's request. Dungda also smiled contentedly and told his mother not to call because he would turn off his phone and live in seclusion for the next few days, not meeting anyone. As soon as Dungda left, Director Lai appeared and voiced his suspicions. Having overheard the entire conversation, he thought Dungda might be the culprit, but as soon as he finished speaking, he was loudly cursed at by the councillor, leaving him no time to compose himself. Not only that, she also asked Director Lai to provide the black box data, because it contained something that Councillor Du needed. Hearing this, Director Lai immediately said, "You intend to delete all the recorded footage of your son and use it to quickly close the case." "Ah, haste makes waste. Shouldn't we tell Deputy Minister Han first?" Councillor Du could only respond with a sarcastic smile. "Since when did he join our side? Give it to me quickly and don't talk so much." At the same time, Dugald had just gone down to the parking garage when he received a successful delivery notification from Prosecutor Kuo, so he immediately took the envelope clipped to the car window, opened it, and took out the USB inside. Then he got into the car to check the entry and exit list of the storage facility, and saw the name of the police chief on the list. So Dugald decided to go to the station early to have a face-to-face conversation with the police chief, and ask him why he was in the archives at that hour deleting security camera data. Before answering, the police chief asked him to take out his phone to check. When he saw that he didn't have any recordings, he explained that what he was about to tell him had to be kept confidential. That guy Lai Dongzich stole some documents from the archives and kept them for himself. I've known for a long time, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him to return them. After all, it's his sister's case. But when Minute Dung went missing, I thought someone would definitely come looking for the case files. So I told Dongzich to return them to their original place immediately. That's also why I deleted the security camera data. The people on night duty that night were close juniors who had worked alongside me. I couldn't cause them any trouble. So, while one person was dozing off and another was in the restroom, I sneaked in and deleted the security camera data. Seeing that Dugald still didn't want to believe him, Chief Nam continued. Officially speaking, that night I only stopped by the archives to encourage my close former juniors who were working hard on night duty. I didn't touch anything, so it doesn't matter who you are asking me. No matter the circumstances, I will always say the same thing. That's my official statement. I sincerely hope you'll overlook this. I have more than a year left until retirement. Even if my superiors know, they won't punish me or anything. So it's best not to make a big deal out of it. Just as he finished speaking, Dongzich knocked on the door and entered, so Dugald, visibly annoyed, went over and said he already knew about Dongzich stealing the documents, then angrily left the room and slammed the door shut. Dongzich sat down and asked why Station Chief Nam had deleted his data, and suggested that he rest and not interfere anymore. But Station Chief Nam not only didn't listen but also smiled and asked if Dongzich needed any more help. That evening, Director Lai was relaxing in his office when Councillor Du texted him to announce that the bomb had been dropped and ask him to wait patiently for a while. Director Lai was speechless at the arrogance of Councillor No and his haughtiness in refusing to answer the phone when Deputy Minister Han called. At this time, the inspectors at Mdu Station also received an anonymous email about the black box data recording Duwei HOA's younger brother appearing on the day Minute went missing. Duwei HOA was still in shock when the team leader ordered the entire team to go and make an urgent arrest, and coincidentally, Dongzich and Rugon were also driving on patrol. As soon as he saw the familiar license plate, Dongzich turned his car around and chased after it. When he arrived, he He saw the serious crime unit escorting his subordinate away for stalking Minute Dung and being the last person to see her. Dongzich immediately reassured him, helping him calm down and advising his subordinate to confess everything he knew. After the serious crime investigation team left, Dongzich got into his car and drove to the storage facility. But when he arrived and called Dungda, no one answered. At this time, his subordinate was being interrogated by the inspector, so he honestly confessed the whole truth. Regarding seeing Minute Dung go home with Dungda, the situation was tense when Chief Dung entered the observation room and scolded her, so Dway Hoa removed her name tag and decided to withdraw from the case. As soon as she went outside, she saw Dongzich standing there and immediately approached him to scold him for wearing his police uniform. Station Chief Nam also appeared, urging them both to return and rest. He said he could handle things here himself. So, Dway Hoa and Dongzich went to the butcher shop. Dway Hoa also apologized to Dongzich for knowing the truth but not saying it. She was still confused and didn't know what to do at this moment, because he was both afraid that his younger brother was the real culprit and afraid that his best friend of 30 years, Dungda, had lied to him. Dongzich could only lower his head in helplessness. But when he looked up and saw Jin Mok standing outside looking in and then entering the shop, he saw Jho sobbing and apologizing to Jin Mok. Jin Mok comforted her, saying that her younger brother wasn't the culprit. Dongzich then gave a bitter laugh and stood up to leave the shop. He pondered for a while before deciding to go around to the back of the store and open a box hidden deep inside the alley. At this moment, Dugold's patrol teammate was also surprised to get Minung's phone signal, so Dugold urgently asked him to quickly track her location. At this moment, Dongzich had just returned to the shop. Dho was outside taking a phone call, only Jin Mok was speechless with shock. When she opened her phone, the shop owner immediately took Jin Mok's phone to check it and showed it to the others. Meanwhile, Dugold was helpless because the signal had been cut off midway, so he decided to turn his car around and drive straight to the butcher shop, storming inside to ask what was happening. While the others remained silent, Dongzich coldly showed Jinmo's phone to Ju on the message "Dad, please let me go" that Minute Dung had just sent. It turned out that Dongzich had previously turned on Minute Dung's phone and tremblingly texted Jinmo to say, "Dad, please let me go." After sending the message, he turned off his phone and went inside as if nothing had happened, witnessing Jin Mok trembling uncontrollably upon seeing the message. And the evening before Minute Dung disappeared, Jin Mok had seen his daughter being led home by a man. But he still acted normal and greeted her warmly when she opened the door and entered. Minute Dung, visibly annoyed, said she would take a shower and go to bed. Just as she left, Jin Mok received a call from his junior inviting him to a party. He told him that Minung had arrived home safely and that he would clean up the convenience store before attending the party. After hanging up, Jin Mok locked the door securely to carry out his next plan. At this moment, Dongzich also woke up from a nightmare, so he decided to call Minute Dung because he felt worried, unaware that the little girl was trying to crawl out of the bathroom. After dragging his daughter into the bathroom, Jinmo used a towel to strangle her until Minute Dung fainted. Dongzich was taking a few walks outside to clear his head, and also stopped by the convenience store to return the house keys to Minute Dung. While walking, Dho called to invite him to a barbecue restaurant for a feast. At this point, the younger guy was feeling down and considered texting Minute Dung to check on her, but after thinking it over, he decided to delete the message and go inside to grill the meat. As soon as Dungda entered the restaurant, the younger guy showed his displeasure, even coldly refusing to let Dungda take his share of the grilling. At this point, other comrades from the Jiang outpost also arrived with several bottles of rice wine, but the outpost commander wasn't very pleased because it wasn't fresh rice wine. So, his subordinate volunteered to go to Jin's house to get some rice wine, then stood up and left, leaving everyone bewildered. Dongzich, after hearing the situation, still decided not to come and hung up the phone. Just as he arrived in front of the grocery store with the keys in hand, Minung was tied tightly to the table and about to be killed by her father. Not only that, he was cursing Minung, calling her a bitch, and showing his displeasure with her brightly colored fingernails. Dongzich stood outside watching for a while, then decided not to knock but instead pulled his hood up and went for a few laps to clear his head. After finishing his work, Jin Mok started cleaning up the mess in the bathroom. While he was busy, his subordinate rang the doorbell loudly, so Jin Mok quickly locked the basement door and rushed out, dropping the key on the floor without realizing it. After opening the door for his subordinate to get rice wine to take to the party, Jin Mok also received a call from the police chief inviting him over, so he said he would come right after getting the rice wine and hung up. At that moment, Jin Mok noticed the blood still clinging to her fingernails. His subordinate, worried, asked Minute Dung if she hadn't eaten anything. When he tried to go inside to check, Jin Mok quickly stopped him, saying Minute Dung had fallen asleep in the car. Hearing this, the subordinate didn't suspect anything and continued to get the rice wine. Meanwhile, Jin Mok turned his face away and licked the blood off his finger. A little later, Dongzich ran back and decided to ring the doorbell for Minute Dung. He knocked repeatedly but received no answer, so he turned to leave. However, his intuition told him something was wrong, so Dongzich decided to use the key to open the door and go inside. Once inside, he repeatedly called Minute Dung's name but received no response. That's when Dongzich saw the basement key that Jin had dropped. Initially, he picked it up and threw it on the shelf, but after seeing the door leading to the basement, he became curious and used the key to open the door and go down, because he heard the phone ringing incessantly in the basement. After going inside, Dongzich turned on the lights and saw Minung's back towel and phone on the wooden table. Not only that, There were also 10 severed fingers placed nearby. After looking more closely and realizing these were Minung's fingers, Dongzich began trembling and ran all over the house searching and calling out her name. There was no one in the bedroom either. The bathroom was the same, and the towel the girl had used to scrub her back, tied into a bow, had disappeared. At this point, Dongzich helplessly realized he had arrived too late. Just as he was trembling and about to call the police, Minute Dung's phone rang incessantly because a subordinate had sent her a text message, and Dongzich paused when he saw the message. "Your dad said you're sleeping like a log, and told me not to wake you up." Jin Mok said that to him. Just as he finished reading the message, Jin Mok called Dongzich, so he tried to remain as calm as possible to answer and deliberately asked if Minute Dung had arrived home safely. He even lied, saying he was going to the grocery store to deliver something. But as expected, Jin Mo quickly stopped him, saying the girl was fast asleep and he shouldn't go. The more Dongzich listened, the more he tried to suppress his heartache before hanging up. He never imagined that the culprit he had been searching for all this time was right in front of him. As soon as he hung up, Dongzich tremblingly dialed the emergency number. But then he remembered how cases were handled in South Korea. How could a murder case be prosecuted if the body wasn't found? After thinking it over, Dongzich started searching the back of the house, even digging up kimchi jars buried underground, but found nothing. Besides the box containing the illegal resident girl's phone, Dongzich began to recall the immense pain his family had endured after losing loved ones. Even his parents were no exception. Finally, Dongzich could only sit in a corner of the basement to ponder, and decided to create irrefutable evidence that the culprit could not deny. After thinking it over, he stood up, gathered all the evidence on the wooden table, left the convenience store through the side door, and ran home. After putting away the eggs and taking a shower, Dongzich went to the party. After the party ended, he went down to the basement of his house, looked at the evidence, and decided to arrange Minute Dung's fingertips in a row in front of the convenience store. He deliberately led Dugol to the place where the fingertips had been arranged, then burst into tears of pain after suppressing his emotions for so long. Returning to the present, Duzich woke up with a start after a nightmare. He trembled as he looked at his mother and put his hand to her nose. When he saw that she was still breathing, he was both surprised and disappointed. At this moment, a sudden knock appeared at the door, so Dongzich went outside to talk to him and asked why he was there. Juwon didn't answer, but instead asked a question in return. "That's what I should be asking you." He silently left the butcher shop and didn't go home. His phone was switched off and couldn't be reached. Jin Mok called to let me know that he might be here and even praised him as a filial son. I could tell from his expression when he checked his mother's breathing. Was it disappointment or relief knowing she was still breathing? I say this because I understand. Some people are always a burden. Dongzich didn't want to say more, so he sent Dugold away. Jugan said he would return in 3 hours because Jin Mok said he remembered something about the day Minute Dung disappeared, and Jin Mok insisted on meeting both Jugan and Dongzich. So then the two went to the grocery store to meet Jin Mok, who was still pretending that his daughter was alive, and showed Jugan his notebook what he remembered. He even said that the butcher had disappeared for about an hour that night. A little later, Dong Kai and Dugo went to see the butcher to question her. When asked directly where she had disappeared to for an hour, the owner casually said she went upstairs to sleep. She even knew that Jin Mok was the one who had raised this suspicion and thought that because she was grieving the loss of her daughter, she was suspicious of everyone she met. As she spoke, the owner glanced meaningfully at Dongzich. At this moment, the junior suddenly appeared, much to everyone's surprise. He said he was released because Dungda voluntarily surrendered. Meanwhile, the city councillor is furious and causing a disturbance because his son locked himself in a cell. Dungda, on the other hand, remains calm and admits guilt. Since he was the last person to see and talk to Minute Dung, his temporary detention is fair to him, as it would be unfair if only one person were arrested and locked up in fear. Just as he finished speaking, Dongzich appeared and said that someone had reported that he had harmed my subordinate. The police received a black box video that only showed him. Councillor Du then turned to reproach Dongzich, intending to blame him. So Dungda couldn't help but call out his mother's full name and ask her not to say anything more and to go home. After everyone had left, Dungda playfully greeted Dongzich in English. Dongzich, however, said dejectedly, "Enough, you little rascal. You've never been to America and you're already spouting English? Enough playing around, come out here, because I'm sure you're not the culprit." When Dungda curiously asked why Dongzich was so certain, he revealed that he had sent that message to Jin Mok. Just as he finished speaking, the police chief sent a message requesting summons. Jin Mok had just received another message from his daughter. After hearing the news, Dongzich immediately ran to the convenience store to inquire about the situation and learned that this time Minute Dung had messaged, "Dad, I'm in so much pain, please take me away." Furthermore, the last location where the signal was sent was in the reed field. Finally, everyone decided to search the entire town of Manjang. Station Chief Nam reassured and advised Jin Mok not to worry. That night, Zich hurriedly ran to the back of the butcher shop to look for Minung's phone. But strangely, he found nothing except a mountain climbing map circled in red. So Dongzich followed the directions to the locations circled in red. The person waiting there was none other than the butcher's wife. As soon as they met, she said, "Why did you hide it there instead of giving it to me? You stuffed it very carefully in the drawer, even covering it with planks and trash. It took me a long time to get it out. I racked my brain trying to figure out who sent the message, and the only person who would send it without hesitation or fear while surrounded by everyone else could only be Uncle. Thanks to me, no one suspects Uncle anymore. When Dongzich asked for the phone back and why the butcher wasn't afraid of him, she continued to say, I'm not giving it back. I know your life has been so full of sorrow that you can't bear it anymore, which is why you've gone completely insane. Since you're in this crazy mood, can you tell me who drove you mad? Was it Kang Jin who killed Minute Dung? Is he also the one who killed your sister and my mother? Dongzich could only nod sadly, saying yes, please give me back my phone, I'll handle this myself. However, the shop owner still stubbornly refused to pay and insisted on helping, saying, why should only you have to sacrifice? Your life is already complicated enough. I won't sit idly by and endure this in that damn red butcher shop anymore. I accept being hurt to get what I want. I'll be alright because you're here with me. There was nothing else I could do, because before Uncle arrived, I had sent another message to Jin Mok. At this moment, Jin Mok was standing looking at the message that had just been sent. The content was, Dad, goodbye, I'm leaving. After reading it, Mok muttered to himself, how can I leave? Did I give you permission to leave? Just as he finished speaking, DIHOA called to report that they had located a signal at the temple on the mountain, so Jin Mok gradually realized that something was being kept secret. Meanwhile, Jug Gold was sitting and reviewing the information about the butcher shop owner provided by the prosecutor. According to the prosecutor, she had persistently searched for her mother for the past few years and never gave up for a single moment. As Jug Gold was about to leave, the prosecutor read the message that the victim's father had just received, so Dugan turned back to ask where the signal was located, and the prosecutor pointed to the last signal location where the butcher shop owner's mother had gone missing. The next morning, the butcher shop was once again ordered to be searched and confiscated. But this time, the owner was not only unafraid but also kindly made tea for the police force. Dugold was even more confused because Dongzich was assisting in the search in a reed field. While the butcher shop was being searched, a police officer in the team mentioned that Dongzich wouldn't arrive at the party until around 9 p.m, and Dugold realized he had overlooked an important clue. He decided to take a day off and went straight to Mundu police station to meet the head of the serious crime investigation team. After going inside, he immediately closed the door and said, "You're my father's soldier, aren't you?" After saying this, Dugold smiled meaningfully. Immediately afterwards, team leader Quat also called Deputy Minister Han to ask for his opinion before taking action. So he agreed and instructed team leader Quat to follow Du's instructions, but absolutely not to leave any traces. After hanging up, Deputy Minister Han immediately stood up to continue the conversation with Director Lai. Director Lai, however, was visibly annoyed by the two troublesome sons of the Congressman and Deputy Minister Han constantly causing trouble. Director Lai didn't want MU to be famous for the mass murder case. He wanted it to be famous for its urban planning, apartment buildings, permits, and construction. And yet now the police are scouring the entire town just to find a little girl who doesn't know if she's alive or dead. Deputy Minister Han replied that Mu cannot be separated from the serial killer. After hearing this, Director Lai also stood up in frustration, intending to leave, but Deputy Minister Han asked him to sit down and continued speaking. No matter what you do, you can't escape the scandal, so just erase it. The reason the serial murder case surfaced is because it's a long-standing case with no perpetrator found. It doesn't matter who the killer is, as long as they're caught. Meanwhile, I'm in the security room reviewing access data. After verifying that the police chief was unaffected, the staff showed him the data he had accessed. He was also surprised to see that the police chief had accessed the security camera footage in front of the convenience store. Few people knew there were security cameras in that area, but when he clicked on the folder, he found nothing. Doug immediately asked the staff where the camera was mounted, then drove to the utility pole where the security camera was installed, got out, climbed onto the roof of the car, and stood looking across the street. At this point, Gold realized why the police chief was accessing the security camera. It was pointed directly at Jin Mo's convenience store. That night, Jin Mo took an axe into the kitchen, opened the freezer, and mercilessly chopped up a piece of meat. After a while of chopping, what he had hidden in the meat finally came out. A little later, at the butcher shop, the owner was still looking at her family photo album emotionally when Jin Mok suddenly appeared in the shop, even fiddling with the knives on the table nearby. Only when the owner tremblingly said that Dongzich would be arriving soon did he leave the items on the table and say goodbye. After Jin left, the new mistress hurriedly locked the door in fear and tremblingly looked at the hairpin and letter on the table. She slowly took the letter, opened it, and was speechless when she saw the words inside. Next to the stone monument near the swamp 50 meters downstream of the Mundu River. Come and take your mother home. Meanwhile, Dongzich was burning all the old newspaper clippings when Jiwo calmly opened the door and walked in, saying, "Why don't you throw those things in front of the house? They will remind you of the past." Dongzich immediately replied, "Do you mean they're like trophies of murderers? You want to ask me if, for the past 20 years, every time I look at them, I can satisfy myself by recalling the feeling of killing and cutting off their fingers? Oh, is that what you mean?" Dugold began to approach and said, "When I first came in here, I thought so, but at times I briefly thought it might not be so. I don't know anymore, but there's one thing I know for sure. Why did you leave Minute Dung's finger in front of the grocery store? The police chief only has 1 year left until retirement. So why did he delete the security camera footage in front of the grocery store, which is also the victim's home, on the day of the incident? Nobody knew that camera was still working. except for the person who scoured town looking for a senile old man. He thought there were no security cameras around the scene. The moment he realized there was another security camera, he must have been shocked. Perhaps it was because everyone entering and leaving that house had been recorded by the camera. Who could have made Chief Nam delete the security camera data? Was it Chief Nam himself, or someone more important than him? What exactly did that person do in that house on the day of the incident? I will arrest Chief Nam right now. After hearing this, Dongzich immediately concluded that Jugan didn't have enough evidence, so he confidently thought he could fabricate an excuse. Because the higher authorities urgently needed to catch the culprit, whoever it might be. Seeing Dongzich sigh in frustration, Jugan took out his handcuffs and approached. Just then, the butcher shop owner called Dongzich, so he excused himself to answer the phone first and deal with the situation later. On the other end of the line, the shop owner was constantly crying, saying she was looking for her mother. Because Jin Mok had come to the shop and left her mother's hair clip along with a letter indicating where the body was hidden. The shop owner called Dongzich to have evidence for later. If she were to be killed tonight, she only hoped Dongzich could catch the culprit. After hanging up, Dongzich hurriedly tried to leave but was stopped by Du Gold, so Dongzich became furious and yelled at him, demanding to be let out. In that situation, Jugo quickly handcuffed both of them, so Dongzich punched him in the face to bring him back to his senses. After punching him, he started muttering the butcher's name and recalled the strange things Jin Mok had signaled to the police earlier. After thinking it over, Dongzich took out his phone and called Dungda, asking him to quickly go downstream on the Mu River to be with the butcher's wife. Du Gold also realized the problem, so he removed his handcuffs and urgently called the police for assistance. Dongzich ran after him, stopping him from getting into the car and saying, "We won't be going there, I'll explain later. But now we have to catch that bastard. All the victims from 20 years ago until now were killed by Kang Jin. Now we are going to arrest him. From today onwards, no one will have to wait no more." At the same time, the butcher shop owner found the place Jin mentioned in the letter, so she immediately knelt down and dug frantically in despair. At that moment, police sirens blared loudly, and Dungda appeared after being informed by Dongzich. Meanwhile, Jin Mok was leisurely going to the back of the house to carry out his next plan. He looked around before lifting up the bricks. When he found his daughter's body buried underneath, he said, "Minute done, according to your wishes, I will take you away from this house." As soon as he finished speaking, he looked up and saw Dugan slowly approaching. Dugan looked at him with disgust, then walked over, handcuffed him, and said to Kang Jin, "You are being urgently arrested on suspicion of kidnapping, detaining, and mutilating Kang Minung. You have the right to remain silent, hire a lawyer to represent you, defend yourself, and request the court to review the legality of the arrest. Now, give me your hands." Jin Mok, far from being afraid, even asked Du Gold if he came here alone. Du Gold replied that he couldn't possibly be, then looked up at where Dongzich was standing and observing. At this point, Jin Mok muttered a curse under his breath, while Du Gold glared at him with hatred and said, "That's right, from now on, you're in big trouble." Shortly afterwards, the police arrived to calm the angry crowd and escort Jin Mok back to the police station. Even when arrested, he arrogantly told Dai Hua to be gentle because he was afraid of pain, which infuriated Dai Hua, who roughly pushed him into the car. At this time, Chief Nam was pleading with the serious crime team and forensic team to wait a little longer because Dongshish was still sitting there, heartbroken, looking at Minute Dung's body. Du Go was also saddened by the scene, but he decided to regain his composure and boldly walked out to prepare to punish that cold-blooded bastard. As soon as he got outside, Du Go was surrounded by reporters for interviews. Even family members of the victim, Du's son, appeared to ask if they had seen their sister's finger, but Du Goldo was unable to answer the questions at the time, so he refused, further enraging the victim's family and the crowd. He only managed to escape with the help of his teammates. The next morning, news of this shocking incident quickly spread everywhere. Vice Minister Han leisurely watched the news and didn't pay much attention to the message requesting that the case be handed over to the Seoul authorities. After thinking for a while, he called Chief Dung and told him to go into the monitoring room during the interrogation, closely follow the case, and then forward it to headquarters in Seoul. He said he would call back later. Just as he hung up, the military prosecutor arrived. He hastily recounted how Juan had solved the case and how the body had been urgently transferred to the forensic center. Although the results were unknown, external evidence indicated the victim had been chained by the neck. The body of the undocumented immigrant girl also had similar marks, so the military prosecutor believed their initial assessment was correct. Regarding the serial murders that had persisted for 20 years, the reporters scoured everywhere for information, because Juan solved the case right before the Serious Crime Investigation team. Instead of worrying about his son's information being dug up, Deputy Minister Han seemed very pleased because it was a good opportunity to brag. The military prosecutor, seeing this, also assured the press that they would report more about Juan. But there's a problem. The person who solved the case with him is the suspect in the case from 20 years ago, Lee Dongzich, so if it has to be made public, the media will definitely lean towards Dongzich's story. Seeing this, Deputy Minister Han immediately ordered the military prosecutor to find a way to silence Dongzich and to just manipulate Du Gold's information as much as possible, while keeping the case under the jurisdiction of Mundu Police Station. After giving these instructions, Deputy Minister Han stood up to see the guest off. The military prosecutor, once outside, muttered to himself that the first thing to do was to publicly reveal Hanzugen's name. Secondly, the method of solving the case and identifying the suspect must not be revealed. And thirdly, Information about Li Dongzich must not be leaked. If that's the case, our Hanzugen will get a special promotion. He turned his son into a hero to climb straight to the ministerial position. Oh, after saying that, the military prosecutor also tried to call but couldn't get through. While wondering where the young master had run off to, the messenger called to report the results of the forensic examination. At this time, JHOA's side had also received the results and was surprised to learn that the cause of death was due to multiple organ dysfunction leading to cardiopulmonary arrest. This means the heart and lungs stopped beating because the internal organs ceased functioning. It wasn't due to strangulation. After hearing the results, the doctor hung up and tremblingly told Du Wei-H, "Do you remember if there was subcutaneous bleeding on Minute Dung's fingertips when they were found? That means her fingers were severed while she was still alive. I think she was still alive when she was buried." Zhuihua. After hearing this, Du Wei-Hoa was speechless with pain, and Dongzich, after receiving the notification message, trembled with bitterness. He regretted not finding Minute Dung when she was still barely breathing under the earth behind the house. While Dongzich was immersed in extreme pain, that bastard Jin Mok was still leisurely sitting in the interrogation room eating noodles. Even the first thing he said today was, "I'll enjoy my meal." While he was happily eating, Jin suddenly had a bout of nausea, so the inspectors had to rush in and force-feed him to make him vomit. DIHOF felt increasingly disgusted and decided to turn away. But then that jerk opened his mouth and said, "DH, I think I should give up on Minute Dung anyway." Meanwhile, Du Gan, who was at home, received a message from Prosecutor Kuo. He reported the results of Minung's forensic examination and also sent a voice message asking if Gold had any contact with the illegal resident girl so that he could plan how to cover it up. After hearing this, he put down his phone and went to ask the doctor if anyone had claimed Liam HOA's body yet, but so far no one has come to claim it, and if anyone wants to claim it, it has to be a relative with proper documentation, so even if they wanted to take it back for cremation, they couldn't. While we were talking, the police chief appeared and asked Dugan what he was doing there. He said he was with everyone else to retrieve the body of the deceased for cremation. Anyway, the girl had been lying under that cold earth for a long time already. After retrieving the body, the police chief and everyone stood in silent remembrance, watching the cremation process unfold. The subordinate kept sobbing, blaming himself for not being able to do anything, and even had a seizure and fainted, so everyone had to take him outside. Police Chief Nam didn't want the situation to become more tense, so he asked the rest of them to go home and rest. At this point, JHO approached and said she had to return to the office, asking Dongzich and Dugo to go with her, because that bastard Jin Mok was demanding to meet both of them. So, Dongzich and Dugo went to the interrogation room. While everyone in the observation room waited, Dongzich repeatedly banged on the computer case, trying to get the computer to start up. It wasn't until Gold stood up to adjust the wires that the machine could be turned on. Then Dongzich sat down and demanded that Jin Mok confess everything. That cold-blooded bastard began to recount how his daughter had been so stubborn and nagging that it drove him into a rage and he killed her out of sheer anger. And 20 years ago, when Jin Mo was driving around town at night looking for his wife, the victim, Dongzich, got drunk and kept pointing at Jin Mo's wife, calling her a prostitute, even insulting him terribly. As a result, Jin Mo pushed her into his car and chained her by the neck. At that moment, Dongzich's sister happened to pass by and witness the scene, so Jin Mo also dragged her into the car and chained her up. Other victims were also attacked by him in a similar way. From the butcher's mother to the unfortunate illegal immigrant girl, all were women with painted nails who inadvertently pointed at him. While listening to Jin Mok's story, Dongzich calmly typed each word into the report. But when Dongzich asked him who it was, it seemed he wasn't just talking about one person. He needed to specify who it was so that I could write the investigation report. Then Jin Mok sadly replied, "How could you know that? It's all just imagination." Hearing this, everyone in the observation room became even more furious, because this guy absolutely refused to confess and made the search for the victims' bodies even more difficult. At this point, Jin Mok continued to say that those women would repent. Although he was an atheist, people usually repent before they die. Jiwon immediately interrupted, saying, "Are they all guilty? Based on what you said, the victims must have been guilty to repent. If you knew your daughter was innocent, why did you kill her? Kang Bin Dun isn't your biological daughter, is she?" After hearing this, Jiwon began to panic and deny it. He even stood up and shouted, claiming that Du Gold was breaking the law. Only when Dongzich loudly scolded him and ordered him to sit down did he obediently comply. Then he demanded that Du Gold be taken outside because the supervisor wasn't allowed to ask questions. Dongzich just laughed sarcastically and decided to erase the entire record and write a new one. Anyway, it's all just imagination, so there's nothing to be afraid of. He also told Du Gold not to interrupt anymore before starting to ask Jin Mo provocative questions, saying that 20 years ago there were many rumors surrounding his wife. He first met his wife at the Tuyet PVN pub, right? When did he find out she was pregnant? I always thought his daughter didn't resemble him at all. Maybe it's because you're not the girl's biological father. You know that already, right? Dongzich's words reminded Jin Mo of what happened that night. At that time, Minute Dung had angrily told him straight to his face, "You give me goosebumps and I hate you. You pretend to be stupid and live a life of deception, but I know the real terror in his eyes. I understand why my mother left him. If it were me, I wouldn't want to live with him either." After saying this, Minute Dung bent down to pick up the basket, then stood up and said, "Are you really my father?" No matter how I think about it, it doesn't seem right. If you're not my father, why would I live with you? A DNA test would reveal the truth. Because of those words, Jinmo couldn't help but use a towel to scrub his back and treat the situation. After recalling the events, he began to tremble and deny the truth. Dong Shish, however, continued to provoke him relentlessly, so Jinmo went berserk, lunging at Dong Shish and chaining him to the wall. Even so, Dong Shish still smiled maniacally, making Jinmo even more enraged. Seeing this, Dugan immediately grabbed the man's neck and squeezed tightly, refusing to let go. Only when everyone rushed in to stop him did he release him and turn his back, leaving the interrogation room without saying anything. Once outside, Dugan asked Chief Nam for a few days' leave, which Chief Nam readily agreed to. After asking permission, Dugo turned and left with a heavy heart, speechless. Meanwhile, Councillor Du was fuming at losing his title, and Director Lai dropped by to visit and said cryptically, "I came here to sincerely congratulate you, because your beloved son is about to be specially promoted." When the grocery store owner was arrested, her son led a whole convoy of police cars to rescue the butcher. From what I see, her son practically handed the bribe to Dongzich and Juan. But Deputy Minister Han is truly a master strategist. Because this case involves several prostitutes residing illegally, both the Regional Investigation Team and the Foreign Affairs Department are eager to take on the case. If they accepted it, it would be very beneficial for us because the scale of the case is nationwide and it would not affect the Musu planning project at all. But Vice Minister Han stopped it because he was afraid his son would have his credit stolen. He himself gave the instructions to the Mu station and assigned the Western Prosecutor's Office to handle it. The prosecutor in charge was also Jugo's tutor, so she should also worry about her son. Looking at the whole picture, this is a rare opportunity. After hearing this, Councillor Du came up with a new idea, so she immediately went to see her beloved son and asked Dungda to draw someone instead. Drawing Minute Dung would be even better because she would take a picture and post it on social media to express her condolences and gain public favor. When Dungda resolutely refused, Councillor Du knelt down and pleaded profusely. Not wanting Dongzich to steal this special promotion opportunity, Dungda could only helplessly yell at his mother, "Mom, do you want me to die? Please leave Dongzich alone and don't torment him anymore. He's my only friend, so don't touch him." Just as she finished speaking, DIHOA called, so Dung Dai immediately picked up the phone. Councillor Du, being nosy, also leaned in to listen. He only got up and left when his son told him to. After his mother left, Dung Dai asked Diacha what she called about and couldn't help but be moved to tears when she heard her say thank you for saving the butcher's life. After hearing this, Dung Da also anxiously asked how Dongzich was doing, but DIHOA was helpless and said she didn't know, because both Dongzich and Dugan had disappeared without a trace. Meanwhile, Dugan was busy looking for hostesses in bars in Busan, but was kicked out by the madam and mercilessly sprinkled with salt. Dongzich leisurely stood watching and invited Juggo to eat pufferfish soup. Although he didn't want to at all, he still followed and sat staring at the fish in the bowl with a nauseated look in his eyes. It turned out that the police chief had brought Dongzich Tien to eat pufferfish soup because this place sold the best pufferfish soup. Juggo was visibly annoyed because he didn't want to get involved in any complicated romantic relationships, so Dongzich teased him, saying that if he didn't like it so much, why didn't he just cut ties decisively? "Did you come here alone to arrest me? Anyway, I've already confessed everything to you." It turns out that the night before we went to arrest Jin Mok, Dong Shish honestly told Jugan that my family and all the missing people were killed by that bastard. "I'll find where he buried the bodies and bring them out, and you'll be the one to catch him." After hearing this, Du immediately retorted irritably, "Why didn't you arrest him yourself? You knew from the beginning, yet you still played games. You're also a criminal, so you should be punished." Dongzich didn't argue, but instead said, "Find them first. After we find Dushan, you can personally handcuff me. I promise you, finally, I will personally find you to confess." After reminiscing, Dongzich said, "Do you believe my promise? Who exactly is involved here?" Dugold was silent for a moment before replying, "Why weren't you indignant when you arrested Kang Jin Mo at Kang Minung's funeral and in the recording room? I'm just curious because I don't understand. Don't overthink it, because in the end, I'll still arrest him myself." Dongzich replied, "How could I not be angry? I've been close to him for over 20 years. But anger won't solve anything. You should get rid of that angry attitude." "I know, but you don't need to mention the arrest. What other reason do you have to secretly investigate Kang Jin Mo and come all the way to Busan? I've checked Kang Jin Mo's phone location history. He frequently lives in Busan, even the day before Minute Dung died. Now I have a question for you. What exactly are you looking for in Busan?" Rugon immediately said that he was looking for Kang Minung's biological mother, Jun Mihi. Then the two left the restaurant and stood at the harbor. Rugon showed Dongzich the documents he had collected, including the photo of the text message Li Hua sent on the day she disappeared. While Dongzich was looking at it, Juan spoke up, saying, "At first, I thought she wanted to ask the police for help, but it seems that wasn't her intention. I told her to text number 1 if it was the right person. And she texted exactly that many times." 6 years ago, Liu Hoa was arrested for selling flowers at the Masabusan Inn. Because of that, she was deported from South Korea. Among those arrested at that time was Jun Mihi. According to the case file, Jun Mihi used a fake name at work. She changed her name to Hemi. So from that, I conclude the meaning of the message Lee HOA sent was, "Officer, no, that's not it. That's the person looking for me hi." I heard that Jin always keeps a picture of his wife in his wallet, so he goes to massage parlors and uses that picture to find Jun Mihi hi. They weren't legally married, so he couldn't find her legally. Therefore, Jin Mok tracked her from where they first met all the way to Busan. Do you remember how Jin Mok got agitated because his daughter demanded a DNA test? Think about why he would try to find and kill other victims. Dongzich immediately replied that he didn't want Jun Mihi to know he was looking for her and that Jin Mok wanted to find and kill Jun Mihi. So why did he attack Minute Dun? As soon as he finished speaking, Juwon interrupted, saying, "According to the location data from the day before Kang Minung disappeared, King Jin Mok went to the bar with hostesses right in front of us. So, the two of them went into the shop to ask the staff. But no matter how hard they looked, they couldn't recognize Jin Mok's face from when he'd been there. It wasn't until Dongzich showed them a photo of Mihai in Jin Mok's wallet that they realized it was the girl named Cherry who used to work there. And it was true that someone had come here looking for her a few days earlier. Unfortunately, Cherry died last year in a traffic accident." After gathering information, Dongzich and Jugan returned to meet Jin Mo. While he remained arrogant and thought nothing of the consequences, Dongzich calmly asked why he killed Kang Minung that day. Furthermore, the day before, he had gone to the Maria bar in Busan and shown the photos in his wallet to the waitresses to find a woman named Mihi, also known as Cherry, at the Maria bar and Jun Mihi at Manang. That's when he learned about her. She's dead, right? So instead of killing Jun Mihi, you killed Kang Minung, didn't you? Seeing Jin Mok still denying the crime, he interrupted and said he had been searching for the woman who abandoned him for 20 years, but she died senselessly in a traffic accident. He felt so disappointed that it drove him crazy. Then the daughter, who didn't resemble him at all but only Jun Mihai, asked him, "Are you really my father?" He probably thought to himself, "How dare she abandon me? This time, I can't let her get away." Then he chained his own daughter's neck. He used all the pent-up anger he had felt for Jun Mihai for 20 years to chain Kang Minung's neck, right? After hearing this, Jin Mok not only refused to confess but also claimed that he watched too many movies and had delusions, and that Minung was his biological daughter and no one else. He then showed the DNA test results and said, "It seems like that's not right, because the results here state that the two are not biological father and daughter." At this point, Jin Mok went crazy and cursed Jun Mihi for being flirtatious. Meanwhile, Dongzich and Jugan conspired to lie that Mihi was still alive. Knowing that Jin Mok was hunting them, they lied about her death. To further reassure him, Jugan even produced documents and said, "We couldn't find her death certificate. She knew you couldn't verify it because you two weren't married. Perhaps you killed the wrong person." Kan Jin thought the person he wanted to kill was still alive. With that, Juwon also stood up and left the interrogation room, going into the observation room where everyone was anxiously waiting, wondering if Jin Mok would fall into the trap. Everyone agreed with the plan to forge documents to lure Jin Mok because now there was no other way than to bring the dead back to life so that the bastard would confess and quickly find the victims' bodies. At this moment, Jin Mok suddenly spoke to Dongzich, saying, "Dongzich, I really didn't kill Ron, I'm telling the truth." Dongzich didn't want to hear any more, so he stood up and left. But then Jin Mok continued, "I'm telling the truth, not lying. I've already returned Juwon to you. Don't leave yet, because I'll tell you where Juwon is buried, and I'll also tell you the location of the others. Instead, bring me hi to me." Dongzich immediately warned, "Jin Mok, don't lie to the police." So he grabbed Dongzich and whispered in his ear, "Since when have you been a police officer? You're the one who put Minute Dung's finger in front of my door. I found out when you sent me a message." After hearing this, Dongzich replied, "What if I can't find Jun Mihi even after you tell me everything?" So Jin Mok laughed and said, "I believe you'll find her. You want to find Duan's location, right? I'll show you Duan's location when you bring me hi to me." Shortly after, the police also decided to dig up all the houses of the residents in the town. Thanks to this, they found the bodies of the missing victims and also the mother that the butcher had been searching for the past 10 years. After seeing the skeleton, she began to deceive herself, thinking it was impossible for her mother to have been lying there for 10 years. It wasn't until she saw the remaining hairpin her mother used to wear that the butcher burst into tears and collapsed to her knees in agony. At that moment, her mother's image appeared before her, and the butcher sobbed, apologizing to her mother. A few days later, Dugald went to see the military prosecutor to inquire about the search for the body. But so far, the police still haven't been able to find Jan's body. After hearing this, Dugald instructed the military prosecutor to report any news immediately, then went to Dongzich's house and found him sitting dejectedly. Around him were dug holes in the ground. Seeing this, Gold said, "Let's go see Kang Jin Mok. Beat him until he confesses. We must find your sister at all costs. I will help you. After all, I came all the way here to catch you." Just as he finished speaking, Dongzich received a call from JHOA. Ron received a call from Prosecutor Kwok. It turned out that Jin Mok had ended his own life with a fishing line, and before dying, he wrote on the wall in blood, "Dongzich, I really didn't kill Ron." After Jin Moo's death, Dugald was also interrogated by his superior inspector. Although Deputy Minister Han had already set up a trap to prevent his son from being implicated, he still honestly confessed everything about setting a trap without his superior's permission and sending an innocent girl to her death. so Dugald didn't want to receive a special promotion this time. 3 months passed, and every night Dong-zich still sat at Jinmo's house watching the video recordings of Huck smashing up his house with a hammer, clinging to the faint hope of finding his sister. As soon as he saw a red color under the bricks, Dong-zich immediately remembered the ring he had given his sister long ago. He started digging and was immediately disappointed to find it was just a broken piece of red clam shell. In his helplessness, Dong-zich could only hear his sister calling him, but months had passed and his sister's body still hadn't been found. The next day, everyone at the Manjang outpost was lamenting the lack of manpower. Jugan quit his job and disappeared without a trace for several months. Dong-zich became increasingly insane every night, causing constant complaints from the neighbors. Since Jin Mok is dead, the case is closed, so Dong-zich's madness is understandable. While they were chatting animatedly, the police chief appeared and asked Dong-zich what trouble he had caused, so the two of them started pushing the blame onto each other, refusing to tell. Meanwhile, Dong-zich was driving around town with his subordinates, and one of them was constantly worried because he hadn't been able to contact the butcher shop owner for months. When asked about Dong-zich, he didn't answer but just sang aimlessly. Immediately afterwards, he unexpectedly stopped the car in front of a shop because he saw a pile of beer bottles. Dong-zich got out of the car, pulled up the door, and discovered a whole group of people gambling. Seeing that the situation was bad, his subordinate immediately reported it to the police. Meanwhile, Dong-zich lifted the cloth covering the door to check the gambling money and ordered his subordinates to lock the door to prevent the others from escaping. Finally, those aunties were dragged to the police station. At first, everyone defended Dong-zich, saying he was overreacting. But when they heard him analyze the amount of money gambled and ask the casino owner how much he had borrowed to gamble, everyone was shocked and refused to let anyone leave the station. Even Station Chief Nam ordered his subordinates to lock the doors. At that moment, Dugald unexpectedly opened the door and walked in, smiling and remarking that Manjang was still the same, unchanged. Then he locked the door to prevent the aunties from escaping and texted the whole team that the butcher had voluntarily turned herself in at the Mundu police station. JHOA was currently interrogating her. Meanwhile, Dungda had become the head of the security team and was sitting watching the video footage extracted from the security camera in front of the police station. He saw the butcher's wife appear on the evening of the day she died. Meanwhile, in the interrogation room, the butcher's wife honestly confessed everything. She had intended to bring a knife to kill the butcher's wife in revenge, but felt she couldn't get inside, so she left. The reason the butcher's wife voluntarily performed the act was also because she received a threatening letter. Someone sent her the camera footage and threatened to hand it over to the police station. At this time, the police chief and everyone else at the station were also watching the video. While some were discussing whether Jin Mok might not have committed suicide, others were firmly convinced that Jin Mok had taken his own life. Dong-zich, however, didn't seem to care much and simply got up and went outside to do some paperwork. That evening, Dugan remained cheerful as he had dinner with his father. Deputy Minister Han, however, couldn't understand what his son wanted. After disappearing for 3 months, he had decided to return to the Manjang police station to work. While they were talking, Prosecutor Kwan unexpectedly walked in. Dugan excitedly said that he had invited him because, after all, Deputy Minister Han treated him like family. The military prosecutor showed Deputy Minister Han the video from in front of the Mun police station and recounted how the butcher shop owner was filmed. If that's the case, then Jin Mok's case might no longer be considered a suicide. And no one knows where he got the grappling hook from. The more Deputy Minister Han listened, the more uneasy he felt. Meanwhile, Gono remained calm as if nothing was amiss, even advising his father not to worry too much because the ministerial position would eventually belong to him anyway. After saying this, Gono asked Prosecutor Kwan to take his father home, then stood up and left, leaving both of them bewildered. At the same time, Director Lai and Councillor Du were also racking their brains over the case that was about to be reopened. While they are gradually moving forward with the tourism planning project, Councillor Du's appointment of his son as head of security is of no use. Although the mother and son haven't spoken for months, Councillor Du still has his own sources of information, so he's not too worried. Director Lai looked at her meaningfully without saying anything. Meanwhile, everyone was gathered at the butcher shop with the owner. Everyone was silent, not knowing how to start a conversation. Only DIHOA expressed her discomfort, because Dong-zich, Dungda, and even the butcher shop owner were hiding something and didn't want to talk about it. Even when they caught Kang Jin Mok, it was exactly the same, so she felt very uncomfortable that her friends didn't trust her enough to tell her. That's why Dong-zich and Dungda took DIHOA to Jin Mok's house and showed her the video recording of him taking care of Dong-zich's mother. At that time, Dong-zich's mother advised Jin Mok not to take on too much work. After all, he was already working hard renovating his house. Because of that, Dong-zich had been digging up Jin Mok's house for the past few months, thinking he was burying John's body somewhere. After hearing this, DIHOA said that when I learned that he wrote a will leaving everything to you and Minung, and thought about you having to personally clean up and handle the things he left behind, I thought that bastard was truly a psychopath. These people don't deserve understanding or sympathy. If not this house, then which house would he be repairing? Dungda chimed in. To find out all the construction sites where Kang Jin Mok worked, I searched through all the documents, but it's been so long that we couldn't find him. It seems he didn't move elsewhere, but lived his whole life in Manjang. As soon as he finished speaking, Dong-zich apologized to JHOA for keeping the investigation a secret and investigating alone, while also praising and acknowledging her efforts in the serious crime unit. After talking for a while, The group discussed where Jin Mo might have hidden the body and remembered that Jin Mo had worked in the facilities department at a high school and was treated like a servant by the council members. That's also where Dong Zich was with Deng Da on the day Juan disappeared. After that incident, Deng Da's mother decided to sell the land because she feared bad luck, and the person she sold it to was none other than Director Lai. So the next morning, Dong Zich diligently dug up the land owned by Director Lai. Doug was also there to help, even though it was a holiday. When Dong Zich curiously asked Dugan why he had returned, and revealed that he had come back to force Dong Zich to confess. Previously, after hearing that Jin Mok had committed suicide, Dong Zich had decided to abandon everything, including his promise to confess to Zugan. Therefore, Dugan returned once more to force Dong Zich to confess to his crimes. The two of them continued digging diligently with their teammates at Jiang Outpost. After digging for a while, the younger man started trembling and shouting that he had found a body, so Dong Zich also dropped his shovel and ran over to check, only to be disappointed to see the corpse with its fingers still intact. Meanwhile, the male outpost commander ordered his subordinates to quickly call for backup. A short while later, Director Lai was summoned to the police station after a body was found. He still acted arrogantly and taunted DIHOA, even claiming that trespassing on the land without permission was against the law and saying that he wasn't close to Kang Jin Mo. At this time, DIHOA received a message reporting that many bodies had been found on that piece of land, so she sternly demanded that Director Lai write a permit for the search. Director Lai remained silent, not daring to say anything except agree, and was surprised to see Councillor Du's message about finding many other bodies on the land. Meanwhile, Ditch was restless, pacing back and forth with the police chief, waiting for the autopsy results. Seeing this, Chief Nam called the forensic team to hear the preliminary diagnosis and learned that none of the bodies found were under 20 years old. After hearing this, Dong Zich was so shocked he couldn't speak, so he decided to walk home alone for Kue Kwa. As he entered Jin Mok's house, he heard the sound of a recording, and the person watching was none other than Juan. Seeing Dong Zich, Du apologized for not being able to break his old habit. Dong Zich wasn't in the mood to play games because he wasn't in a good mood today, so Juan understood. Because Juan couldn't find Juan's body, Juan said, "I realize you've teased me many times before." He deliberately climbed the mountain and left the black box in the car to see, his purpose being to let the police find Lum Hoa's phone and also to lure me to Kang Minung's 10 fingers. He knew I was a workaholic and could use me. Dong Zich started complaining because Jugan kept following him around and nagging. Rug Gold advises Dong Zich to stop his antics and says they still haven't found the person who gave Kang Jin Mok the fishing line because the security camera there happened to be broken when he committed suicide. It's possible someone gave Jin Mok He's death certificate along with the fishing line, causing him to go mad, swallow the certificate, and then commit suicide. That paper was also found in Jin Mo's stomach. But not everyone has that kind of paper. Only the police or Mihai's family members have it. After all, He is an orphan. Dong Zich immediately interrupted and said, "This time you're accusing me of killing Kang Jin Mo." So Jug Gold bluntly replied, "It wasn't just Kang Jin Mok, he also killed Kang Minute Dung. When he discovered her finger, he didn't report it. He killed both of them, and all this property belongs to him." Dong Zich immediately stood up to see the guest off, not wanting to continue the conversation. Dugan then turned his back and said, "Now Lai Juan is no longer important to me. Do you know that the Chinese characters for Shulu originate from the mythical creature called Jizai? It's a horned beast that resembles a cow. People say its character is very upright. It attacks honest people and tears apart those who do evil. I would do the same to you. It's best not to take advantage of your mother in such a despicable way. Although I know nothing about motherly love, I still know that people shouldn't do that." Dong Zich smiled in response. "I heard your determination clearly. Keep going." After hearing that, Duo also smiled, said goodbye, and left. Dong Zich stood in front of the TV, looking at his mother with a sorrowful expression. Later, he went to the hospital to take care of his mother and accidentally overheard her muttering in her sleep about advising Mo to stop fixing the fireplace at home. When Dong Zich questioned her, she started crying because she had lost her daughter, so he quickly hugged his mother tightly to comfort her. Afterward, Dong Zich left the hospital and went down to the basement. Recalling Jin Mo's cryptic words, he picked up a hammer and smashed the wall in the room. Immediately, he saw Du's ring on her hand, and Dong Zich could only burst into tears, sobbing, "So you've been here all this time? I found you too late. I'm truly sorry." Dong Zich used his bare hands to pry open the wall. Meanwhile, Du Gold was quietly parked, observing Chief Nam, and saw him enter the butcher shop late at night. After going inside and receiving tea from the butcher, Chief Nam said, "I came here because I have something to ask you. How could you disappear for 3 months?" The butcher didn't answer but stood up, intending to avoid him, but Chief Nam grabbed her hand and continued, "The day the black box recorded you, the day you went to the police station, you saw me there, right?" At this point, the butcher shop owner trembled as she looked at the knife nearby and asked if he had killed Kang Jin Mok. Just as the male police chief smiled meaningfully and sinisterly, the team leader suddenly rushed in and arrested the male police chief, saying he was being urgently arrested on suspicion of instigating and assisting King Jin Mok in committing suicide. The police chief silently accepted the handcuffs. At this moment, Dong Zich was still stunned and about to call the police when Diachua unexpectedly called to report the news and asked him to come to Mo Yu station immediately because the police chief had been arrested. The The forensic team was also heading to Manjang Station to seize evidence and found the death certificate and fishing line in the police chief's ledger. Unaware that Jugan was the one who had secretly placed those things there, 3 months before all of this happened, Jugan was living a peaceful, carefree life, not caring about anything. That was until the military prosecutor came and recounted the whole story of what happened in Mondu, about Jin Mok committing suicide in prison with a fishing line, though it was unknown who gave it to Dong Zich, who was then specially promoted to lieutenant, after Juan gave up the opportunity by confessing during questioning. Not only that, the shop owner also disappeared without a trace. Although Rugo was discouraged and didn't want to listen anymore and stood up to leave, the prosecutor still held him back and said that diligent and upright young men like him would be exploited in many ways if they got involved with a madman like Lai Dong Zich. What does this uncomfortable feeling mean? He'll make me feel like nothing ever goes my way. So I got angry and initiated the fight. But in the end, he devoured me and it ended like this. It was unavoidable, wasn't it? How could someone like me, accustomed to being protected, compete with a survivor in the wilderness? Absolutely impossible, unless I died and came back to life. Hearing this, Dugan replied, "You're right, aren't you? It's just a matter of dying and coming back to life." With that, Rugon turned and left, muttering that things wouldn't end here. Meanwhile, the owner of the fish shop was still in Busan, fishing with some aunts at the market, completely unaware that someone had driven all the way to the seaport to find her. Coincidentally, the police chief was also searching everywhere for the butcher's daughter. Upon seeing the police chief, she quickly stood up and ran away. The police chief, however, was helpless, wondering why the butcher's daughter was hiding and refusing to come out. Du Gan, witnessing this scene, was also surprised, but he decided to leave first and then investigate further. That night, Jugo received the video from the security camera in front of Mundu Station and realized that something serious had happened that night. That's also why Juan is currently monitoring Chief Nam and is visibly satisfied that his plan has succeeded. While Chief Nam is waiting for JHOA and Dong Zich to arrive for questioning, they are busy dealing with Du's body in the basement. Dungda also arrived after hearing the news and was surprised to learn that Juan had been here all this time. DIHOA was curious about where Dong Zich had gone, but her subordinates reported that Dong Zich couldn't be found anywhere. At this time, Dong Zich had gone to the observation room to greet Chief Dung and the team leader before going into the interrogation room to talk to Station Chief Nam. After learning that Du's body had been found in the basement, Chief Nam sadly encouraged and advised Dong Zich to go and be with his sister. Dong Zich, however, burst into tears, saying that his sister couldn't be brought back to life, so being with her wouldn't do any good. For 21 years, I've imagined all sorts of scenarios of finding my sister, even thinking at times that she was still alive. Then one day I'll accidentally run into her somewhere. For the past few years, I've imagined finding her urn, this size, among the unidentified bodies. I know she's definitely dead, but I can't give up. But there's a scene I've never imagined, finding Du in my basement. I ate and slept in that house every day, and I looked at that wall countless times. The police chief then tightly grasped Dong Zich's hand to comfort him, but he gently removed the police chief's hand and said, "I thought everything would end when I found Yuan, but it wasn't. You went to Year B, you killed Kang Jinmo, right? The fishing line is the same as the one used when Jinmo committed suicide. The death certificate, identical to the one he swallowed, was also found in the safe in your office. Did you give the fishing line and the death certificate to Kang Jinmo? Did you go to the detention room at the Major Crimes Unit of the Minute U Police Station on the morning of November 10th, 2020? When Station Chief Nam Fu denied all accusations and said it was not true, Dong Zich asked permission to end the interrogation here and stood up. Meanwhile, Station Chief Nam choked up as he apologized for what happened 20 years ago. So Dong Zich also approached him and said, "If you feel guilty, why are you here? I told you not to do anything. Do I have to witness you in danger?" Station Chief Nam reassured Dong Zich, telling him not to worry, because he was innocent and would enjoy a peaceful retirement after he retired. Hearing this, Dong Zich also instructed Station Chief Nam to sit still and wait until the 72 hours were up, then turned and went into the observation room, saying to the other two, "Don't you have anything to say? Nam Sang Bi wasn't in charge of the 20-year-old case alone. You two were also in charge of Lai's disappearance 20 years ago. You two have worked hard, haven't you?" With that, Dong Zich angrily turned and left. He returned to the butcher shop to wait with everyone. The butcher shop owner, not wanting to add to the gloomy atmosphere, invited everyone to eat and encouraged them not to worry, as she believed that the police chief would never harm anyone. At this time, JHOA also came in to show Dong Zich the CCTV footage, thus learning that the police officers on night duty at the station could freely enter and exit the police chief's office because he wanted his subordinates to freely take candy and snacks. According to Chief Nam's testimony, the last time he checked the safe was about 4 days ago. At that time, there was no fishing line or death certificate, and all the police officers at Jiang Station were under investigation. It's strange that a police officer would deliberately fabricate evidence. Not only that, but he also blamed the experienced Chief Nam, even though he knew he wouldn't gain anything from it. After thinking for a while, Dong Zich realized that the most suspicious person was Du Gold, so he immediately fast-forwarded the video to the scene where Juan looked up at the camera and smiled meaningfully. After watching it, Dong Zich also unconsciously chuckled. The next day, Dong Zich decided to go to Du Gold's house to have a serious talk with him. He directly asked if the person was fabricating evidence. because the security camera had recorded Ju-won smiling. Ju-won immediately retorted sarcastically, "Did the security camera only record me? Why are you targeting me? Do you think I could blame the police chief? Mr. Lee Dong-sich isn't as smart as I thought, is he? Does whose actions matter that much? If you came all the way here just to ask that, then I'll answer. Hanzug, I didn't put the fishing line and Jun Mihe's death certificate in the police chief's box at Manjang Outpost. You remind me of something you once said to me. Is that all? Is that all you came here for?" After hearing this, Dong-sich could only sarcastically advise Do-go to do his best, then stood up and left. Do-go countered that he should be the one trying his best. That's how the people of Manjang are. They fight each other to the death among family members. But if the enemy comes to their home, they unite to eliminate the common enemy first. You should be more careful. Don't tell me you also think you're a Manjang person. You only returned to Manjang in 2018, right? For over 20 years, the people of Manjang have never forgotten that you were once a suspect. I don't understand why you think you're one of them. After saying that, Dugan stood up again and continued. The butcher's daughter went to the Mundu police station on some unknown day. But she didn't tell you that and disappeared for 3 months. She only returned to Manjang after receiving the threatening letter. What exactly is she hiding? And what about your secret subordinate? He's the one who stalked Kang Minute, the last person to see her before she died, and he even leaked the news of your emergency arrest to the reporters. He was even captured on security camera footage. Seeing that Dong-sich still insisted that the culprit was standing in front of him, Dugan began to name the people close to Dong-sich and said, "Do you think those people aren't hiding anything from you?" Dong-sich laughed and replied, "Do you think that if you imitate me, I'll be swayed like you?" So Dugan explained, "No, I just hope you're different from how you were 3 months ago. I blindly believed what I thought was right and rushed forward like a moth to a flame. I thought you would be different from me. Was it because I expected too much?" Dong-sich nodded and said, "I see you're trying so hard to make me waver. I'm starting to wonder what will happen when I take action. I still owe you because you were so eager back then. Just wait and see how I play this game of justice you've set up." After the tense conversation, Dong-sich went down to the apartment lobby and called his former colleague in the regional investigation team to ask him to identify the IP address and analyze the data in the attached file. Before his former colleague could refuse, Dong-sich hung up abruptly and quickly sent the document file to him. Meanwhile, Dong-do was soaking his face in the sink, looking up at himself in the mirror and imagining he was back in his youth. He recalled the memory of when she angrily threatened to leave. And at that time, Dong-do did nothing to stop her. After reminiscing, Dong-do stared blankly at himself in the mirror, unaware that his mother had gone to the Mu police station to check on her son out of worry. Immediately after seeing Dong-do's distraught face, Councillor Du rushed to his son Lulai's desk and was speechless when he found the drawings of incense. The next day, Dong-sich went to see the butcher and told her that Ju-won was the one who sent the threatening email. Perhaps he wanted to know what the butcher had seen at the back door of the Monjuo police station that night. After hearing this, she became confused and didn't want to tell the truth, thinking that no matter what, it couldn't have been that person who did it. Dong-sich, however, knew clearly that the person she saw was Chief Nam. Meanwhile, Ju-go arrived at the detention center to pick up Chief Nam. On the surface, he appeared cheerful and friendly as if nothing had happened. It wasn't until the team leader shouted for Chief Nam to bring his jacket and wallet and asked Do-gold to hold them while he unlocked the door that Do-gold took the opportunity to secretly slip the tracking device into Chief Nam's wallet. Afterward, he returned the jacket and wallet, said he had urgent business, and turned to leave. Chief Nam didn't suspect anything and just sadly hung up when he saw Dong-sich calling. Thanks to the GPS device, Jugan was able to follow Chief Nam all the way home. After getting out of the taxi, he walked home while turning off Dong-zich's phone. Even when he saw Dong-zich waiting in front of the house, he changed his mind, turned his back, and got into a taxi and left, so Jugan had to quickly drive after him to the Zon police station. While driving and checking the GPS to find Chief Nam, he accidentally encountered a colleague who was also there visiting an old friend. Not only that, Deputy Minister Han also appeared and pretended to greet Dugold's colleague, then requested to speak privately with him. Although in a hurry, Dugan finally sat in the car and talked to his father, Deputy Minister Han, beginning to express his wishes and begging his son not to pursue this case any further. Dugan immediately refused the request and said, "Dad, stop it. I've been your son for 28 years, and in those 28 years, I haven't even seen you for a year. Dad sent me to England to study when I was 10 and never visited me. Now he's talking about our close father-son relationship. I'm different from the woman who believed Dad's lies, married him, had children with him, and left when I was younger than her." Having said that, Jiwon got out of the car and got into his own. Then they checked the location of the police chief and drove to follow him. At the same time, the city councillor was treating Director Lai to a meal at a Japanese restaurant and hinted at buying over-the-counter tranquilizers. Director Lai, knowing full well what she wanted, immediately said, "Don't worry, just trust me. I've invested all my assets in Mondu, so I can bet my life on it. I'll buy the medicine for you, so please separate your son from that crazy Lai Dong-zich. If he goes digging around and ruins our business again, we'll all be doomed." After saying that, Director Lai also asked Councillor Du to answer the phone because it had been ringing incessantly in his bag for a while now. Meanwhile, Dong-zich went mad after hearing the autopsy results of his sister. Du Wei Hoa, curious, went in to ask the doctor about the results, and they diagnosed that Du had many broken bones, possibly from falling from a height or a traffic accident. Worse still, some madman had run her over repeatedly with a car. Dongzich was in the morgue examining his sister's body and was shocked to see the numerous broken bones all over her body. He then went downstairs and called the police chief. When someone answered, he choked out, "I have so many questions for you. What exactly did you do then? What happened to my sister Du? What are you hiding? Did you really kill Kang Jin?" As soon as Dongzich finished speaking, the other end of the line hung up and the phone was switched off when Dongzich tried to call again. Arrived. After finishing the job, he stood and looked at the police chief lying on the cold, blood-soaked ground. Then he dragged the police chief's body into the car without realizing that an object had fallen out. Just as he drove away, Duo arrived in his car. He got out and started searching around and found a pool of blood nearby along with a voice recorder. Rug immediately picked up the phone and pressed the listen button, but he only heard the melodious singing of the police chief. Following that was the sound of him being suddenly ambushed. At that moment, he heard the sound of a car starting, so he looked at the license plate and quickly got into his car to follow the suspicious vehicle. At this time, Dongzich also had a bad feeling, so he asked someone to locate the police chief's phone. He had just gotten into the car when he called and said something had happened to Station Chief Nam, who had gone to be. "I didn't witness it firsthand, but I heard about it. Through the voice recorder he dropped on the road, I also saw a pool of blood, so he was probably beaten and kidnapped. The suspect was driving an old silver SUV. I only managed to see the license plate with the word pig on it, but I couldn't see the numbers because it was too dark. I'm chasing him on Provincial Road 77 towards Tongmon Town. Here, the suspect's destination is probably the beach. I've attached a tracking device to the police chief. I'm following the signal and I won't lose track of him. I will definitely save the police chief and catch the culprit." Dongzich listened while driving and recalled the familiar words of his former colleague. After thinking it over, Dongzich replied that he would come to help immediately and instructed Juan to be very careful and not to be careless. After hanging up, Dongzich immediately called the police support team and asked them to locate Hanzigan's phone. At this point, the suspect seemed to sense someone was following him, so he stealthily weaved and swerved onto another road, driving Jugan crazy because he couldn't react in time. After arriving at the harbor, Jugan also called Dongzich and moved to the signal. But when he heard gunshots, he couldn't remain calm anymore and rushed to the signal, causing Dongzich to also step on the gas and drive fast. When Dongzich arrived, the police and ambulance were already there. He rushed inside the scene and saw Du Goldo kneeling beside the body of Station Chief Nam. Dongzich couldn't accept this reality and could only pull back the curtain and try to wake Station Chief Nam up. Then he burst into heart-wrenching sobs in Juan's arms. Years ago, when Dongzich's father's funeral was held, Chief Nam was also present to offer condolences to the family. Dongzich, meanwhile, sobbed, expressing his desire to become a police officer, believing that this would help him find his sister sooner and prevent the people here from seeing him as a murderer. The police chief hugged Dongzich tightly and said, "I will help you do that. I will dedicate my whole life to helping you fulfill your wish." After reminiscing, Dongzich realized he was at the police chief's funeral. Dugan stood right in front of him, sadly bowing his head before turning and leaving Dongzich to continue dwelling on the good memories of the police chief. He was the one who went to Dongzich's house when he was depressed after his teammates' actions and locked himself in his cold house with his aching leg. At that time, the police chief said that this guy always had to put on a pathetic face. His partner lost his life because he couldn't protect him, dying in this corner of the house, cold as an ice cellar. Will clinging to this aching leg ever end your suffering? Do you feel guilty for still being alive? Don't feel that way, because being alive is hell. So you must continue living day after day with all your will. And you don't have the right to end your own life. Each day must be lived fully, fulfilling your duty as a partner. That's the punishment you and I have to bear for the rest of our lives. Now take your medicine and come to my house. After reminiscing, Dongzich arrived at Station Chief Nam's house. He looked around at the belongings and coincidentally found Station Chief Nam's real estate contract. It was true that he had intended to sell this house and retire. They even put Dongzich's name on the house after they left. The more Dongzich thought about it, the more bitter he felt, unable to speak. At the same time, everyone was gathered at the butcher shop in the oil shed. As Du Gold entered, Diachua pulled out a chair and invited him to sit down. After a moment of silence, the owner of the butcher shop decided to prepare food for the whole group because Chief Nam never allowed anyone to drink alcohol on an empty stomach, and he always brought unique and exotic snacks for everyone to eat. Everyone was smiling, happy, and full of joy. After reminiscing, each person in the group stood up to raise a glass. After drinking, one person, unable to bear the emotion, left first. The others decided not to chase after him, leaving him alone to think. A little later, the party ended, and everyone went home. Before leaving, Dugold also worriedly asked the butcher shop owner if she was okay being alone and apologized for everything he had done earlier. After hearing this, the butcher shop owner smiled, read the text message on a phone, and asked what to do with Uncle Dongzich. He insisted on going all the way to Trung Tron to buy the fresh fish noodles that Station Chief Nam liked. So Uncle Dungda is going with him, saying he's going to buy fresh fish noodles, but is probably trying to sneak away somewhere. Uncle Dungda knows the address, so you can ask him. Dugo nodded, understanding. He sincerely thanked the butcher for everything. The next morning, Do-go drove to the address Dungda had given him. As soon as he got out of the car, he saw Dungda taking some kind of medicine, so he curiously approached her, worriedly asking about her health and immediately apologizing for asking too many inappropriate questions. Dungda wasn't too annoyed. In fact, she was happy that Rugon had become a little more emotional. He was only sad and worried about Dongzich, knowing that his friend was very distressed. Hearing this, Dugan immediately said, "The incident with Station Chief Nam is my fault. I put him in danger." Dungda countered, saying, "Don't blame yourself anymore. I've blamed myself many times already, so I know. Don't get too deeply involved in it. Get out of it quickly. Otherwise, breathing every day will be a nightmare. Life just goes on while I'm no longer aware of who I am, so you shouldn't set foot in this hell either." When I curiously asked why Dungda had come here, he avoided answering the question and instead talked about Dongzich fishing in the nearby lake. Just drive there following the signs for about 10 minutes. After saying that, Dungda turned and left without saying anything more. So Du-gun went to the lake as Dungda had instructed and found Dongzich sitting thoughtfully, waiting for a fish to bite. When Du-gun asked if he intended to just sit and watch, Dongzich replied that if he stared at the water for too long, he might mistake it for a fish biting or the wind causing ripples on the surface. "If I hastily reel in the fishing rod, the fish will escape. But if I just sit and wait, the fish will swim away too. Should I reel in the fishing rod or not?" Juan bluntly said that if it were him, he would act. Regardless of whether it's the fish or the wind, he would still reel in the fishing rod. After hearing this, Dongzich stood up, turned his back, and looked at Du-go meaningfully. Then the two walked and talked together. Rugon wanted Dongzich to participate in the investigation into the male police chief's cuckold because he didn't want to witness anyone else's cuckoldry. Even if it was Dongzich, Gold wouldn't accept it. He currently suspected Lieutenant Cho and Lieutenant Hoang because he had coincidentally met them in the lobby at Seoul Station that night. Hearing this, Dongzich immediately said, "Leave the reckless, suicidal act of rushing in like a moth to a flame to my flame. As for you, just stay true to your style, be calm and composed. That's your job. Understood?" Du-gan nodded in agreement, then went with Dongzich to meet everyone at the butcher shop. After hearing Du-gold's suspicions, they also started discussing it excitedly. It's noteworthy that both Lieutenant Choi and Lieutenant Hoang lied because Goldon had investigated and found out that neither of them had any friends at the Seoul outpost. Yet that night they conspired to meet a classmate. Another point is that Sergeant Choi has a very close relationship with Station Chief Nam because they've known each other for about 21 years. Although they didn't work in the same department, when a case arose, they all investigated together. After some discussion, everyone in the group divided up the tasks. Dungda took on the task of reviewing the call history. The younger guy and the butcher shop owner monitored the other two. Dewey HOA investigated what happened on the day Jin Mok Chot died. So from then on, the subordinate began closely monitoring Lieutenant Hoang and saw him secretly listening to someone's phone call, then taking a taxi and leaving the station right after his shift ended. Just then, Ms. Hang Thik, the owner of the Hang Thik branch, also drove her motorbike to wait for the subordinate who was following him and was surprised to see that Lieutenant Hoang went to the police department. The two of them secretly followed their target upstairs and saw Lieutenant Hoang talking to someone in a very submissive manner. Only after the person left did he collapse and cry. At this point, the owner of Hang Thik restaurant understood the situation and approached him, asking if he had failed the interview. Because she had been interviewed at many places lately but had been rejected every time, she understood Lieutenant Hoang's feelings. As she predicted, Lieutenant Hoang wanted to transfer units but didn't want to tell anyone because he was still in mourning for his male station commander. After saying that, he also wondered why the two of them were following him, but the butcher didn't answer and just walked away, thinking that all her efforts had been in vain and she hadn't gathered anything. Meanwhile, Dungda had obtained Lieutenant Chow's call history, so he went into the office, pulled the curtain shut for privacy, and carefully examined the phone numbers that had been called on the night the station chief Nam died. After finishing the call, he sat down at his desk and checked the unfamiliar numbers, surprised to see that it was Deputy Minister Han's number. While he was thinking about it, his mother called to bother him, so Dungda irritably told her not to do anything and hung up. At that moment, Dungda considered taking the medicine his mother gave him to calm down, but in the end, he decided to throw it straight into the trash. At this time, Dewey HOA was also meeting Dongzich in front of Mundu police station. After learning that Deputy Minister Han was also involved in this case, Dongzich told Dewey HO that Dugold had directly met with Deputy Minister Han and advised her not to worry because the two of them were worlds apart. Meanwhile, Dugold was sitting in the office waiting for his father and couldn't help but feel annoyed to see Prosecutor Kwan also there because his father had summoned him. At this point, Deputy Minister Han also entered and sat down to talk. Before Dugoldo could even inquire about his suspicions, Deputy Minister Han honestly recounted his meeting with Lieutenant Cho, who insisted on talking about the case from 21 years ago. During their meeting, Lieutenant Cho had said very strange things, such as claiming he was not at fault in the case and was only following Deputy Minister Han's instructions, while Deputy Minister Han had never even met him before, let alone issued such a directive. When Deputy Minister Han curiously asked what the directive was and who had told him, Lieutenant Cho panicked, stood up, and asked Deputy Minister Han to pretend nothing had happened, and not to tell anyone that he had been there. After saying that, Lieutenant Cho also hurriedly left the office in fear. After hearing this, Dugan remained skeptical and didn't want to believe his father's words. Deputy Minister Han continued, "Even if you don't believe it, it's still the truth. What happened afterward was even stranger because the police chief was a man. The deceased that night barged into this office without calling beforehand. He knew that Lieutenant Cho had visited the office and asked if his father was the one who destroyed the forensic results 20 years ago. At the time, his father didn't know what he was talking about, so he just warned him and asked the police chief to leave. When Do-go curiously asked his father why he pretended not to know and shook hands with Lieutenant Cho as if nothing had happened, Deputy Minister Han explained that his father had already told him about it, and that the officer had asked him to forget about the meeting. If Dad knew what was going on, why did he call us both to tell us this himself? Station Chief Nam Sang-bi is dead. If Dad hadn't told us, nobody would have known. When the military prosecutor asked Deputy Minister Han why he called us both here, he stood up and said that someone died on February 5th, and not only that, he was a police officer and a colleague I worked with at the Mundu police station. He was also the station chief where Hansugan worked. Shouldn't we investigate this thoroughly? He mentioned the forensic report, so that could be a clue. Listen, after finishing, Juan still doubtfully asked his father if he was sure, so Deputy Minister Han firmly replied, "I'm a police officer too." Du Gold. After finishing the task, Dugan immediately called Dong Zich to report the situation. It seems Deputy Minister Han really didn't know anything and thought the important thing to do now was to meet with Lieutenant Cho. After hanging up, Dong Zich immediately asked JH what she was doing looking at the camera, so she turned around and said, "There was a car that was towed away, right?" It had a dashcam recording video of Lieutenant Han. I reviewed the video and at around 5 a.m. on November 10th, that car was parked over there, but strangely, there were no cars parked in this lane before and after that time. Looking closer, I discovered that someone had placed a no parking sign in this lane that day. It's possible the sign was put up to prevent anyone from parking here and to avoid being recorded by dashcams. I've also never heard of any security cameras here. While they were talking, JHOA's subordinate came forward and continued. It's true that it wasn't there at first. After the mounting bracket was installed, the building owner said he didn't want security cameras installed, so the bracket was empty. Because only one family lives here. I find this very strange, so let's investigate. Seeing their bewildered expressions, the subordinate explained. I know you two are investigating the character of Chief Nam, right? When Chief Nam was alive, I couldn't even say a single word in English, but to me, Station Chief Nam is like an older brother. I don't want to just stand by and watch, so please let me join in. When Dong Zich and JHO agreed, the younger guy continued to say that he didn't know if he should say this or not. I heard the cell block supervisor say that someone had come to see Station Chief Nam while he was being held in custody. So that evening, Lieutenant Cho was called to the butcher shop, and the butcher advised him to tell the whole truth. Initially, Lieutenant Cho lied, saying he was visiting the police chief because he was worried, but later he confessed that he had been called in by the police chief. Regarding the forensic report from the case 21 years ago, at that time Lieutenant Cho was just a low-ranking police officer, nothing more, nothing less. He was responsible for sealing off the scene and also the one who took Dong Zich's guitar pick for examination. Afterwards, he brought the results back to the then station chief, Nam. But strangely, the guitar pick found at the scene had no traces of anything. After recalling the events, the station chief told Lieutenant Cho, "At that time, I found it very strange because it looked like someone had wiped the guitar pick clean. So, the appraisal yielded no results, all because of that spotless guitar pick. I chained him up and made him live in misery, all because that guitar pick belonged to him. But somehow, the appraisal report for the guitar pick disappeared. You're the one who destroyed it, right? And the report you gave me was fake. You swapped it with the forensic report, didn't you? You orchestrated everything yourself, didn't you?" Lieutenant Cho, upon hearing this, panicked and ran outside. At this point, Lieutenant Cho started to evade the question, saying there was nothing else, so Dugo took out the call history to question him and said he received a message from the police chief and then called Deputy Minister Han's office 3 times. Finally, he made 3 calls to a certain SIM card number. He was accused of harming the recent victims, right? Lieutenant Cho began to panic, saying it wasn't him and he couldn't say it. He didn't understand why the police chief sent him that message. He said there was a copy of the inspection report in the safe in the office, but it had disappeared. I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't the only one who met the police chief that day. It turned out that the person Lieutenant Cho had encountered was none other than Chief Dung. So Goldo arranged a private meeting with Chief Dung to question him, recount what Chief Dung had done, and warn Lieutenant Cho. Nevertheless, Chief Dung shamelessly claimed he did nothing and only stopped by to visit his old friend that night to reminisce about old times. Outwardly, that was his lie, but in reality, Chief Dung was the one who turned off the security cameras in the detention area so that Station Chief Nam could meet and talk with Jin Mok that night. Unfortunately, by the time they arrived, Jin Mok had already passed away. Not wanting to be discovered, Chief Dung quickly pulled Station Chief Nam away. Because of Jin Mok's tragic death, Station Chief Nam believes that he didn't actually kill Du and that Chief Dung was the one who ordered Lieutenant Cho to destroy the forensic report. Chief Dung continues to vehemently deny it, even warning Station Chief Nam to look out for himself first and stop meddling in other people's affairs. Hearing this, Station Chief Nam also restrained himself and requested to be released, promising to forget everything after being released. Chief Dung had just finished reminiscing when Dung spoke up, saying, "Before coming here, I checked the security camera footage from the detention room that day. The two of you talked for 5 minutes and 32 seconds, which is quite a long time. After he left the detention room, the police chief looked up for a long time. He looked at the camera and said something, but it didn't capture the sound. I analyzed the lip movements and recorded it. After saying that, Dugald took out his phone and recounted what the police chief had said. You know who the murderer of Kang Jin Mok is, right? Because whoever kills Kang Jin Mok will also kill me. While Chief Dung was banging on the table in anger, Director Lai was watching footage from the detention room security camera. He had been there on the day Jin died. After watching, Director Lai began to ponder who sent the footage, then stood up and hit a nearby flower pot with a stick, just like how Chief Nam had been hit on the head. And Director Lai himself was the one who killed Station Chief Nam. At the same time, Dungda was having dinner with her mother in a private room at a Japanese restaurant. Seeing her mother so happy, Dungda said that someone was about to come, but before that, she asked, Mom, please tell me the truth. Are you involved in Cin Mok's case? And Station Chief Nam too. Before the council member could even scold his son, Dongzich pulled the door open and walked in. Just then, Director Lai also called, but she didn't dare answer. At this moment, Dugald unexpectedly borrowed Chief Dung's phone and dialed the number he had memorized. Council member Du's phone rang once again, but it wasn't the main phone. It was a secondary phone in her bag. When Dongzich asked about it, she just vaguely said it was a secondary phone for people to contact. Meanwhile, Dugo suddenly pulled open the door and asked why Councillor Du wasn't answering the phone. At this point, Councillor Du saw Chief Dung in the next room and realized that everything had been planned. Dongzich coldly told Dungda that it was okay if he didn't answer the phone. That's not what I want to know right now. Dungda, is breathing and living a nightmare for you? When Councillor Du stood up to speak, Juan blocked him, so he didn't dare do anything. Dongzich continued, saying, What hell are you hiding? Tell me quickly, you bastard. Going back 21 years, Du was lucky to escape Jin Mok after having all her fingers cut off, but she was unlucky enough to be hit by Dungda's mother and daughter's car. Director Lai was also present at the scene. After hearing Dongzich's question, Dungda remained silent, unable to say anything. It wasn't until Dongzich produced the psychiatric hospital's medical record with the councillor's name and SIM card number that Dungda had no way to deny it and admitted that he knew it was his mother's number from Lieutenant Chow's call history. But he truly couldn't remember anything that happened on the day Du died. As he spoke, Dungda had a shortness of breath attack and burst into sobbing tears, so the councillor panicked and hugged his son, suggesting calling for emergency services. She even warned Dongzich that there would be trouble if anything happened to her son. Doug had just called for an ambulance when he saw Chief Dung sneaking away, so he became discouraged and didn't bother paying attention. In the end, Dongzich and Rugo had to watch the mother and son get into the ambulance and leave. Dongzich was increasingly finding trust to be something distant, so Jugan advised him that if he wanted to believe, he should just believe. When the truth came out, then the sadness wouldn't be too late. Dongzich smiled, thinking Go was comforting him and showing concern. Jugan, however, denied it outright and quickly went to the car. Dongzich immediately smiled and followed behind, wanting a ride, and glanced meaningfully at the car parked nearby. After the intimidating couple left, Director Lai dared to lift his head, feeling increasingly frustrated as the situation worsened. He decided to call Deputy Minister Han. But every time he called, Deputy Minister Han hung up. The military prosecutor was also curious, but he remained focused on analyzing his investigation findings to find clues about the forensic report. I reviewed the records of murder and missing person cases from 2000, including the disappearances of Lai Juan and Bang Du-sun. I think the forensic report that the police chief mentioned was the report on the guitar pick found on October 15, 2000, in the reed bed where Bang Du-sun's body was discovered. The investigation report and the archive files of those two cases both record details about the guitar pick. According to the testimony of the person who worked at the coffee shop with the victim at the time, the owner of this guitar pick was Lai Dongzich. That is also the reason he was arrested urgently, but I discovered something very strange. According to the investigation report from Dushan State, no DNA or fingerprints were found on the guitar pick. However, Lai Dongzich had used it at the coffee shop the afternoon before the crime occurred. Even if it was cleaned after use and put back in its case, there should still be some traces left behind. But apparently, they found no traces at all. While other expert reports remain intact, only the report on the guitar pick has disappeared from the investigation file. Who ultimately destroyed that report? It can't be used as evidence in court anyway because there are no fingerprints. Lai Dongzich being arrested for being the owner of the guitar pick is truly illogical. Or perhaps someone wants to cover up negligence in the investigation process. Seeing the military prosecutor's skepticism, Deputy Minister Han said, If I were the one who ordered the cancellation of that expert report, I wouldn't have ordered you to conduct a thorough investigation. And moreover, I also deleted the information related to playing the guitar from the minutes. Still curious, the military prosecutor pressed Deputy Minister Han for the reason he wanted to investigate. Besides the reason of curiosity about the case of Station Chief Nam Sang-bi, Deputy Minister Han immediately replied, My son is probably investigating this case with Lai Dongzich and the police officers working at Manjang Station and also Motu Police Station. It's true that I believe those police officers will investigate thoroughly, but I fear that bias will lead to unfairness in the investigation and harm the reputation of the police in general. Does the prosecutor mean that I asked you to do something pointless? The prosecutor began to panic, saying no and promising to do his best to serve the investigation to the end. Hearing this, Deputy Minister Han also asked him to leave and continued to turn off his phone whenever Director Lai called. The next day, Do-gold saw Dong-zich in front of the police station and immediately asked why he hadn't come to the hospital to visit Dong-da. Dong-zich wasn't interested. He was just pondering the male police chief's denial. He believed the old guitar pick was connected to many people, including Kang Jin-mo and the male police chief. Do-gold said that Kang Jin-mo wasn't a police officer, so he probably knew something more about the guitar pick than the forensic report. The male police chief went to the detention room to see Kang Jin-mo because of that, but since he was no longer in office, he couldn't get any information from him. Did Kang Jin-mo ever witness anything related to the guitar pick? I've looked at the 2000 case files several times. The witness statement about him records that around 4:30 p.m. on the day he went missing, he used that guitar pick in a cafe. When asked if he used it again afterward, he said he didn't know. He also confessed that after using it at the cafe, he put the guitar pick back into the guitar case. After leaving the cafe, he went to the wooden house on the deer farm and stayed there around the time the murder of Bang Do-sun occurred. What intrigues me is why the guitar pick was found at the scene, near where Bang Do-sun's body was discovered. I suspect only Park Dung because he was in the wooden house with him that day. It's also possible that someone tampered with the guitar case. Dong-zich immediately interrupted, stating his argument. I think differently. There was no security camera there before, but now suddenly there's one over there. As soon as he finished speaking, DIHOA also stepped forward to agree and said that the owner of this building is Director Lai, but for some reason, he hadn't answered the phone all morning. Dong-zich then looked at the car parked under the building and said that the license plate was exactly the same as the one he had seen last night. That meant Director Lai was also there. So the whole group went over to question the car owner. But he was just an employee working for Director Lai and had just picked up the car from the maintenance shop because the back of the car was scratched. Meanwhile, Director Lai was on pins and needles in the councillor's office, visibly annoyed as she entered the room. Because she hadn't answered her call since last night, the councillor had ordered her secretary out and was keeping quiet about what had happened the previous night. Only when Director Lai said she knew everything did the councillor reluctantly sit down opposite her and say, I can assure you Dungda doesn't remember anything about what happened 21 years ago. You know I use a SIM card, right? The day I was with you, the day Station Chief Nam died, I answered calls from that number. It turned out the person who kept calling the city councilwoman that night was Lieutenant Cho. He didn't want to die alone, so he told her about being discovered by Station Chief Nam and also showed her the threatening message that Station Chief Nam sent. After watching it, Councillor Du also gave it to Director Lai to read and tell the truth. Actually, it was unavoidable at the time. I couldn't let my son become the culprit. That would ruin our planning project. The police chief's son must have lied because that thing has already disappeared from the face of the earth. I personally destroyed it. When Director Lai impatiently asked what it was, Councillor Du continued. It was a guitar pick that fell near where the body of Bang Do-sun was discovered. It had Dungda's fingerprints on it. Initially, I altered the forensic report to show no fingerprints of Dungda, but I still felt uneasy, so I destroyed the report on the guitar pick as well. After hearing this, Director Lai could only laugh helplessly and say, I never imagined there would be a secret between us for 21 years. What exactly is Councillor Du up to behind my back? Councillor Du retorted sarcastically, You have no right to say that to me. You clearly said you would handle Luzon's body and told us to leave first. I've believed that for 21 years, but how did that girl's body end up in the basement of her house? Now, how should we handle Chief Nam's situation? If this reaches the ears of that crazy chain-wielding guy, we are dead for sure. Director Lai heard this and said that we should nip the problem in the bud first, and I'll show you what perfection is. After the flashback, Councillor Du began to worry about what to do because Dong-zich and Du-gold were gradually investigating the truth behind it all. Director Lai was more worried about Councillor Du's unstable son because Dungda was like a ticking time bomb, not knowing when it would explode. Hearing this, Councillor Du had a bad feeling and panicked, ordering his secretary to go to the hospital for a checkup. But when they arrived, Dungda was nowhere to be seen. While everyone was searching, Dungda was running on the road and almost got hit by Juwon. At that moment, Dung Due could only collapse in fear and mutter to himself, It was the deer. I ran over the deer. Juwon rushed over to ask if he was alright, but Dungda didn't answer and just quickly climbed into the car to escape. Seeing this, Du-gold also hurriedly drove to Dong-zich's house to wait for him. After arriving, Du-gold immediately said to Dung Due, Dong-zich said you could stay in the basement. You were once hospitalized for insisting that you killed someone who looked like a deer, right? Earlier, you also said that you ran over a deer. Dung Dai immediately clarified that he couldn't remember anything except that it was a deer. So Jugan continued, I told Dong-zich that you were lying about your past, but he still didn't suspect you. He told me to calm down and bring concrete evidence. So before there's clear evidence, he won't let me question you first. I didn't believe a word you said at the beginning. But now I'm not going to do anything either. I don't want to jump the gun. The police chief told me that, so I won't repeat the same mistake. And you should quickly remember, escape this nightmare where life is hell, and confess everything to Lai Dong-zich. After hearing this, Dungda was also choked up and couldn't say anything. Then he went down to the basement in a state of turmoil and closed the door to avoid seeing where Du's body was found. Meanwhile, Du-gold arrived at the butcher shop and found everyone gathered. including the forensic doctor who was there to analyze John's body. Once things had calmed down, she described it using a model and said, "I think Lizen was hit by a car. There are multiple fractures in her body, starting from the middle of the bone, from the lower leg to the cervical vertebrae and neck. Did you see that the lower leg bone is broken in two? At the point of impact, the bone is broken in a butterfly shape, most likely due to impact with the car's shock absorber. Both lower legs were fractured at the same height, below the knee. The shock absorbers of the car were about 50 centimeters from the ground. If the car braked suddenly, it would lurch forward and the shock absorbers would also lurch. This would cause fractures of the lower leg bones below the knee. To cause such severe fractures of the shin bone, the vehicle involved must have been traveling at a minimum speed of 45 kilometers per hour, and perhaps Juan was standing still at that time. If she had walked or run, she would only have broken one leg, or the height of the fracture in each leg would have been different. So it's clear that Juan was standing still and looking at the approaching car. After the analysis was complete, the forensic team also left. Dongzich and the others stayed to continue their discussion. When Jugan said he had allowed Dungda to stay temporarily in Dongzich's basement, Dongzich was surprised because he hadn't given permission yet. Jugan thought it was a good opportunity to help Dungda regain her memory. Just as Dongzich was feeling uneasy about not wanting to force Dungda, the butcher's wife spoke up, praising Jugan for doing a good job and advising Dongzich not to be so sentimental and think only of others. Only then can we find the truth about John's name. Dongzich didn't say anything more, but only asked JHOA what she had found, so she immediately took out the documents and said, "This is a copy of the land deed for the building with the newly installed cameras that I found." The person who owned it before and sold it to Direct Ally was none other than the city councillor. She bought it in 1999 and sold it by the end of November 2000. Right after the case occurred, she immediately transferred it to Direct Ally. Since that year, the city councillor has gradually bought up the surrounding land as well. But in the last 20 years, she has sold about 1/3 of it to Direct Ally. Chief Dung and the wife of Lieutenant Cho heard this and understood the issue, saying, "Giving land instead of bribes. There are only two possible reasons for this case. One is being threatened, and the other is being paid for something." When he was at the Seoul Metropolitan Police Department, Chief Dung also accepted bribes, and because of that, he was demoted and transferred to the Monjuo station, so it won't be easy to get him to confess. Sensing something was wrong, Dugan voiced his opinion. Lieutenant Du and Department Head Dung are likely connected to the city councillor and the appraisal report. But why did she transfer the land to Direct Ally? Not only that, but she also transferred it to Lieutenant Cho in 2020, while Lieutenant Cho had followed her orders to destroy the appraisal report in 2000. Transferring the land based on the 2020 appraisal report is very strange, isn't that right? Everyone found it reasonable and started to ponder, concluding that the lieutenant had been extorting money from the councillor for the past 21 years, but there was currently no evidence to prove it. At this point, Du Gold suddenly spoke up, saying, "The day I returned to Manjiang, the lieutenant's wife had already been arrested, right?" Then, the next day, all the gambling women were arrested and taken to the police station for processing by the Economic Crime Investigation Team. The team leader also profusely thanked Duwei HOA for bringing him such a delicious and lucrative opportunity. It turned out that those women had borrowed money from Chinese gamblers, and they were the very gang leaders that the Seoul Metropolitan Police Department was looking for. While thanking JHOA, he handed over a USB containing the transaction history of Lieutenant Du's wife over the past 21 years. JHOA asked him to give Lieutenant Du's wife a lighter sentence, and coincidentally, Lieutenant Cho also appeared and overheard everything. Afterwards, JHOA also took Lieutenant Du to the office for a face-to-face conversation with Dongzich, so Lieutenant Du could only apologize profusely for everything, even offering to resign from his position as a retired police officer because he didn't want to turn himself in and face imprisonment. Dongzich, tired of listening, said, "You know I'll rush in and tear you to pieces, right? You also know that even if I die, I won't forget what you did, right? And you absolutely must not forget the police chief, Nam Sang-bae." Lieutenant Chothai frantically explained, "I'm truly sorry and willing to die, but I only called and sent messages to the city councillor. I don't know why the police chief came to the junkyard that day. The police chief kept insisting on meeting me to talk about the expert report, so I just sent that message back to the city councillor. I could tell you everything, but I can't confess. In the year the crime occurred, I gave her the original and received another copy in return. Then, I brought the fake forensic report to the police chief. I don't know what was inside the real forensic report either because they wouldn't let me open it. As for the councilwoman bribing me for 21 years, it's because she once told me this. Both you and I are suffering because of our children. So I guess there was evidence on the guitar pick proving Dungda was the murderer." After hearing this, both Dongzich and JHOA were speechless. A moment later, Dongzich went back to the basement to put away the hammer, walked over to where Dungda was sleeping, and angrily woke him up, saying, "You're the one who killed Dungda?" Even now, Dungda still says he doesn't remember, and Ding Ning certainly bit a deer himself. Dong Kai, losing patience, interrupted, saying, "Then why was your mother blackmailed by those bastards for 20 years and said she was always suffering because of her children? What does the guitar pick near where the Dushan gang's corpse was found have to do with you? Don't keep saying you don't know or remember. Do you think I've never questioned you before because I wanted to hear this answer? I've never asked why you did it or why you didn't tell me anything. Not even when you lied about being with me the night Minute Dung died. Not even when I knew you were with Minute Dung that night. Not even when I found out you were in a mental hospital for 4 years but lied about studying in America. You witnessed me tearing down the house and the whole process of searching for my sister. But I never let you ask anything. I gave you a chance, yet you absolutely refused to say a word even while taking tons of medicine. You always said I didn't know, I couldn't remember, and I didn't know anything. Dungda started sobbing because she really couldn't remember anything. Dongzich reread Dungda's statement from years ago. Lai Dongzich said you were his close friend, right? Yes, that's right. Do you know the guitar pick that Dongzich used every day? I remember because he showed it to me when he bought it. So, on the 14th, did Dongzich play guitar at the wooden house and did he take out the guitar pick? I don't know. Seeing Dungda starting to tremble, Dongzich pressed him with questions. Do you know Dongzich's sister? And is she dating anyone? Do you have any private contact with Lai Du? Have you ever texted or received messages from Lai Du? Have you ever met Lon privately outside? When asked these questions, you only answered no or that you didn't know. Are you really completely unaware? Answer me quickly.
Pardon de.
In a panic, Dungda recalled memories from the past. Back then, he was the one who texted Du to ask her out that evening. And Joe wasn't happy to see her drunk. Dungda and Du had been secretly dating for a long time. Because she was about to go to America to study, Dungda wanted Du to reveal her relationship with Dongzich. Meanwhile, Du Don wanted Dungda to stop sneaking away from her mother to meet him. Seeing Dungda hesitate, Du Don angrily left. Dungda, annoyed, threw his phone and said he wouldn't go after her to beg. Then he picked up his phone and went into the wooden house. He then played the guitar in his hands while looking at Dongzich, who was sleeping soundly. Next, he stuffed the guitar pick into his pants pocket and took the medicine from his RP bag and swallowed it. As soon as he finished drinking it, Dungda felt strangely lightheaded. When he regained some consciousness, he realized he was driving on the road. Not only that, he accelerated and crashed into something. Dungda trembled as he got out of the car, looked behind him, and saw Du lying motionless. In his fear, he pulled out his phone to call his mother and unknowingly dropped his guitar from his pants pocket. After recalling the events, Dungda painfully said, "It was I who killed her. Duan fell down motionless, and I ran over her. Please kill me, Dongzich." After hearing that, Dongzich also picked up a hammer and slammed it down hard. A moment later, Jugo rushed down to the basement after hearing the news. But when he arrived, he only found Dongzich there. Dungda had already gone home to his mother. Dugold started to get angry, asking Dongzich why he let the person go and what kind of trick he was up to again. Are you planning to use Park Dungda as bait? Haven't you figured it out yet? The police chief has already been murdered, and how do we know who's next? What if the mother and son team up? After all, they're a family with a blood relationship. What if Park Dungda doesn't act according to your plan? Are you still trusting him even though the truth has been revealed? Why hasn't that devilish belief of yours shattered yet? Dongzich immediately retorted, "What about you? If your relatives do something you didn't expect, would you cooperate with them? No. You don't value things like family ties either, do you? So can I trust you? To the point that even when the truth is revealed, my trust in you won't be shattered." Just as he finished speaking, both of them received a message from Dway Hoa asking them to turn on the TV. So Dongzich turned on the TV and saw the news that Deputy Minister Han had officially been appointed Minister of Public Security. He then sarcastically clapped his hands to congratulate Du Gold, and bowed respectfully. Before that, DIHOA and his subordinates had been secretly observing Director Lai in the car because he hated going to the police station the most, yet he had the patience to come here and wait at the police department. According to DIHOA subordinates, Director Lai had also come last year, even going straight into the Deputy Minister's office. While they were talking, Deputy Minister Han appeared, so Director Lai also got out of the car intending to approach and strike up a conversation. But before he could do anything, Deputy Minister Han signaled him not to, and then got back into the car and drove away, leaving Director Lai helpless. He was so angry that he cursed in Russian, while Dway Hoa understood the situation and ordered his subordinates to return to the office. A little later, Dongzich and Jugo received a message from JHOA asking them to turn on the TV. Thanks to this, they learned that Deputy Minister Han had successfully taken the ministerial position. After sarcastically congratulating Jugo, Dongzich said that it seemed like when Dungda hit Juan, the girl was lying unconscious on the road. But clearly, Juan should have been standing when she was hit. He suddenly remembered and confessed all sorts of things like a madman. Could someone like that lie and say they're lying down? Furthermore, Director Lai didn't answer Dway HOA's calls because she had called me earlier and claimed that Director Lai was in contact with Deputy Minister Han. First, Director Lai patiently waited in the police department parking lot, but Deputy Minister Han wouldn't let him get close, which drove him crazy and made him curse in Russian. Secondly, there's the call history of Director Lai's utter helplessness because for the past 3 days he's called the Deputy Minister 14 times but received no response. He also called Councillor Du 8 times. At this point, Jugo curiously asked Dongzich why Director Lai was mentioned. Dongzich bluntly said that there was no such thing as him suddenly appearing here. Councillor Du sold the land to Director Lai for a ridiculously low price, which is why we are all investigating him. I think the hypothesis that Director Lai is connected to Deputy Minister Han is plausible enough for us to suspect him, and that's your expertise. Juan nodded in response. Indeed, there is reason to suspect Councillor Du's involvement in Lion's case, and let's assume Deputy Minister Han and Director Lai are connected. But what does Lai Jian's case have to do with my father? What reason do you have to suspect my father? Dong Zich began to stand up and seriously said that Zhong Yidu had also met with Deputy Minister Han. Although he said he knew nothing, only Deputy Minister Han thought so. You just believe him without any suspicion? Zhong Yidu clearly stated that his superiors had ordered him to do so. If the superior at that time was the head of the Monju police station, then 21 years ago, who was the one who transferred him from the Monju police station's serious crime unit to the Seoul Metropolitan Police Department? It was Deputy Minister Han, who was then the head of the Monju police station, and who was the one who urgently closed the case unusually 21 years ago. It was also Deputy Minister Han. At that time, he was the director of the Mundu department. Not only that, Director Lai has been frantically trying to meet him these past few days. I don't want to suspect your father, but all the clues point to him. Duo immediately replied. So that's why you let Deng De go home? You told him that Deputy Minister Han might be the culprit? Are you crazy? You've completely lost your mind. Having said that, Juan pushed Dong Zich away and angrily turned his back and left. Dong Zich then said, you still haven't answered my question. Can I trust you? To the point that even when the truth is revealed, my trust in you won't be shattered. Dugan turned his back and replied, I don't trust you. I don't trust Deputy Minister Han. I don't even trust myself. I don't trust anyone. So I don't care whether you believe me or not. It's not my business. After saying that, Dugan quickly left the basement. As soon as he got outside, he received a call from his father, so Dugan hesitated, looking around, unsure of what to do. Afterwards, he returned to his private residence to post his father's picture on the case investigation board and began to ponder the relationships surrounding him. Meanwhile, Deng De had arrived home and stood deep in thought, reflecting on his conversation with Dong Zich earlier. After recounting the events, Deng De also cried and wanted to die. Dong Zich, however, adamantly refused, telling him he had to live to catch the person who killed Duong. Dying later wouldn't be too late. Why did your mother give Director Lai money? A month after Duan died, your mother sold the land to him. Do you know why? Deng Ju fell silent for a moment, thinking, then replied. At that time, Director Lai had arrived at the scene because my mother called him to neatly dispose of John's body. We let Director Lai stay to handle everything. Could Du still be alive at that time? Dong Zich interrupted, saying, no, because you killed her yourself. Or it could be Director Lai who killed Du because she should have been standing when she was hit. It's very possible that some bastard stabbed Juan and ran away. Go home and tell your mother for me. Ask her who killed my sister. I was ready to tell my mother about Director Lai and Deputy Minister Han's secret meeting and that they were both hiding something. After thinking it over, Deng De went into the house to see his mother, sat down on the sofa with her, and said, I remember everything now. I ran over Du Eston and called your number. You asked me where I was and came right away. That's also why Mom gave Director Lai money, right? Mom sold both the deer farm and the land in Mundu to him. Mom paid him for handling that accident. It was Mom who called Director Lai there. Mom handed Duan's body over to him, and then sent me to a mental hospital. After hearing this, Councillor Du began to worry and asked his son if he had told anyone else about this. Deng De helplessly asked her mother who killed Du Don, so Councillor Du could only painfully shout that it was a son who killed Du Don. I ran over her, but it was all just a mistake because I was too drunk. Mom has handled everything, so don't worry anymore. Hearing this, Deng De sneered and stood up, saying, Mom handled it? The one who handled it was Director Lai, but how was Duo found in the basement wall of Dong Zich's house? Isn't Mom curious about that? Kanjin Mok is the one who buried Duo. He said he returned Duo to Dong Zich, and that bastard Director Lai didn't do anything at all. He's been deceiving Mom for 21 years, and every time he demanded something, Mom had to give him money and land. But is that all the consequence? Director Lai and Deputy Minister Han are hiding a secret from Mom. They're still meeting privately, and today was no different. Mom always thought she understood everything about them. But is that really true? Are you sure they're not using you? After hearing this, the council member also began to have doubts and ponder. The next day, Dugan went to see his father in a bad mood, and Vice Minister Han was also annoyed that his son hadn't congratulated him. Dugan warned his father not to celebrate too soon because there was still a hearing to attend, and then reported that the guitar pick was indeed Lai Dongzich's. He had reported this on the orders of the city councillor. Du Gold, who had known Deputy Minister Han for 21 years, also said that Chief Deng was the one behind everything, using Deputy Minister Han's name to manipulate Lieutenant Du and extort money from Councillor Du for many years. After hearing this, Deputy Minister Han remained silent, deep in thought. The next day, he summoned Chief Deng to question him and became furious when he learned about the guitar pick bearing the Councillor Du's son's fingerprints and the fact that the original forensic report had been tampered with. Chief Deng immediately reassured them that all the fabricated evidence had been destroyed and the forensic staff were dead, but Deputy Minister Han still insisted on forcing him to resign. At this point, Chief Deng revealed that the camera in the detention room where the murderer was being held had been turned off. This was because the Deputy Minister had requested it in order to be allowed to see him. Even mentioning Director Lai of Jili Construction made him start to worry. Meanwhile, Dongzich and Jugan met at the police station. Dongzich asked if Jugan could handle it if his father was really involved with his sister's substance. But before he could answer, that annoying reporter appeared again. so Jugan decided to spread the rumor about a corrupt official to the reporter. Later, Dongzich received an invitation to meet with Vice Minister Han. At his office, he offered Dongzich a position under his authority to clean up corrupt police officers. A week later, the hearing took place, and everyone in Mondu gathered to watch on television. At this time, an article about Chief Deng receiving bribes was unexpectedly released, but Vice Minister Han calmly explained that it was just a matter of borrowing money and affirmed that he would clean up the police force. Just when they thought they were out of danger, Dongzich unexpectedly appeared as an enforcement officer under Deputy Minister Han and proceeded to handcuff Juan, accusing him of abuse of power and aiding and abetting LHOA's crime. Du smiled at Dongzich, and then both turned to look at Deputy Minister Han, who was standing there dumbfounded. It turns out that he had previously asked Dongzich to arrest him urgently right at the hearing to catch Deputy Minister Han off guard. Dongzich agreed on the condition that Rugon remain silent during questioning. But when investigated, Rugon confessed to all the crimes related to the girl selling the piece. While Dongzich was still surprised, he calmly stated that he didn't need to return to his old position like someone who had broken a promise, so he would accept any punishment given. Finally, Dongzich decided to suspend Juan from his duties, and he quietly left his name tag behind and departed. Afterwards, Juan returned home and witnessed Deputy Minister Han angrily questioning the military prosecutor, suspecting that the two had conspired together. But Prosecutor Kwan also countered that Du Goldo even manipulated his own father. At that moment, Du Goldo entered, sarcastically remarking that Deputy Minister Han was too biased towards Dongzich, even allowing him to run rampant at the capital's police department. Meanwhile, his own son was on the verge of death, and he confessed everything and was suspended from his job, enraging Deputy Minister Han, who kicked his son out of the house. But before leaving, Jugan still said that he didn't want to live like his father. Although perhaps because they shared the same blood, it was unavoidable. That evening, Dengju arranged to meet Director Lai and the city councillor on the bridge for a confrontation. There, Dengju exposed the fact that the murderer had buried Jugan in the basement of Dongzich's house. Simultaneously, there was suspicion that Director Lai was the one who helped him commit suicide, and that he had police backing to turn off the security cameras. While they were talking, Director Lai rummaged through Dengju's phone and found out that Dongzich had overheard the entire conversation. While they were exchanging sarcastic remarks, Mundu police officers also arrived from a distance. Before being escorted away, he vaguely mentioned that he knew a terrible secret of Councillor Du, causing her great anxiety and fear. Even though her son pressed her for answers, Councillor Du refused to respond. Afterward, Dongzich received a message from Jugan arranging a meeting. After hanging up, Jugan immediately asked the butcher for help with something, asserting that he would bear all the consequences himself. While Dongzich and everyone else were examining Director Lai's car but couldn't find any clues because the black box had been disconnected long ago, Jugan appeared as promised and unexpectedly asked Dongzich if he regretted not reporting the murderer years ago and instead moving Kang Minatung's fingertip. If he could go back, would he still do the same? Dongzich calmly replied, "Regret is too much of a luxury, and if I could go back, I would still choose the same path." Rug heard this and immediately recounted the method of setting up a wolf to hunt a rabbit. There were always pursuers and observers waiting from afar for the opportune moment to act, making Dongzich confused about who they were trying to hunt. A little later, Juihoa and her subordinates began interrogating Director Lai, while Dongzich secretly watched from the observation room. Director Lai hastily explained that the matter involved Deputy Minister Han, so the police officer pretended to reassure him that no one suspected anything, then gradually cornered him and set a trap with questions about his relationship with Deputy Minister Han and the OI Construction Company. When the Mun planning project from 2000 was mentioned, Director Lai began to recall old events. At that time, he and the city councillor celebrated with Deputy Minister Han for successfully dealing with the landowners who were obstructing the project. As for the construction of the house belonging to Deputy Minister Han's wife, he was chosen as the contractor as part of a secret agreement. Director Lai even sarcastically remarked that the bidding process was just a charade and that Deputy Minister Han was nothing more than an accomplice of his. After recalling the past, Director Lai fell silent and did not answer any further questions. Team leader Quat didn't understand what was so serious about the three of them knowing each other for 21 years. Dongzich then explained that the important thing wasn't knowing each other, but what they had exchanged. At this point, the subordinates began mentioning Duwei HOA's testimony about Director Lai going berserk whenever he was drunk because of the failed Mondu planning project, constantly complaining about being exploited for dirty work. As for those above, they shirked all responsibility, but Director Lai secretly laughed, denying everything and saying he only made up the story to impress Duwei HOA because he was so infatuated with her. He even emphasized that the project was cancelled before it even had a chance to be tendered due to a series of disappearances and deaths. Then, glancing meaningfully at the observation window, the team leader, powerless to realize he wouldn't reveal anything more. At that moment, Chief Deng stormed into the interrogation room, angrily scolding, then ran to the interrogation room and humbly apologized to Director Lai. Before leaving, Director Lai looked at Dongzich through the glass and told him to forgive each other. Afterwards, he and Chief Deng walked out and encountered Doug Goldo. Both of them laughed sarcastically, suggesting that Gun was afraid Director Lai would betray his father. But Gun only bowed his head and smiled enigmatically. JHOA's group was annoyed and blamed Dugan for tattling, but he coldly asserted that he wasn't on anyone's side, and Dongzich agreed with that. At this point, Chief Deng had seen Director Lai off and hinted that he would call soon, so remember to answer the phone. As soon as he got into the car, Director Lai received a text message arranging a meeting at the textile yard where Juan had been run over, so he immediately understood that the sender was Deputy Minister Han. Initially, Director Lai intended to drive his old car, but changed his mind and called a subordinate to bring another car because he suspected he was being followed. He then drove away from the station, with another car silently following behind. Director Lai Thua knew someone was following him, so he couldn't help but feel frustrated. While he was complaining, Deputy Minister Han called using his SIM card and said he would be a little late, so he should wait. After hanging up, Deputy Minister Han drove away from the house. Another car, parked nearby, also silently followed him. At this point, Director Lai was still trying to swerve and weave, thinking the person following him was Jhoa, even praising her driving skills, completely unaware that Dongzich was in the driver's seat. Deputy Minister Han was waiting for his secretary's call. After learning that the car following him belonged to Dongzich, he began his plan to shake them off. He was completely unaware that the person inside was actually the butcher's daughter. While Director Lai successfully used skillful maneuvering and shook them off, Deputy Minister Han resorted to underhanded tactics, asking the police to check the butcher's daughter's blood alcohol level, registration papers, and driver's license. As a result, she lost track of him and had to call Dongzich to explain the situation. Dhoa was frustrated, not knowing what to do next, while Dongzich thought the two of them must have something very important to discuss privately and silently recalled his conversation with Dugan earlier. At that time, Dugan had said that the butcher's wife would follow the deputy minister in my place, so he and Dhoa should follow Director Lai. Just pretend to follow them, and I'll wait at the place they arranged to meet. But I will definitely call you. I promise to keep in touch with you. After reminiscing, Dongzich muttered to himself, now we have to wait for Juan. Meanwhile, Director Lai and Deputy Minister Han met at the familiar place from 21 years ago. The place where Deputy Minister Han had hit Lai Ron. It turned out that Deputy Minister Han was the one who caused the accident. Director Lai also appeared, signaling him to leave the scene, then turned and walked away, leaving the body behind. When he received a call from the city councillor, he drove there again, thinking to himself that things were getting more interesting. Returning to the present, Director Lai, after leaving his phone in the car as instructed by Deputy Minister Han, got into his car to have a serious talk, completely unaware that Rugon was eavesdropping on everything, through the eavesdropping device he had installed in his father's car. As soon as he sat down in the director's chair, Lai disconnected the black box for safety and demanded that Deputy Minister Han quickly hand over the phone, suspecting that he was the one who anonymously sent the video from the security camera of the detention center, while he himself was the one who sent Director Lai there to kill Kang Jin to silence him. Hearing this, Jugan began to feel uneasy and worried, fearing that his father was involved in many other cases as well. Deputy Minister Han spoke up, saying that it was Director Deng's doing on his own initiative. He asked why I covered for him at the hearing, because he used the security camera footage to blackmail me. After hearing this, Director Lai understood why Director Deng had hinted at it earlier. Deputy Minister Han wanted to eliminate the problem and ordered Director Lai to handle things as usual. Director Lai sighed and said that the most cunning department head was nothing like Nam Sang Bei. It was impossible to lure him to the scrapyard with just a text message. He wouldn't risk his life to show up like Nam Sang Bei. If I hadn't attacked from behind, I probably would have been shot dead. However, Deputy Minister Han didn't seem too concerned and simply asked Director Lai to figure out a way to handle it himself. So Director Lai also instructed Deputy Minister Han to prepare thoroughly for the hearing. Because the police had been asking about the Oi construction earlier, Director Lai wanted this planning project to succeed at all costs. He believed in the backing of the Minister of Public Security and would do his best. When Deputy Minister Han asked him to get out of the car because he had finished speaking, Director Lai continued, "From now on, don't ignore my calls and absolutely do not answer when the councillor calls. She and her son suspect us of killing Kang Jin. She asked me if we were colluding behind her back. If you think it's okay, I'll tell the councillor the truth about why we silenced Kang Jin." Deputy Minister Han started pretending not to know anything, so Director Lai reminded him and said, "I heard an interesting story from Kang Jin Mok on October 15th, 2000. He was here at dawn and witnessed everything." Deputy Minister Han replied, "That scum Kang Jin Mok saw me hit Lai Duan." Hearing this, Duan was so shocked he couldn't listen anymore. The sky then began to pour down rain. While Dongzich wondered why Gold hadn't called or texted, Gold, in a panic, got out of his car, grabbed a baton from the trunk, and walked straight ahead. In his final moments of despair and disappointment with his own father, he heard him say that everything that had happened was just a small mistake and that nothing was impossible to solve. The more Jug Gold listened, the more utterly disgusted he became because his father treated human lives like dirt and was ready to eliminate anything that stood in his way. Even his own son was no exception. While Dugo was still stunned, Deputy Minister Han continued, "Do you know the story of the tortoise and the hare from the collection of fables? The story tells that while the hare was taking a nap, the tortoise slowly and steadily walked without resting and eventually won the game. What lesson do you think was learned from that? It's that as long as the strong don't make mistakes, the weak will never win. Hanzugen is indeed my son, but is more like his mother, always waiting for others to reach out to him first, yet too weak to take the initiative. Even if someone extends their hand, he doesn't dare to take it. He always pretended to be calm, strong, and indifferent. In reality, he kept himself bound like that his whole life, ultimately destroying himself. That's how foolish he is." Direct a lie. I absolutely will not make the same mistake again. If you're curious, just wait and see. After hearing this, Dugald was speechless and regretfully recalled the times he had doubted and accused Dongzich. He just stood there laughing like a madman in helplessness. Meanwhile, Direct a lie was worried, wondering what secret the counselor was hiding. Because on the night he went to the detention center to meet Jin Mok, the murderer had hinted that the counselor was hiding a secret that no one knew. Even Direct a lie, who had known him for so many years, didn't know anything about it, so he suggested that Deputy Minister Han investigate it himself. After the conversation, Direct a lie also got out of the car, while Deputy Minister Han muttered under his breath that they were a bunch of despicable people. After their cars had driven away, Dugald threw the stick he had used to beat Gold on the road and turned to leave. Meanwhile, Dongzich was standing at home waiting for Dugald's call but still received no response, so he decided to try calling him. At this point, Goldon also appeared, soaking wet from the heavy rain, and played the audio recording right where Deputy Minister Han admitted to hitting Ron. After listening, Dongzich became furious and wanted to go find him, but Goldon stopped him and said, "Let me handle it because I will catch him." What good would it do if you met him now? Do you think he will apologize to you with this recording? This is an illegal recording and has no value in court. Even if we release it, he'll still blame Direct a lie. I'll set a trap and become the bait. I'll transform into a monster and drag my father down from the highest peak to hell with me. I'll do this to atone for my sins against you. That's the best way to get revenge on him. If you think I can't do it, feel free to release this recording. Please don't get any deeper into trouble. After saying that, Juan immediately knelt down and said, "I will go to hell." A few days later, at the mayor's house, as she was getting ready to go out, Dungda asked her where she was going. When she learned that her mother was going out to continue her work as a mayor, Dungda became annoyed because her mother was still stubborn and unwilling to voluntarily confess to the crime she had committed. After arguing for a while, Councillor Yuan Du couldn't hold back any longer and said, "For whom did I do those things? For whom did I have to strain myself to hide the matter for 21 years? Yet you still value your friends more than me. Park Young-jae, can you still hear the deers bleeding? When you were little, I used to lock you up at your father's deer farm because I found you very annoying and frustrating. A cowardly son who didn't even dare to look me in the eye. Every time he mentioned seeing a deer or hearing a deer's call, I thought I had driven him crazy, so I resolved to do my best to be a good mother. For over 21 years, I've struggled to live like that. But now I don't want to continue anymore. I've fulfilled all my responsibilities as a mother. I'm not suited to being a mother, but I've lived under that facade for so long. Now I have to find myself again. So, Jungjae, from now on, just keep hearing the promise." Dungda immediately grabbed her mother's wrist, refusing to let go. But Councillor Du resolutely shook her hand off, turned her back, and walked away, leaving Dungda standing there helplessly, dropping the glass of water in her hand. Meanwhile, Dongzich was at the hospital visiting his mother and talking to her. "Mom, do you remember? You always told me this when people compared me to Du. You said it's not necessary to be a great person or a successful one. As long as you're healthy, eat well, sleep soundly, and don't harm others, you can live a fulfilling life. That's what you told me. We shouldn't let him suffer anymore, Mom. We shouldn't let him be ruined like me. Just wait a little longer, because I will definitely catch him." As soon as he finished speaking, Dongzich's mother replied, "Dongzich, remember to eat properly and don't skip meals." Hearing this, Dongzich smiled and nodded in agreement, and because of that remark, he decided to text Du Gun to invite him to lunch. A little later, Du Gun drove to the meeting point and went into the restaurant with Dongzich. And this time, he had to praise the soup at this restaurant. It was delicious, not unpleasant like before. While watching Du Gun eat, Dongzich said, "That night you were crying in the pouring rain, and yet today you are happily eating noodles." Juan immediately denied crying, so Dongzich responded, "Then I guess I misread that recording. I have it saved in many places. If you disappear from my sight, I'll release it immediately." Du Gold was instantly convinced that this wouldn't happen, and then announced that he would be going to Seoul tonight to talk to Deputy Minister Han. So Dongzich also said, "Eat up first. Even in mourning, people will still feel hungry. Nothing is so terrible that you should starve yourself. Even if you're going to hell, you have to eat your fill first." After hearing this, Dugo agreed and picked up his chopsticks to continue eating. That night, Dugo returned home, talked to his father, and played the secretly recorded conversation for him. After listening, Deputy Minister Han immediately smashed his son's phone to pieces with his bare hands. Ro calmly stood up, took a tissue, and said, "What good does it do to smash it, Dad? Do you think I only keep the recording on a phone?" Deputy Minister Han flew into a rage, grabbed Dugo by the collar, and asked, "What do you want?" Go wiped his shirt with a tissue and replied, "I want you to become the Minister of Public Security. Do you think I'll drag you down to the swamp? I'm Hanzug, your son. That ministerial seat should be for me later, shouldn't it? So now, Dad, you absolutely must become the minister, and I will help you. Don't let those despicable people stab you in the back anymore. Shake hands with me instead. You absolutely must become the Minister of Public Security, and don't leave any stain that will affect me later." After hearing this, Deputy Minister Han also took Dugan's hand and agreed. Then, wanting another condition, he immediately said, "I'll delete the recording if you help me with one thing. I want to go back to work at the prosecutor's office right away." We need to catch Chief Dung soon. How long do you intend to let those henchmen stab you in the back? Because you keep using the wrong methods to handle things, you're constantly making mistakes. People like us are allowed to use guns under the law. If you're going to use handcuffs, you should use guns and handcuffs to clear the way. Please reinstate me, Dad. The next day, the hearing resumed after last week's incident. Director Lai was not happy after hearing that Jugan had been reinstated. While Vice Minister Han said he would clear out anyone who stood in his way, Councillor Du was not very happy to learn that Director Lai and Vice Minister Han had met privately again. She also mentioned that there were no more sons standing in her way and brought up Kang Jin to threaten Director Lai. I will definitely become the mayor of Munzu, and to increase my approval rating, I have to implement a plan. What if everything that happened 21 years ago, including that, comes to light? Director Lai began to feign ignorance, so Councillor Du continued speaking in a veiled manner. You haven't heard anything from Kang Jin Mok, have you? If you had, you would definitely know by now. Do you know what you don't know? You don't even understand what I'm saying now, do you? I've known you for over 21 years, so I'm not surprised anymore. It's best if you stop the charade. If this planning project falls apart, I won't let you get away with it. Deal with him and increase my approval rating. I'm counting on you. The council member only left after Director Lai nodded in agreement. Feeling frustrated by being pressured by one person after another, Director Lai received a message from the department head arranging a meeting for tomorrow. The next day, Director Lai drove to the meeting point and saw Chief Dung standing fishing. He put on gloves and took out the small knife he had brought with him. Then he ran quickly to where Chief Dung was distracted and swung his stick. At that moment, Dongzich appeared and shouted loudly, preventing Director Lai from attacking Chief Dung. Dongzich leisurely approached and greeted both of them, asking why they were there. While Chief Dung said they were there to fish, Director Lai lied, saying there was a warehouse nearby and he was just checking on the fishing pond. After talking for a while, Director Lai excused himself and left. Chief Dung was annoyed that Dongzich had interrupted him, so Dongzich whispered to him, I illegally tracked your phone and found you here. I just saved your life. I prevented Director Lai from smashing your head with his stick. Please take better care, Chief, because it's not your turn to be executed yet. After saying that, Dongzich continued to follow Director Lai, demanding to speak with him. Chief Dung, meanwhile, took out his phone and made a call to someone, but when he saw Juan also appear here, he immediately hung up. Du then approached Director Lai and said, I will escort you back to the Seoul Metropolitan Police Department to make sure you don't say anything nonsense. My father is determined to become the Minister of Police, so you'd better keep your mouth shut. Having said that, Juan asked Director Lai to follow him, while Dongzich stood there laughing with amusement. That night, Dongzich and Rug interrogated Director Lai. When they asked him where he was on the day Kang Jinmo and Nam Sangbi died and why his legs sometimes limped and sometimes worked normally, he calmly said that he was at home sleeping and not doing anything, and that his leg was just sometimes hurting and sometimes not hurting. He even asked a counter question, saying he didn't know where Deputy Minister Han was during those days. I don't just want to answer the question, I want to ask more, because I have so much to say. On October 15th, 2000. Specifically, I want to talk about the night of October 14th, 2000. I met the city councillor who was then the director of the charity fund and the father of Lieutenant Henry. Mr. Han Dia-hone was then the chief of the Mundu Police Department. That day we went out for drinks together because of the Oi Construction Company. It was the company of Lieutenant Henry's mother's family. Oi Construction was the first contractor announced in the Mundu City Planning project that we were working on. At that time, Chief Han Dia-hone of the Mundu Police Department said he would come to the drinking session to meet me, and I was very surprised. I guessed he might want me to choose his wife's company. To be honest, the Oi Construction Company was in dire straits at the time. As expected, he asked for my help and asked me not to choose them. Han, you must have seen his hearing, right? He's truly one of a kind, having been an honest police officer for 21 years now. After saying that, Director Lai took out his phone and showed the hearing, saying, Yesterday, when I watched this part, I was deeply moved. In that segment, Deputy Minister Han feigned integrity and condemned those who asked sensitive questions about the victims in the serial murder case. After watching it, Juan became annoyed and demanded that the interrogation be stopped there, but neither Dongzich nor Director Lai agreed. Only after Dongzich gave permission did Director Lai continue. On the night of October 14th, 2000, Deputy Minister Han Ganjua asked me to remove Oi Construction from the bidding process. He had had a bit too much to drink and drank until the early morning of the 15th. He even said he would drive himself home, so I offered to take him back. I even drove him home because I didn't drink much that day. In my true memory, it wasn't like that, but Director Lai lied and said there was a drunk driver that day, and that person was the city councillor. Oh, and Dongzich's sister also went missing that morning, right? I heard that the broken bones in her remains were due to a traffic accident. Honestly, I don't want to blame anyone, but Councillor Du transferred the retirement farm to my company, and there were the bodies of victims killed by Kang Jin there, so I was summoned to the police station immediately afterward. Actually, Jinli Construction only owns the farm on paper, and the real manager is still the councillor. If there's no key, how can the old man freely enter and bury the body there? Du immediately asked curiously if something unexpected happened to the city councillor. Wouldn't the planning project he was promoting fall apart? When he heard Director Lai Chang's concern because the city councillor wasn't yet the mayor, Dong Zich chimed in. So the city councillor is no longer valuable to the planning project. Director Lai also replied, "Why would you say that? Our city councillor also needs rest, and her son is in a mental hospital." It said that Park Dang-de, even though he's a grown man, is still being held captive in a mental hospital by his mother. Does he really know nothing about his friend's situation? Dong Zich, hurry and rescue your friend. After saying that, Dugan stood up and asked Director Lai to leave. Dong Zich agreed and said he would call back later if needed. So Director Lai also stood up and left with a limp. After he left, Dong Zich burst into laughter with amusement. Dugan, on the other hand, seriously said, "It's truly an excellent play where we are not the main characters, but Director Lai and Deputy Minister Han are the main characters. It seems they've decided to remove the council member." After hearing this, Dong Zich immediately called Dang-de, but no one answered. Meanwhile, Du-gold called the military prosecutor to ask him to locate Dang-de's current whereabouts, and also ask him to inform his father. After hanging up, Dong Zich asked who Du-gold called, and he said it was a prosecutor working under his father, then suggested Dong Zich think about why the council member was removed. Dong Zich thought the reason lay with Dang-de, while others believed Director Lai was trying to mislead them. Just as he finished speaking, Dong Zich received news about Director Deng's new position, so he and Dugan immediately went to the director's office and anxiously waited for DHO to knock on the door and call him. After knocking for a while, Director Deng finally came out with a personal belongings box in his hand. When Dugan curiously asked where he was going, he replied, "Didn't your father tell you? I thought I wouldn't have another chance to return to the ministry, but Deputy Minister Han has transferred me to the intelligence department of the ministry." Then everyone went outside to see Chief Deng off. Before leaving, he subtly hinted to Dugan that Lieutenant Han's blood was thicker than water, so he should never forget that. Having said that, Chief Deng immediately got into his car and left. Just as Dong Zich and JHOA were about to follow him, Du-gold stopped them and took a call from Prosecutor Kwan. After hearing Dugan say that he was in the suburbs of Mundu, Dong Zich also asked Du-ho to leave first and they would meet again later. Dugan continued talking and asked where Prosecutor Kwan was, so he said he was at home and signaled to Deputy Minister Han to send a message. Du-gold had just read a message from his father asking him to come home when his phone ran out of battery, so he borrowed Dong Zich's phone and called Prosecutor Kwan to ask about Dangda's whereabouts. As soon as Prosecutor Kwan said that Dangda was at a nursing home in the suburbs of Mu, Deputy Minister Han also received news that he had been appointed minister. Everyone was celebrating this success. Only Dugan was annoyed because he hadn't had a chance to do anything yet. As soon as he hung up, Dugan saw that Chief Deng had sent a message to Dong Zich, asking him to come to his house alone to talk. After reading the message, Dugan put Dong Zich's phone in his jacket pocket and told Dangda that he was at the So Nursing Hospital. "I can't go with you because my father has just been appointed minister. He told me to go home, so I have to go now. You should hurry to Park Deng Jedi's place and I'll contact you later." With that, Du-gold ran to his car and drove away. Dong Zich, bewildered, realized he had taken his phone with him, so he quickly got into his car and drove off to find it. Feeling uneasy, Dong Zich ran towards Chief Deng's private residence, curious to know what he was up to. At that moment, his subordinates had just dropped Chief Deng off at home. He glanced around a bit before leaving. Just as he got outside, JHO arrived in her car to pick him up, so they both remained in the car, observing Chief Deng's movements. The lights inside the house had just been turned off when Du-gold arrived in his car. He got out to ask JHOA about the situation before asking permission to go inside and check things out. Without further ado, Du-gold opened the gate and went inside. He even took out his police baton for self-defense and went inside the house. Just as Du-HOA and his gang were about to go inside because they felt uneasy, Dong Zich also arrived in his car and got out hastily. Because the gate was locked from the inside, Dong Zich quickly climbed over it. As the group rushed inside, they saw Du-gold open the door and step out with blood on his hands. Not only that, he trembled as he said, "Chief Deng is dead. I think I'm the one who killed him." Before all this happened, Director Lai had gone to Deputy Minister Han's house to talk. Initially, Deputy Minister Han was curious about Director Lai's limping leg, so he explained that it was just a disguise and his leg was perfectly fine. Deputy Minister Han also mentioned that they had both been secretly recorded in the refield, but the immediate priority was dealing with those who were getting in their way. Director Lai agreed and decided to use Chief Deng as bait first, and the council member will be the next target. So that night, Chief Deng went into the bathroom cursing Dong Zich for daring to disrespect him by not replying to his message. Just as he was about to call Director Lai, he heard the phone ringing from the bathtub. Chief Deng immediately approached, intending to pull back the curtain. Director Lai quickly revealed himself and subdued Chief Deng. He stabbed Chief Deng fatally in the neck, then pushed him into the bathtub and turned on the water. After that, he left the phone on the sink and quickly left. At this time, she had just driven up to the front of the house. After asking JHOA for permission, he hurriedly ran inside. But when they arrived, they found Chief Deng lying dying in a bathtub. Although Rugo tried to stop the bleeding, it was no use. He just walked out of the house in a daze with blood all over his hands and said that he himself had killed Chief Deng. Afterwards, Dugan was taken to the interrogation room of the Mundu department. Dong Zich reread the message Chief Deng had sent him earlier and said, "Are you Lieutenant Lai Dong Zich? Why are you going there in my place?" Jugan replied, I also want to apologize, but honestly, I don't think I'm at fault. If you went in there, you'd be blamed. I apologize if I made you uncomfortable. After hearing this, Dongzich became even more annoyed and said, So you sacrificed yourself for me? That's truly a deep bond of loyalty. I'm really upset. I also hate looking at your face because every time I see you, I think of your father. But I'm still trying because I know you didn't do anything wrong and I understand the feeling of being treated like a criminal even though you're innocent. So please don't blame yourself and overreact anymore. Try doing something wrong again and see what happens. With that, Dongzich stood up and left the interrogation room. Duwei Hoa, curious, blocked his way and asked him what had happened and why Juggo had said that if Dongzich went in, he would be blamed. Initially, Dongzich was annoyed and didn't want to talk, reminding Duwei Hoa not to overstep her boundaries, until she revealed that she knew Dongzich was the one who placed Minute Dung's finger in front of the grocery store. Even though she knew, she still turned a blind eye and let Dongzich get away with it. And now she receives a warning not to go too far. Dongzich could only apologize and honestly say that 21 years ago, Han Jae-hoon had run over Juan while driving. Dugan recorded him saying that himself. When JHOA demanded the recording, Dongzich said, Give it to me, then what? Besides internal investigation, illegal recordings are worthless. Even though I'm a police officer, when I found the fingers at the scene, I didn't report it. I didn't preserve the original state of the crime scene. I altered it. Jugan knew about it too, but he kept it a secret until now. And he did the same because he understood that some things can't be resolved through law. Now I'm going to try with him to completely delete the recording, but he gave it to me and said I can make it public if I want. But before that, he'll drag his father down to hell with him. He told me not to ruin my life anymore and to let him handle everything. He wanted to atone for his sins so badly that he ran to the chief's house alone. After seeing the message he sent me, I couldn't leave that fool alone. Dior. The next morning, Rugo was released and sent home. After the interrogation, he frantically stood in the bathroom washing his hands, not even bothering to answer the phone when his father called. After washing, he went outside and saw Dongzich sitting there, so he irritably asked Dongzich to leave. Because he didn't like having strangers in his house, Dongzich calmly said, Are you ready to herd the rabbits now, Lieutenant Han? At the same time, Deputy Minister Han was frustrated because he couldn't reach his son by phone, so he turned to ask the military prosecutor what he had found out. The military prosecutor honestly reported that at the scene, they found the phone of Station Chief Nam Sang-bi, who was murdered on the 5th of the month, and the phone had a SIM card that had sent him a text message. They also found an air knife, but it only had the fingerprints of Chief Dung on it. It seems that right before he died, Chief Dung used his phone to text Lieutenant Lai Dongzich. Chief Dung asked Dongzich to secretly come to his house alone. I don't understand why Du Gold was there instead of Dongzich. He also refused to answer any questions. As for Chief Dung's condition, I think he was either murdered or committed suicide. Deputy Minister Han immediately replied, So it was suicide. Because he killed Nam Sang-bi, he felt guilty and committed suicide. His fingerprints are on the murder weapon, so the case can be closed. When Prosecutor Kwan suggested further investigation, Deputy Minister Han interrupted, saying, I've already prepared the meal for you, so you just need to enjoy it. Is that so difficult for you? After finishing the task, Deputy Minister Han called Director Lai using his SIM card and asked why there were unnecessary fingerprints at the scene. Director Lai explained that he intended to frame Dongzich, but for some reason, Du Gold appeared in his place. Deputy Minister Han said he would close the case immediately, so Director Lai should temporarily lie low. As for the planning project, there's nothing to worry about. While they were engrossed in conversation, Director Lai saw a police car and started to get furious because he felt like he was being followed. Deputy Minister Han advised Director Lai to remain silent and he would be released. After all, there was no direct evidence. The two continued talking until JHO knocked on the car door, at which point Director Lai instructed the Deputy Minister to report when he was finished and then hung up. Afterward, he was taken to the interrogation room at the Mundu department. Instead of answering questions, Director Lai just sang aimlessly to Duwei Hoa. He even made teasing remarks, so Duwei Hoa couldn't help but say, Do you know why I married you? Because you only have simple ambitions like building houses and apartment buildings. Do you know why I divorced you? It wasn't because you hid from me the fact that you were previously married and had a child from a previous relationship, but because I was afraid of being devoured by your simple ambition. I just wanted to escape, not be devoured by you and that ambition. So tell me the truth, were you the one who killed Chief Dung? When Director Lai continued to lie that he was still at home that night, DHOA immediately ordered her subordinates to read out the arrest warrant. As the main suspect in Chief Dung's case, even at this point, Director Lai still denies guilt and demands evidence, so DIHOA retorted, saying that since there is no evidence showing he was at home, he has no alibi. Chief Dung had texted him before his death, and the scene at the fishing lake was recorded showing him attempting to kill him. Dongzich also brought the video to Councillor Du and said that Director Lai had tried to kill Chief Dung and his next target could be her or her son. Hearing this, Councillor Du coldly stated that she had no son, so Dongzich sarcastically said that Dungda was still Councillor Du's son in name. If the news about the discovery of the body of mayoral candidate Mun Du's son is published, will she be okay? When Councillor Du suggested that Dongzich mind her own business and not meddle in other people's affairs, Dongzich laughed and said, Auntie, There was a time when I was very envious of Dong Dae. After that scoundrel Dung Da bit my house, you took care of everything and then ran to my house to cause trouble. At that time, my father told her to make Dung Da retract her statement, and she said she was willing to do anything for my child. But because he couldn't say the same thing as her, my father didn't dare look me in the eye afterward. Dung Da used to be very afraid of her mother, while my father and I were inseparable. It was as if my life and Dung Da's had swapped places. I feel sorry for you and your son too. Perhaps you and your son are innocent, but for the past 21 years you've been blackmailed by those bastards. Someone hit Dues Don with a car before Dung Da ran her over. Didn't you know that? Dung Da said he ran over Dues Don while she was lying unconscious on the ground. But the autopsy results show she was hit while standing. Who could the original culprit behind Du's death be? Councillor Du still refused to believe it. So Dongzich told her to go to the Serious Crime Unit of the Mundu Police Department and ask them to show her Du's autopsy report. And where is Dung Du Wei? If the real killer framed and eliminated him, he would become the culprit himself. After saying that, Dongzich also left the office. Meanwhile, Councillor Du hurriedly took out his phone and called his secretary, asking him to transfer Dung Da to another hospital immediately. At the same time, Du Goldo went to the hospital where Dung Da was being treated and disguised himself as a secretary to gain access to the ward. Next, he rescued Dung Du Wei from the mental hospital and put him in an ambulance where the butcher shop owner was the driver. Just as they were about to leave, Councillor Du's group arrived. After driving a short distance, the whole group stopped and got out of the car. The butcher's wife, after instructing Gan to take care of Dung Da in her place, also got into the car so that Dugan could finish the rest. Juan then took out handcuffs and said he was arrested for disposing of Lai Ron's body. But before that, you should confess. Dung Da remained silent for a long time before replying. It's already 21 years too late. Instead of confessing, I'd rather be arrested. With that, Dung Da voluntarily extended his hands to be bound. After the deed was done, Du Go immediately brought the urgent arrest warrant for Dung Da and his mother to the military prosecutor for review. The military prosecutor, as usual, wanted to call the deputy minister first, so Du Go honestly advised him that he was a prosecutor, not a police officer. Why do you keep acting like a dog for the police? Do you think my father really considers you family? I'm only telling you to let go because the rope you're holding onto is rotten. It's rotten to the core and about to break. And I'll be the one to cut it to the very last thread. You're stubbornly clinging on and falling down with it. Let go while you still have the chance. Think carefully and make the right choice. With that, Juan turned and left. A little later, Gitch leisurely carried his baseball bat into the detention area to meet Director Lai. As soon as he saw him, Director Lai was visibly annoyed about being secretly filmed and stated that it was a violation of the law. And Dongzich calmly said that I was ignorant and didn't understand the law. That's why I came to learn from Director Lai Kak so that I could be responsible and do everything properly. You were the one who asked to turn off the surveillance camera so you could sneak in here like a mouse and instigate Mock to commit suicide by giving him the fishing line and the death certificate, right? I don't have real evidence. Just like when you murdered Station Chief Nam Sangbei, Director Lai still arrogantly laughed and refused to admit guilt. So Dongzich used a stick to hit the iron fence as a warning and said, I was planning to use the stick to attack you. You killed my sister and buried her in the wall for 20 years. I must personally kill the bastard who murdered Station Chief Nam. That's true revenge. Director Lai immediately stood up and approached Dongzich, challenging him to kill him. But just as Dongzich was about to swing his stick, Du Gold appeared and stopped him in time. He then asked Dongzich to stop causing further trouble and issued an emergency arrest warrant for the city councillor so that he would have something to do. After Dongzich left, Rugo said he would tell the police to release Director Lai. As soon as Director Lai said that a tiger father begets a tiger son, and that the councillor was finally arrested, Du Gold corrected him and said that the councillor was arrested for bribery, incitement, and complicity in the destruction and fabrication of evidence, as well as obstructing the performance of official duties, violating anti-corruption laws and public servant ethics. Regarding your accusation that she was involved in the deaths of Kang Jin Mo and Ron, we will now begin to question her further about that. A short while later, Councillor Du also arrived at the interrogation room to answer questions. And of course, she had prepared her lawyer and her right to remain silent. Even so, Dongzich calmly said, Can Councillor Du remain silent? First, I will confirm the testimony of your son, Park Dang Jae. Do you know we saved your son? Even if he's insane, that guy definitely killed someone. Don't play the role of the heartless mother anymore. I know you locked your son in the hospital to protect him. Have you seen Du Shan's forensic examination report? Lieutenant Cho, Chief Dung, and Director Lai, for the past 21 years, they've been siphoning off her money. Now that she knows the truth, how does she feel? While Dongzich was busy questioning the councillor, Jay was also questioning Director Lai as a witness in the corruption case involving Director Dung, and Juan would begin immediately after receiving the detention order. At this time, Dongzich was presenting documents to Councillor Du and Bao in the early morning of October 15, 2000, when Dung Da used her SIM card with the last four digits 1234 to call her mother's SIM card with the last four digits 3324, asking for her mother's help. This is the call history between the two numbers, has the ending 1234 and 3324. Here, next to her name, there's a phone number ending in 3324, exactly the same. Recently, she continued using this number. Last night, Lieutenant Cho was summoned and admitted everything. Following instructions from Chief Dung, he handed over the forensic report on the guitar pick found near Bang Do-sun's body to her and received a fake report stating that nothing was found on the pick. Then he handed it over to the inspector in charge, Nam Sang-bae. After Kang Canning Jin Mok was arrested, Chief Nam wanted to know why my guitar pick had fallen there, so he went to the detention room to meet Kang Jin Mok. But why did that murderous bastard commit suicide? And where did everything go wrong 21 years ago? Chief Nam began reviewing the case files and found the answer. So she killed Station Chief Nam? She only copied one forensic report. But why did she let Lieutenant Cho and Chief Dung pursue her for 21 years? What exactly was so special about that guitar pick? And why didn't it fall at the scene of the accident where Dung Ju hit Do-sun, but instead fell at the scene where Do-sun's body was found? Last night I also asked Dung Ju that question, and he honestly said he didn't know anything, and also said that she wouldn't do such a thing and that it absolutely didn't happen. Could this be the important secret that someone brought down to the blind? Did Jin Mok tell her why the guitar pick fell there? After hearing this, Councillor Do immediately recalled a memory from 21 years ago. At that time, Jin Mok had come to borrow the key to the deer farm and mentioned seeing Dung Do driving and hitting Juwon. He was the one who picked up the guitar pick at the accident site and threw it near Bang Do-sun's body in the reed field. Jin Mok even intended to frame Jong Dae for Bang Do-sun's murder. But in the end, it was Dong Zich who was arrested. As soon as Councillor Do tremblingly took out her phone, Jin Mok warned her to put it down. Otherwise, I'll run to the police right now. Councillor Do thought the police wouldn't believe Jin Mok, so he sarcastically retorted that if he just stammered a little, everyone would believe whatever he said. Because they think I'm innocent and naive and don't know anything. Or maybe I should use Dungda to test that. If you don't want that, then quickly give me the key. Time passed, and 20 years later, when Jin Mok came to the office to see him, Councillor Do trembled as he asked, "Have you been continuously killing people all this time? Wasn't the case 20 years ago the only one? What do you want with the key to the deer farm? Could it be that you are the one who killed your own daughter?" Jin Mok turned and replied, "It's because he keeps lying to me and refuses to listen. He keeps badmouthing his mother, and how could she possibly leave me? There's an event for the planning project tomorrow, right? I want to go there to support and promote the project. I'll play the role of the victim's father well, so you should play your part well too. Just keep doing what you've been doing all along." After the flashback, the councillor simply remarked that Dong Zich had a vivid imagination. Dong Zich, however, recounted Dung Da's testimony from the previous night. He tearfully claimed that his mother had allowed Jin Mo to kill indiscriminately for the past 20 years, all because she was worried about her own son's safety. After saying that, Dung Da also slammed her head against the table in pain. Having understood what her mother had endured over the past few years, after hearing Dong Zich's story, Councillor Do could hardly hold back her tears. Dong Zich continued, "Do you think Dung Da can bear it? Dung Da asked me to ask you this question. Is it because of me that you killed Station Chief Nam and Kang Jin? If that's true, I will end my own life." Councillor Do couldn't bear it anymore and burst into tears, sobbing, "No, I didn't do that. I only showed Director Lai Lai's message, but I have nothing to do with the suicide attempt. You heard everything that day at the beach, didn't you? It was all Director Lai and Deputy Minister Han's doing." As soon as he obtained testimony from the council member, Dong Zich immediately called Jugan to inform him. After hanging up, Jugan told Director Lai that he would request a detention order. Director Lai, however, arrogantly claimed that he couldn't obtain one, so Jugan seriously stated that there was solid evidence to believe he was the suspect, and also acknowledged the risk that he might destroy evidence and flee. "Shouldn't I be requesting a detention order?" Meanwhile, Deputy Minister Han received news that the request for a detention order had been approved by the Ministry of Public Security. He was on pins and needles because he hadn't received a reply from Prosecutor General. Only when Prosecutor General called and apologized for being too busy to pay attention did Deputy Minister Han smile and ask Prosecutor General to come see him. But Prosecutor Kwan refused and said, "I'm afraid I can't get through. I just approved the detention order for the city councillor, and she has close ties to you. If I meet you, it could cause problems. I'm also reviewing another detention order, and the main suspect is Director Lai. The minister will surely be furious upon hearing this." But he dared to enter the police station's detention room to incite the serial killer, Jin Mok, to commit suicide. It seems that Station Chief Nam Sang-bae was also murdered by him. They must have evidence to request a detention order. "I shouldn't have told you this, Uncle. I'll stop here now." Deputy Minister Han began to reprimand Prosecutor Kwan. However, he calmly looked at his name tag and said, "Prosecutors are paid with taxpayers' money and have a duty to punish criminals. You should do your duty." After hanging up, Deputy Minister Han became furious at being betrayed. Meanwhile, Prosecutor Kwan sat in his office saying, "You've ordered the prosecutor around too much. I'm getting angry too." After saying that, Prosecutor Han immediately changed the name in his contact list. Instead of the respectful sir as before, he just left the title, nothing more. Deputy Minister Han then decided to call Captain Han at the Zun control room, and Captain Han called Jugan afterward, but he was busy with the interrogation, so he hung up. Seeing this, Director Lai sarcastically said, "You were on Dong Zich's phone just now. Were you two dating? Since you're not interviewing now, you probably didn't record anything, right? Even if you did record, it would be illegal and therefore invalid. The recording you have is the same. I already know you planted a listening device in your father's car to record his conversations. Which side are you on, ultimately? Can you defeat your father? Ji-won calmly replied, "Why should I defeat my father? Let me give you some advice. I'm not the one who should be figuring out who's on which side. In this situation, you're the one who's right." After saying that, Ji-won pointed to his neck, implying the wound on Chief Dang. So Director Lee laughed and said, "My son doesn't like being threatened." Ji-won continued, asking if he knew why his father transferred Dong-sich to the prosecutor's office in Seoul. "To be honest, I still don't understand." Director Lee immediately concluded that Deputy Minister Han did this to keep the enemy close so it would be easier to monitor. Hearing that conclusion, Ji-won could only laugh sarcastically and say, "How interesting. You've known my father for over 20 years and still don't understand him. He's willing to eliminate even his own son. But perhaps because I'm his blood relative, I'm still sitting here. Or maybe the recording saved my life. I don't know why he kept the chains with him. Someone has to take all the blame, right? After all, you were the one driving. You said that in the early morning of October 15th, 2000, you drove in place of my father and took him home. Since that day, my father refused to see him for a long time. My father let him drive him home, and he hit a girl. Maybe he's angry with him? I also heard my father say that he's a lowlife not worth associating with." Director Lee not only didn't believe it but also thought Do-gun was using a scheme to sow discord between them. It wasn't until Gold played the secretly recorded audio and repeatedly showed the deputy minister cursing Director Lee as a despicable scoundrel that Director Lee reacted and sneered. At this point, JHOA unexpectedly walked in and said the detention order was being approved and my subordinates had gone to the court to receive it. "You will have to stay in the cell where King Jin died for another 10 days. At this point, Do-Gold also reported that Captain Han had called, but he knew it was an acquaintance of his father, so he didn't answer. DIHO nodded and said that he had also called her. He said not to be lenient and to handle it according to the law. "Your father is really good at getting rid of people." Because of that, Director Lee began to ponder Duo's words in the detention area. While deep in thought, the detention center suddenly lost power, so the police officer on duty shone his flashlight inside to check, then went back outside to see what was happening. At this moment, the security cameras in the detention center were also turned off, and a figure slowly entered. When Director Lee opened his eyes, he saw Dong-sich standing right in front of him. Before he could react, Dong-sich had already beheaded him. At this point, Director Lee finally became frightened and said, "It was Han Di-hone, not me. I will confess." After hearing this, Dong-sich also stood up and left the detention area. A moment later, Deputy Minister Han, who was sitting and listening to his subordinates report on the situation at the Mondu police station, suddenly asked to hang up the phone. After watching the news, Vice Minister Han immediately turned on the TV to see what was happening and saw a news report accusing him of murder, fleeing, and abuse of power for the past 21 years. There was even an audio recording that Jugan had secretly made beforehand. After watching it, Vice Minister Han could only helplessly hold his head in his hands. Finally, he decided to take out the gun hidden in the iron cage. After drinking some alcohol to muster up courage, he pointed the gun at his head. Just as Deputy Minister Han was about to pull the trigger, Ji-won rushed in and said, "Dad, are you planning to use an illegal gun to commit suicide?" When the hospital called to report Mom's suicide, Dad said this, "Suicide is the worst escape of the weak, so now you're planning to do that?" Deputy Minister Han immediately stood up to refute. "You idiot. Why did you release the recording? Your life will be ruined too." Dugan said without hesitation, "Because that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to go to hell with you, Dad. Now you're happy, aren't you? You've got to sit in the Minister of Public Security chair that Mr. Hang dreamed of." Captain Han immediately pointed his gun as a warning, but instead of being afraid, he defiantly put his head to the barrel. Just as the tension was rising, Dong-sich entered with a gun in his hand. So Rugo approached and demanded that Dong-sich give him the gun. After obtaining the gun, he fired a shot at the ceiling, then pointed it at his father and said, "The first shot was empty, but this one definitely will be. Dad, to kill someone, you have to aim for the heart or the head. But today I don't intend to kill you. Since you have to live to receive your punishment, I'll probably shoot you in the leg or the hand holding the gun." Dong-sich saw that the situation was getting out of hand and spoke up to warn him. But Jugan still didn't listen and demanded that he quickly arrest his father. Hearing this, Dong-sich also approached and was confronted by Deputy Minister Han, who pointed a gun at his head. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't squeeze the grass. So Dong-sich pushed Deputy Minister Han's hand away and said, "Han Di-hone, you are arrested for murdering Lion, causing an accident, and fleeing the scene." He also assisted in disposing of the body and mixing up the crime scene, add the crime of inciting and assisting in the murder of Kang Jin and Nam. As soon as Dong-sich finished handcuffing them, he immediately spoke up, saying that it wasn't his responsibility, but rather assisting King Jin in committing suicide. As for Nam going to be, that's not his responsibility, so the council member will bear the punishment. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Goldon couldn't help but squeeze the grass, but luckily it only hit the glass cabinet, scaring Deputy Minister Han out of his wits. Finally, Deputy Minister Han was escorted to the police station, and he requested to have his face covered after leaving. While Dong-sich was observing from inside the house, Du Gold stared at the photo of himself with his father, then turned it face down because he didn't want to look at it anymore. Then he approached Dongzich and said, "I will resign from the police and accept the punishment. I sincerely apologize for your sister's behavior." Dongzich replied, "No, that's not allowed because you did nothing wrong. If you want to be punished, then accept the punishment for abuse of power in the Lim HOA case and be a police officer for the rest of your life. If you want to be punished, find out what crime you committed. Punishment is for those who commit crimes. Therefore, I must also accept my punishment for the crime of moving Kang Minung's body parts, disturbing the crime scene and hindering the investigation. So please arrest me. If you don't arrest me, I won't confess." Having said that, Dongzich raised both hands in anticipation. Sogun tried to suppress his emotions and said, "Brother Lai Dongzich, you are being arrested for moving the body parts of Kang Bin-dun, as well as obstructing the performance of official duties." Seeing Gun trembling, Dongzich took his hand and smiled. Thanks to that, Duo mustered the courage to take the handcuffs out of his pocket, handcuff Dongzich, and rest his head on his hand, sobbing uncontrollably. Dongzich silently smiled, accepting his punishment. Finally, the perpetrators received their deserved punishment. Deputy Minister Han was expected to receive a sentence of 20 years or life imprisonment. Director Lai received a life sentence for murder. Councillor Du was sentenced to 9 years in prison despite appealing immediately afterward. Her son, Deng De, was sentenced to 3 years in prison but refused to appeal. Dongzich received a 1-year prison sentence and 2 years of probation. And finally, Jugan, who was accused of abuse of power but was very helpful in this case, was acquitted by the court. Years passed, and Dugold visited his mother's cemetery with a bouquet of fresh flowers. He was standing there lost in thought when he received a message from Duwei HOA. Because it was the anniversary of the death of the Nam police station commander, she had arranged for everyone to gather at the butcher shop. After reading the message, Du said goodbye to his mother. Then, standing outside the butcher shop, Chen Chu didn't dare go in. At this moment, the butcher shop owner appeared, smiling, and said, "I'm a representative from the Jiang police station. But you don't work there anymore, do you? You work at the Women's and Youth Organization somewhere in Gang Province, right? Come in, what are you standing here for?" With that, she smiled and waved to Dong Kai. So Jugan also turned around and was stunned to see him because they hadn't seen each other for a long time since that day. At this time, JHO also came out and urged everyone to go inside. So Juan reluctantly went into the shop and sat next to Dongzich and ate and drank comfortably with everyone without fear of being difficult or ill-tempered like before. After finishing their meal, Dugo and Dongzich walked and chatted. As they walked, Dongzich said, "I heard you've been incredibly busy lately, haven't you? Searching for the runaway and disabled people must be exhausting." Dugo replied, "I'm not tired at all. Someone has to go find them, and I feel fortunate to know I can do something." Having said that, Juan received another report and had to leave immediately. He also asked Dongzich to send his regards to everyone before turning around and leaving. At that moment, Dongzich spoke up, saying, "Gugu, remember to eat well, sleep well, and have regular bowel movements. You've worked hard, Lieutenant Hano." After saying that, Dongzich smiled brightly at Jugan. That smile was both pride and relief, so Jugan smiled back and turned to continue on his own path. The film ends here. If you enjoyed the content, please remember to like and subscribe to support Nam Mock Review. See you in other videos.